move, but this was already enough to satisfy him. Is there anything to be dissatisfied with when can eliminate so many annoying flies? The remaining big black-headed flies can still hop around, so let them hop. The demons below have not yet recovered. What was that explosion just now? It unleashed a terrifying destructive power. Stars and galaxies. Within 100 billion light-years turned to dust in an instant. Thousands of high-level demons vanished silently, shocking the world. They simply cannot imagine that such a terrifying existence exists. If it weren't for their timely reaction, they would have long turned to ashes. Could all of this have been caused by the young boy before them? The demon gods looked up. The young boy floated quietly in midair, his figure upright but not burly. His handsome face carried a scholarly aura, as if he were a young student who had just left campus. There was no sign that he was a terrifying powerhouse who had instantly slaughtered nearly 2,000 demon gods. The demon gods couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Could someone with such strength really be killed? Could they really be defeated? Ironically, this group of once incredibly proud demon clan elites, though more than half had fallen, still outnumbered Ling Zhao's faction by far. Yet at this moment, their deep-seated pride wavered, and they began to doubt their own power. This change was exactly what Ling Zhao wanted to see, giving them a bloody lesson. The purpose of this battle had been achieved. Fewer than 20 demon gods quickly gathered, preparing to pool their final strength to confront this sudden killing star. The war had reached this point, and it no longer held much meaning. Ling Zhao possessed the element of space and was equipped with numerous invincible treasures. His combat power was overwhelmingly strong, and the demon gods could not harm him in the slightest. But these 20 supreme demon gods, representing the strongest combat power of the demon race, could each single-handedly withstand the power of Ling Zhao's 2999 elemental explosions. Ling Zhao's strongest strike still could not shake their foundation. This meant the war had reached a stalemate. Neither side could harm the other, and life or death was hard to determine. Yet unwilling to give up, the demon gods found themselves in an unsolvable dilemma. Continuing the fight or retreating both seemed like losing choices. Finally, the demon god leader bowed his head for a moment, closed his eyes in deep thought, and when he opened them, they were filled with murderous intent. The demon race had no deserters, only warriors who died on the battlefield. They collaborated silently, forming an unprecedented charge formation to launch a final fierce attack on Ling Zhao. This charge formation is the strongest formation of the demon race in millions of years, personally assembled by the supreme demon god. Even the demon god himself did not expect it to be used. The charge formation can greatly enhance the combat power of its members, but it is rarely used by the supreme demon god. After all, they are already the strongest, and few can withstand even a few moves. Now, with fewer than 20 of the remaining 2,000 demon gods left, they actually used this charge formation, which they once thought would never be used, as a last-ditch counterattack. It is truly laughable. Ling Zhao suddenly recalled the illusory memories of the desire-extinguishing demon gods in the ruins, which had become the truth behind his century-long battles against the demon clan. He remembered the former glory of the demon clan, remembered countless galaxies trembling beneath their feet. At this moment, a trace of mockery arose in his heart. If those golden bull Dharma kings, old immortal kings, and Kang Yizhenren from the past saw the current decline of the demon clan, with only a handful of demon gods left, what would they think? The more Ling Zhao thought about it, the more ridiculous it seemed. The cycle of heaven and earth, the impermanence of the world, no one can remain prosperous forever. Those demon gods will eventually pay the price for their crimes. His thoughts flowed like a river of time spanning 1,000 years, witnessing various tribes rise from decline to prosperity, and then to decay and extinction. Everything was like a small boat drifting in the sea, without support or shelter. Once glorious, it ultimately became fleeting smoke, vanishing in an instant, like a blooming epiphyllum, beautiful yet brief. Suddenly, Ling Zhao's heartstrings twitched, and his entire aura changed abruptly, as if he had detached from the entire universe and entered a bizarre, abstract, and complex otherworld. This was not just a change in space, but more like traveling through the river of time, witnessing scenes from different points in time. A long-lost system prompt sounded in my ear. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have mastered the time element without a teacher. Ding! Time element fusion in progress. Please wait. Ding! Analysis complete. 6,543.1 billion vulnerabilities found. Ding! Status restored. The time element has fully merged with the host and can be used freely. The system sound had not been heard for a long time, but now it suddenly appeared, indicating a successful fusion. Ling Zhao was secretly delighted. The time element he had been desperately searching for had arrived in such a strange way. It was truly a case of searching high and low with no result, only to obtain it effortlessly. He felt the time element flowing within his body and recalled the wonderful sensation of traveling through the river of time just now. He asked the system in confusion, why is the way of obtaining the element so different this time? The system responded, although called an element, the time element is vastly different from other elements. Other elements are the condensation of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, whereas the time element originates from all living beings' perception of the passage of time and its trends. It is neither material nor spiritual energy, but a mysterious existence that both exists and does not exist. Mastering it requires long years of accumulation and insight. The vast majority of living beings have limited lifespans and find it difficult to comprehend. A few long-lived individuals often hold high positions of power but cannot savor the myriad flavors of life, making it hard for them to feel deep emotions. Only the host, having experienced a century of the desire-extinguishing demon god's life in the ruins, endured the demon clan's wars, and witnessed the changes of Earth and other worlds, can truly fathom this profound mystery. Ling Xiao suddenly understood. No wonder even the strongest demon gods in the demon race could not master the element of time. After regaining his senses, he noticed that the surrounding spacetime had stopped. The fewer than 20 supreme demon gods in front of him still maintained their charging formation, their faces fierce, but they were unable to move. He found it novel and interesting, and did not take the opportunity to kill them. Instead, he casually kicked and struck, playing with these top-tier warriors like puppets. With a fierce stomp on the demon god's face, he savored the thrill of crushing a powerful opponent. He kicked at a group of scoundrel dogs lying on the ground, playing and frolicking, not knowing how much time had passed before he was satisfied. Condensing the element of destruction, a black longsword suddenly appeared in hand. The blade resembled a hellfire demon sword, radiating an overwhelming pressure capable of annihilating heaven and earth. Ling Xiao dared not be careless, pouring all his destructive power into the strike to ensure the sword would be fatal. He shouted loudly and thrust his long sword straight at the demon god in front of him. Heart. The sword tip stabbed at the demon god's chest, as hard as a bronze wall and iron fortress, without the slightest flaw, completely impenetrable. Ling Xiao sneered coldly in his heart. As expected, demon gods are not easy to kill. Even if they are paralyzed and at the mercy of others, ordinary weapons cannot kill them. To kill them, one must have a world-shaking divine weapon. There was no such powerful weapon nearby, but he refused to give up, searching through all the elements in his body, even testing the power of space and time elements. The demon race is naturally close to elements, almost immune to elemental attacks, especially such a supreme demon god. The effect is even more obvious. Ordinary people would die from a touch of elements, but on them, elemental power was completely useless. Ling Xiao had no choice but to temporarily give up the attack, his sharp gaze sweeping over the demon gods before him, a silent fury burning in his heart. Such a great opportunity, yet powerless to seize it, truly frustrating. Helpless, he sat down and closed his eyes, using the time-stopping moment to fully merge the power within his body and enhance his strength. In the rush of this period, he had never properly felt the potential within him. Now, feeling it carefully, he was surprised by his own strength. Surging spiritual power, magical power, intertwined with vitality, surrounded by elemental forces, plus the top-level skill Tianmo Luling Slash. In an instant, he felt invincible in the world, unstoppable by anyone. Pride surged in his heart, a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. When I say I am the #1 genius in the world, it's no exaggeration. Taking advantage of the safe time, he fused every ounce of strength within his body to the extreme. His power soared to the 9th heaven of the Divine King realm, and his combat strength reached the 8th heaven of the Immortal realm. There are very few in the world who can harm him. Even if 20 demon gods charged together, he could still withstand them, at most ending in a stalemate. What level of terrifying combat power is this? He alone destroyed the demon race that once dominated the universe. If this news spreads, it will surely astonish the world, especially those who understand the history of the demon race. They will undoubtedly worship him as a god. It is only natural, after all, those who claim to be gods, the demon gods, all died at his hands. After finishing, he lazily stretched, adding a touch of languor to his demeanor. The long-lost tranquility returned. He looked at the still demon gods and said lightly, "Consider yourselves lucky today. Once I get the god-slaying tower, I'll come back to destroy you. Goodbye, everyone." With that, he turned and left the ancient universe. The cultivation of spatial elements had reached its peak, and he could actually perceive the boundary between the ancient universe and the outer universe. That seal blocked everything. He deeply understood the power of the seal. No wonder the demon god was trapped inside, unable to escape. Silently amazed, he pondered whether he could currently wield such a powerful seal. The answer is no. Although the elements had fused with him, time was still needed to become proficient and accumulate experience. Even with exceptional talent, he was still a novice when he first began learning the elements. Like two souls perfectly attuned, they were still strangers upon first meeting and needed time to adjust. Ling Xiao was full of patience and confidence. If anyone can master the elements to the utmost, it will surely be me. Leaving the ancient universe and returning to the outer universe, Ling Xiao took a deep breath, sensing a faint sweetness in the air. After spending a long time in the demon world, it really feels oppressive. He took several deep breaths and suddenly remembered his original hometown, the Milky Way galaxy. He thought of his former school, Kaiyun City, and that younger sister. He had left there long ago, but never forgot it in his heart. Now, he finally had the ability to return, restore the entire Milky Way, revive those relatives and friends, and rebuild the prosperity of his hometown. He suddenly realized that he was far from strong. The enemy stood right before him, unable to move, yet he could not personally end their lives. There was no way to exact revenge. To resurrect loved ones and rebuild the homeland, a long wait was necessary, until his power reached its peak. If in the future someone dared to invade his home again, harm his friends, friends, would he still just watch helplessly as they died and disappeared one by one? His heart was like being cut by a knife, hating his own weakness, unable to intimidate those with ill intentions, unable to protect all the people important to him. He is not a qualified older brother. The flames in his eyes ignited once again, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging, blood vessels throbbing, venting his surging emotions. No, such a tragedy must never happen again. Once his family is resurrected, he will immediately embark on a new journey, without pause. He wants to become stronger, to become the strongest, make all who spy on him pay a painful price, turn to ashes, and shock the world. Like a dragon guarding treasure, bearing fangs, roaring angrily at the world. With determination set, he sets off immediately, rushing home at an extremely fast speed. The journey was long, and even with extraordinary abilities, it still took half an hour to arrive. When he stepped into the Milky Way, the scene before him was both strange and familiar, and his heart was filled with bitterness. This was his home, a place once familiar, now desolate. The enemy who caused all this tragedy had been slain by him, but those masterminds behind it all were beyond his reach. How ironic, how sorrowful. However, lamenting is useless. No matter how intense the emotions, the enemy will not soften or repent. Only fists and blood can teach them a lesson. But they still will not become kind. They will only fear you and bow down to please you in order to survive. Whether they have truly repented, whether they no longer bully the innocent, is not something he can control. He is not a saint, not a deity. He is just an ordinary person who longs to protect his home and loved ones. His goal is simple. No one dared to peek at his belongings. His hand suddenly emitted two rays of light. One hand was a translucent, illusory blue smoke, cold and intense, like a blazing fire burning the soul. That was the power of death. The other hand flashed with dazzling red light, more tangible than the blue, with strong pressure and extreme flamboyance, like a sharp blade revealing its edge. That was the power of reincarnation. These two elements filled the entire galaxy. Ling Xiao trembled all over, cold sweat pouring down, but gritted his teeth and persisted. This was by no means an easy task for him. Two forces surged from both ends of the galaxy, initially distinct and separate, gradually blending together, and finally merging into one. Red and blue intertwined, colors indistinguishable, mysterious and unfathomable, both dangerous and nurturing hope. There, it is the destination of death, and also the starting point of new life. This is Ling Xiao's latest discovery. The power of reincarnation combined with the power of death can control life and death, reversing yin and yang. Yin and yang, life and death, are merely different forms of breath. Humans and all things are formed from the condensation of qi and blood, sharing the same elemental origin, naturally influencing each other. The deeper the understanding of the elements, the stronger Ling Xiao's power becomes, and the brighter his future grows. Unleash the earth-shaking power within. This power has long surpassed the bounds of reason. No matter how strong the attack, it can only take life but cannot restore it. Only the elements can reverse the judgment of the Grim Reaper and call back life. What kind of terrifying power is this? Ling Xiao's heart trembled, even doubting whether those so-called creators and religion truly control the forces of reincarnation and death. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Once a staunch atheist, he now found himself immersed in these elusive thoughts. Whether the creator exists or not, whether they truly created all things, none of this has anything to do with Ling Xiao. The power of death and the power of reincarnation surged through the galaxy like tides, awakening the slumbering stars and Earth. At first, mountains, rivers, and lakes gradually appeared on Earth, and rivers flowed slowly. Then, single-celled life quietly emerged, rapidly evolving, dividing, and merging, and aquatic life gradually became abundant. Ling Xiao seemed to travel through time and space, witnessing the evolution of life on Earth over billions of years. He harnessed the power of the elements to accelerate evolution, causing the first multicellular organisms in the river to appear rapidly. Small fish and shrimp swam about, while moss spread along the riverbank. The land became lush and green, with grasses and trees growing densely, shrubs forming clusters, and forests gradually spreading out. Reptiles and amphibians appeared one after another, followed by animals such as rabbits, eagles, and hawks. The entire galaxy revived, teeming with life and vitality. Ling Xiao looked at this magnificent scene, a long-lost smile blooming at the corner of his mouth. The galaxy was reborn with vitality, but humans had yet to appear. Only a few monkeys were present in the mountains and forests. He has no intention of letting these apes evolve into humans. Even if all living beings could be reborn, he only wants to replicate that familiar group of friends and family. He adjusts the elemental ratios, increasing the input of the power of reincarnation. This seems simple, but is extremely difficult. The precise balance almost drained his spirit and physical strength. He was exhausted, his eyes bloodshot, hair graying, and the whole person looked like a candle flickering in its final moments. If anyone saw this, they would never believe he was once a strong man. He was almost a dying wreck, but effort eventually pays off. Ling Xiao sensed a familiar aura awakening in the universe. It was the soul of a former human, though gone, its presence still lingered between heaven and earth. The more exhausted he became, the sharper his perception grew. These breaths poured into his heart like a torrent, causing his entire body to explode with strength. He gritted his teeth and persisted, his gaze as firm as iron. I will definitely bring you back. No one can stop me, he shouted shouted loudly, "Ah!" Using the elements as a guide, magic condensed and spiritual energy converged. The breath between the stars was like countless fragments precisely pieced together, one after another, gradually forming a whole. His gaze was sharp, penetrating every planet in the galaxy. On those planets, illusory humanoid figures slowly took shape, light points gradually solidifying, their outlines becoming clearer. Humans always carried selfishness. Although he was responsible for reviving the entire galaxy, his gaze remained fixed on the blue star, that former home. They were resurrected, but the future remains full of challenges. The ecosystem has just begun to recover, the galaxy is rejuvenated, yet no humans exist, technology stagnates, instruments lie silent. One by one, humanoid forms lie quietly in the dense forest, waiting to awaken. None of this matters. As long as humans are resurrected, carrying the technology and power of the past, rebuilding civilization will be a piece of cake. His gaze was firmly fixed on that small blue star, feeling the humanoid gradually solidify from transparency. The outline emerged one by one, with distinct features, a prominent nose bridge, a determined look, and sharpness hidden between the brows. Finally, exhausting the last bit of strength in his body, all the outlines instantly solidified, transforming into vivid humans. He stood at the pinnacle of the universe, sensing each person slowly opening their eyes, gazing at this new world. They awoke, confused, looking around, unfamiliar and novel. But they were resurrected, carrying their memories, still the same as they once were. This is the most perfect ending. Ling Xiao, full of joy, gave up struggling, surrendered to his body's fatigue, and fell into a deep sleep. With his current strength, no one could harm him even while he was lying down. After falling asleep, the system's voice continued to repeat, "Ding, extreme consumption detected, initiating spiritual power element replenishment, absorbing 364.8 billion elemental particles, 475.6 billion vitality, 654.3 billion spiritual energy, 34.8556 trillion demonic energy." The ringing sounds continued, but Ling Xiao couldn't hear them. At this moment, his body rapidly recovered, transforming from a skeletal sage to solid and sturdy, with muscles as tough as rock and astonishing density. If anyone touched him, they would be shocked by his formidable physique. His abilities quickly rebounded. It even affects the operation of surrounding galaxies. It is well known that galaxies operate under gravity, and mass determines their trajectories. Although he is lying alone, his body mass is equivalent to dozens of suns. His existence is shaking the balance of the entire galaxy. System intelligence activated. Ding, quality anomaly detected, affecting myocardial operation, automatic teleportation protection activated. The next second, Ling Zhao's figure suddenly disappeared, leaving the Milky Way. Those newly awakened lives, orbiting the brilliant sun, slowly rotating, carrying new life and hope. Ling Xiao appeared at. Above the frigid star region, Ling Xiao slowly descended, finally landing steadily. However, he still did not wake. Dreams surged like tides, with blurry points of light flickering in the void. He seemed trapped in endless darkness, a darkness more terrifying than the abyss. The whole world was left with only him and that faint light. Driven by the instinct to survive, he desperately moved toward the light, but could never reach it. His steps were confused, his direction unclear, as if falling into a black hole that devours everything, even swallowing sound. Yet, within this boundless darkness, a mysterious force surrounded him, giving him endless security. This force protected him, dispelled hidden dangers, and guarded his path ahead. He kept moving forward, following the light, getting closer and closer. The point of light gradually grew larger, and a warm breath brushed his face. At that moment, he opened his eyes. He looked up at the vast universe, his mind in chaos. Where is this place? How did he end up here? He was clearly still in the Milky Way. Where were his sister and companions? Was the Milky Way safe? Countless questions surged in his mind, anxiety burning in his chest like flames. "System," he called softly. The system responded calmly, "Ding." The host's physique has greatly improved. Mass has increased dramatically, affecting the Milky Way's operation. To protect the Milky Way, the system has urgently activated the risk avoidance protocol, transporting you to a safe area far from the Milky Way. Ding. The Milky Way has fully recovered. The natives are rapidly rebuilding technology and the ecological environment, and order is steadily returning. Hearing this, Ling Xiao felt a bit relieved and looked around, unable to help but smile bitterly. "System, you really picked a spot too cleverly." The extreme cold star region, like the Milky Way, was once destroyed by the demon race. He originally planned to restore the Milky Way first, then head to the 430 area to revive the extreme cold star region. Unexpectedly, just after completing the restoration of one place, the system directly sent him here. The system's tone remained indifferent, not intentional, randomly selected. "Since we've come, we shall fight." Since it had already been verified in the Milky Way that his power was sufficient to restore the forests and environment of this star region, the mission was secure. Ling Xiao decided to rest first, recover his strength, and then give it his all. In his sleep, he felt a long-lost peace. Since embarking on the path of cultivation, such deep sleep had become a luxury. His body and mind gradually relaxed, and fatigue dissipated. Upon waking, he opened the attribute panel and carefully checked his condition. Name, Ling Xiao. Number of repairs, Layers, January 14. Martial Dao Realm, Divine King Realm, 9th Heaven. Soul Realm, Divine King Realm, 9th Heaven. Vitality, 500 billion quadrillion. 1 point equals 3 quintillion kilograms of force. Soul, 500 billion quadrillion. Secondary Profession Grandmaster, 10 types, 14th rank, mid-grade, 0/50 quintillion, legendary level. Skill, Weapon Master, triple principles, 150 times, 0/10 trillion. Laws, 3000, limit domain, 480 types. Talent, Immortal Divine Body, immortal level, combat power increased by 5000%. Emperor's Body, heavenly Tao level, blessing multiplied by 10 billion. Void Dragon Body, immortal level, physical strength 2048 times. Power of Creation, 17th rank supreme, 2999 types. Cultivation method, Will of the Gods, heavenly Tao level, 17th rank fragmented 50,000 times. Demon God Nirvana, 17th rank, lower grade. Berserk Absorption, 17th rank, lower grade. Heavenly Law and Earth Phenomena, 17th rank, middle grade, 1000x. Genesis Divine Scripture, 18th rank, lower grade. Consciousness Fission, 17th rank, lower grade, 5000x. Martial Skill, Death Gun Technique, 17th rank, middle grade, 400x. Ling Zhao's pupils contracted slightly, battle intent burning fiercely. He slowly stood up, his gaze like a torch, vowing to reignite this wasteland and restore the glory of the extreme cold star domain. World Destroying Light, 17th rank, lower grade, power 300x. Teleportation, 17th rank, lower grade, speed 200x. Heaven Shaking True. Spring, 17th rank, lower grade, healing 200x. Demonic Energy and Demonic Martial Analysis, 17th rank, middle grade, analysis power 400x. Equipment, Black Heaven Battle Armor, 17th rank, mid-grade, Black Heaven Demon Spear, 17th rank, mid-grade, Angel Wings, 17th rank, low-grade, Black Star Stone King, unknown, above 17th rank. Physical Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 8th layer of Heaven. Ultimate Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 10th layer of Heaven. He carefully examined himself. In the ancient cosmic era, he had already refined his cultivation methods, weapons, and various divine artifacts to their ultimate limits. Now, none of these required repair, and he had even wasted multiple opportunities to use the system's repair function. Thinking about what else could be upgraded on his body, suddenly a flash of inspiration struck. The smartwatch. This old companion that had accompanied him all the way seemed to still have room for improvement in its rank. He quickly took out the watch and fiddled with it in his hand. Although he had spent 100 years in the demon realm ruins and everything felt unfamiliar, this familiar smartwatch still brought a sense of reassurance. System, check the status of the smartwatch. Ding, check complete. Vulnerabilities, 1645.8 billion. Repair immediately? Repair immediately. Ding, repair successful. Target upgraded to level 17. A flash of surprise crossed Ling Zhao's eyes. This tool that had accompanied his growth could actually be upgraded to a level comparable to the virtual universe. Its potential was limitless, truly an unexpected delight. A confident smile curled at the corner of his mouth. Who wouldn't want their weapon to be as powerful as possible? He put the watch back on, carefully feeling its vibrant pulse. Strangely, the upgraded watch emitted a faint, barely perceptible sense of familiarity, as if it held some kind of secret, mysterious and unfathomable. But now was not the time to delve deeper. He withdrew his attention. Taking 2 deep breaths, Ling Xiao cast his gaze toward the extreme cold star region. Once again, he summoned the power of reincarnation and the power of death in his hands, enveloping this cold and desolate area. Drawing on his experience repairing the galaxy, he began restoring the star region's ecosystem. After the restoration was complete, a wave of fatigue washed over him. But with his body repaired, his constitution had greatly improved, no longer looking as if he were on the brink of death. He did not linger, choosing to leave in search of a quiet place to rest. His attachment to this star region was far less than to the galaxy, and he did not even entertain the thought of going home to visit. Waking up at the edge of the universe, Ling Xiao stretched lazily, his expression relaxed. If outsiders saw this scene, they would surely be shocked. A supreme powerhouse so casual, indulging in sleep. In the eyes of most people, a demon god realm expert should be cold as ice, swift and decisive, and fanatical about cultivation. But Ling Xiao, not only exceptionally gifted in having reached this realm at a young age, still maintained the carefree and approachable personality of an ordinary person. After a long absence from the continent of the gods, Ling Xiao deeply felt that many places had become unfamiliar and distant after his long journey. The path of a strong one is destined to be lonely, but having chosen this road, he had no regrets. At this moment, he set foot on the road home, his eyes burning with the determination to dominate the continent of the gods once again. Above the mainland, in the vast universe, the sky seemed incredibly small, but his steps were resolute, as if the vow to become strong that he made back then was etched into his bones and blood. As soon as he appeared, the powerful figures on the continent of the gods all sensed his presence. This is not surprising. It would be strange if we couldn't even notice his arrival. However, most of the people here are old acquaintances, so does it really make a difference whether they notice or not? While he was pondering, a figure swiftly rushed over tower from a distance. Looking closely, it was not familiar. In an instant, the person was close by, asking coldly, "Who are you?" Ling Xiao answered calmly, "Ling Xiao." The other party sized him up, seeing his composure and calm demeanor, clearly not a first-time visitor to this place. He gave his name but appeared hesitant, immediately asking the person beside him. Although Ling Xiao couldn't hear the conversation clearly, he noticed the other person's expression soften, obviously having found someone who knew him. After the communication ended, a smile blossomed on the other person's face, and they reached out warmly, saying, "Hello, I've heard of your name. So you are the genius." Ling Xiao smiled slightly and responded politely. However, in the next moment, the other person's expression suddenly changed, a mix of doubt and caution. Tentatively asked, "What race are you?" Ling Xiao answered without hesitation, "Human." Before the words had fallen, the other party suddenly struck with a palm. The palm strike was fierce and swift, as if aiming to kill with one blow. Although Ling Xiao was in the 9th heaven of the Divine King realm, with combat power reaching the 8th heaven of the Immortal realm, how could he be easily hit? His figure suddenly flashed, effortlessly dodging the attack. Doubt filled his heart. Just now they were still friendly. How did they become enemies in an instant? Could it be because of their race? Why do they harbor hatred towards the human race? Last time they came, there was no hostility. The other party coldly explained, "You say human race, but I sense pure and powerful magic within you. The human race has no demonic aura. You are from the demon clan. What is your intention here? Why are you impersonating Ling Xiao of the human race?" Upon hearing this, Ling Xiao suddenly realized the enemy is the Tianma clan, and the Tianma element hidden in his bloodline has been exposed. He was silent for a moment, his heart filled with complexity. The awakening of his bloodline was both the origin of the human race and a part of the demon clan. Helplessly said, "It's complicated, not what you think. I can explain it slowly." The other party was impatient, eyes full of hatred, and kept cursing continuously. Ling Xiao was momentarily at a loss. Worse still, the other party raised their hand to initiate communication. "No need to guess, reinforcements have arrived. Today has been extremely unlucky. Nothing is going right." He didn't want to confront head-on, just dodged. After all, the other party couldn't hurt him. Not long after the fight began, dark clouds loomed overhead in the distance, and a large group of reinforcements quickly approached. Ling Zhao's sharp eyes recognized many familiar faces. Faced with acquaintances, he was speechless. The mystery of his race was hard to explain. They would only think he was a fake demon clan member or completely fallen to demonic corruption. With no options left, he looked at the approaching crowd, the flames of war about to ignite. Recalling the feeling of pausing time during the great battle with the demon clan, he tentatively summoned the time element. Gradually, the time element condensed in the space, enveloping everything below. Time froze. The continent of the gods instantly fell into deathly silence. Absolute stillness, no low hum of stars rotating, no sound of footsteps in the distance. All living beings stopped moving, even their breathing froze. Ling Zhao's face was dark and gloomy, without a trace of joy, as he coldly walked toward the Execution God Tower. He hoped that the Execution God Tower wouldn't treat him like those people, as an enemy of the demon race. But reason told him it was absolutely impossible. The Execution God Tower had already submitted to him, recognizing him as its master. Since that was the case, no matter how the master's bloodline changed, the tower should remain loyal and unwavering. Ling Xiao stood firm, his gaze fixed on the towering Execution God Tower that pierced the clouds. Even though the divine continent had undergone many changes, the tower's body still shone brilliantly, immortal as ever. He pressed his hands against the cold tower wall, feeling a sense of respect and friendliness emanating from the iron-cast body. Finally, a great weight lifted from his heart. The change in bloodline had not shaken the Tower of Divine Punishment's loyalty to him. "In that case, Tower of Divine Punishment, come with me. Go fulfill your mission," he said in a low voice. Demonic energy condensed, his hands turning into blades, slicing through his palms, blood quickly flowing out. Blood dripped onto the tower, and the Tower of Divine Punishment immediately reacted violently. The iron tower began to tremble, as if the five-finger mountain had finally loosened, about to collapse, and the iron prison would be unlocked. Ling Xiao forcefully pulled upward with both arms. The Execution God Tower trembled more violently, slowly detaching from the earth inch by inch, slow but unstoppable, breaking free from the bondage of the divine continent. The Execution God Tower floated upward slowly, success imminent. Suddenly, Ling Xiao felt a strong spatial fluctuation, waves rolling, and a sudden great change. This fluctuation is different from the trembling of the iron tower. The iron tower's vibration only causes objects in the space to tremble, but this spatial fluctuation is like the space itself twisting and deforming, ready to collapse and disintegrate at any moment. Except for Ling Xiao, who controls the spatial element, no one can perceive this strange force. Once the space collapses, the beings inside will be annihilated in an instant, losing consciousness and never knowing the tragedy that occurred. Ling Xiao sensed a drastic change in the environment, his heart shocked. He felt an unexplored abnormal force and even suspected that the spatial fluctuations might not have been caused by the Execution God Tower. His heart tightened, he had never faced such a mysterious existence before. His alertness rose, but the power in his hands did not diminish, and he urgently tried to pull out the Execution God Tower to escape the danger. As the iron tower slowly slowly detached, the spatial distortion grew increasingly intense. Ling Xiao began to wonder if this drastic change was caused by the Execution God Tower. If the Execution God Tower were completely pulled out, what kind of disaster would space face next? He hesitated and slowed the force used to pull the tower. When he wanted to withdraw, he found his body tightly bound by a mysterious force, unable to move. What kind of power is this? He was terrified in his heart. Soon, the sky above suddenly darkened and his consciousness gradually blurred. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying on a piece of unfamiliar land. Before him was dazzling sunlight, surrounded by lush greenery dripping with vitality. This was not the continent of the gods. His eyes were filled with primeval forest. The trees were tall and upright, far beyond the ordinary, so tall that Ling Xiao couldn't even see the treetops. Could it be that the system transported him to a different place while he was unconscious? He immediately summoned the system for verification. The system replied, "Ding." During the host's unconsciousness, the system did not perform any operations. Then how did I end up here? Ling Xiao's heart was filled with doubts. Perhaps it was a rift caused by spatial fluctuations that swept him into a different dimension? He quickly took out his intelligence brain, which had already reached the 17th level of medium grade, and ordered it to scan the surrounding environment. The intelligence brain quickly returned the results. Ding, Master. The current time and space is the ancient era before the galactic modern 100,000 epoch. Ling Xiao was stunned. What does that mean? With a blink of an eye, he had actually traveled back to 100,000 epochs ago, or 1 epoch equals 1 trillion years. He scanned the entire universe. This universe had just been born not long ago, and its size was only 1/10 that of the future cosmic divine kingdom. This absurd fact shocked him, but he had to accept it. Struggling was useless. The immediate priority was to find a way back. At the very least, he had to find a place where life existed. He knew very little about this ancient history. After all, he was a traveler from another world, where strength was valued and literature and history were rarely studied. Even historians only skimmed the surface, as researching ancient times was considered pointless. Scientific research emphasized practicality, and no one bothered with useless matters. So he knew nothing about this place. He could only rely on the power of the qi and blood within his body to detect signs of life nearby. He released his divine sense and carefully scanned the surroundings. In the far northeast corner, 10 trillion light-years away, there was an area rich in qi and blood. Although the race could not be identified, it was clearly a gathering place of civilization, and the level of civilization was not low. He immediately increased his speed and arrived after 10 minutes, not choosing the bustling areas, but hiding on the outskirts, observing slowly. Here, birds and beasts are everywhere, but their forms have mutated, gradually evolving towards human shapes. Some have ears sharp like tigers, some have long tails like monkeys, and there are even descendants of big-mouthed monkeys with thick lips on their faces. Even more astonishingly, he sensed the pressure radiating from these beast tribes, indicating considerable cultivation levels. I never expected that in the ancient times 10 trillion years ago, these beast clan cultivators were so prosperous. He glanced around himself. There was no one with strength surpassing his, and most had cultivation far inferior to his. These so-called strong ones were nothing but weaklings in his eyes. But when in Rome, he decided to keep a low profile to avoid trouble. He condensed 2 black spheres of demonic energy on his ears, which from a distance looked like black beast ears, concealing his aura and demonic power. In this way, without careful scrutiny by the strong, it is easy to blend into civilization. He strode onto the beast tribe's main street, walking with head held high, calm and composed, his gaze coldly scanning the surroundings. No passerby paid him any attention. He grew even more confident, striding swaggeringly as if he had found a new pleasure. He observed on the street for a long time, seeing all kinds of beast tribes. The wolf clan's tail fur is hard and shiny, hanging down with a majestic aura. The dogs have friendly faces, occasionally sticking out their tongues, their tails wagging lively. There is also a man with a red rooster comb on his head, clearly from the big rooster clan. The diverse scenes are like a zoo, making Ling Xiao extremely excited. However, something even stranger was yet to come. Having seen all kinds of bizarre creatures over such a long time, he had never encountered a human with a clear mind, a healthy body, and no extra limbs. This stirred an indescribable doubt in Ling Xiao's heart. Could it be that his guess was right, that the beast tribe harbored resentment against the human tribe, so the two sides drew boundaries and refrained from interfering with each other? Or was there another hidden truth? He couldn't grasp the situation clearly and dared not act rashly. He summoned the intelligence core again, his voice calm. Intelligence core, scan the cultivation levels of all living beings in the nearby 430 area. Ding, detection complete. The total number of life forms around exceeds 10 billion, most of whom are below the domain lord level. There are about 500 domain lords, around 100 god kings, and about 10 immortals. 10 billion beings, yet so few strong ones. Ling Xiao frowned slightly and asked, are these strong beings concentrated in certain races or scattered? The intelligent brain quickly responded, most of the powerful beings above the boundary lord realm belong to the 10 great divine beast races, with the top 10 strongest being the progenitors of the divine beasts, such as the dragon ancestor, phoenix ancestor, Qilin ancestor, and others. No wonder he didn't see any powerful creatures. Obviously, the 10 divine beasts controlled the highest resources and power here. The rest of the creatures were just ordinary citizens, with mediocre talents and scarce resources, making it difficult for them to become experts. But on second thought, even humans were rarely seen here. Among this group of beast tribes, Ling Xiao still felt uneasy. In contrast, although the ancient humans were mysterious, at least he didn't need to disguise himself and could move freely through the streets. He decided not to stay here long and continued searching for the human tribe. He silently left the bustling area of the beast tribe and slipped into a remote corner, cautiously observing his surroundings. After confirming that no one was paying attention, his figure suddenly vanished, teleporting back to the depths of the universe, attempting to sense traces of the human race. However, even after expanding the range of his divine perception, he still could not detect any human settlements. This was abnormal. This universe was born not long ago, its scale no larger than a divine kingdom 10,000 epochs later. His divine sense was sufficient to capture details, but because the search consumed enormous energy, he adopted the method of finding places where experts gathered and then analyzing their bloodlines. Unexpectedly, this method yielded no results over such a vast area. There were only two possibilities. First, the human race did not exist at all at this moment. Second, the human race had declined to the point of having no immortal strong individuals, causing the filtering to fail. No matter which, the result was disappointing. The kinship between the human race and Ling Xiao became increasingly blurred. No one likes to see their own tribe decline. He simply gave up thinking and directly called upon the system to query. System, query whether the human race existed in the ancient era 100 trillion years ago. The system responded quickly. Ding, query result, exists. Activate positioning, locate human settlements. Ding, navigation started. Please proceed along the current direction for 100 trillion light years. Ling Xiao accelerated into a sprint. Unexpectedly, the human settlement was not far from the beast tribe. 5 minutes later, he arrived at the destination. The scene before him tightened his heart. The decline of the human race far exceeded expectations. He looked down and saw only a scene of ruin and desolation. The beast tribe's side had mostly wooden houses, some made of brick and stone. Here among the humans, however, there were only thatched huts, so simple it was heartbreaking. Though this was the border, the poverty was shockingly severe. On the left, a group of skin and bones old people and children huddled together. They were too weak to cultivate or work, the weakest beings in the biological world. Their clothes were even tattered and worn, leaving them shivering. He had only a few withered grasses loosely wrapped around his waist, at best to cover shame, with no warmth or sun protection. The exposed skin was cracked and fragile, dull and lifeless, his complexion pale as dead ash. Ling Xiao looked at them coldly, as if he could see each protruding rib, stabbing his eyes, the desolation reaching its extreme. He sighed inwardly, quickly flying through the crowd, heading straight for the heart of the tribe, wanting to see if this place was entirely as backward as it seemed. Fortunately, as he went deeper, he found the scene gradually improving. Thatched huts gave way to wooden houses, and wooden houses were replaced by brick and stone structures. The human caste system began to emerge here. The closer to the core, the higher the class, the richer the resources, and the more luxurious the environment. It seemed that true cultivators had already appeared. Ling Xiao whispered to the intelligent brain, scan for the highest human combat power. Ding, detection result. The highest combat power of the human race is at the immortal realm. Immortal realm? So weak. Ling Xiao's heart sank. A fragile race divided by classes is doomed to have no way out. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he secretly felt fortunate to have transmigrated and become the highest combat power among the human race. He decided to personally seek out that immortal sword peak expert to investigate the situation. Ling Xiao instructed the intelligent brain to lock onto the exact location of the peak immortal swordmaster, but found that whether it was located or not, no more information could be obtained. His gaze fixed on the tallest central building, a palace of extraordinary splendor. 7 or 8 stacked floors piled up layer upon layer, surrounded by grand palace walls. The courtyard was dotted with pavilions and towers arranged in an orderly fashion, serving both as places of rest and as a display of the owner's nobility. This was precisely the residence of the strongest among the human race. Ling Xiao sneered coldly. The decayed feudal rule was so obvious, even less splendid than the old imperial dynasty. Anger surged in his heart. As an outsider, he watched the people struggling bitterly at the border, then looked at this magnificent palace, unable to suppress his fury. Ignoring the guard's shouts, he leapt straight into the palace, deliberately letting the guards see his figure, showing his fearlessness. The guards roared, "Who are you? You are not allowed to trespass the palace." Before the voice fell, Ling Xiao had already vanished without a trace. He boldly stormed into the most central hall. In the center of the hall stood a throne of pure gold towering high. On the throne, a slightly plump middle-aged man was sitting with his eyes closed, meditating deeply with a profound cultivation aura. He sensed Ling Xiao's aura, opened his eyes, and asked coldly, "Who are you? Why have you trespassed into my palace?" Although this person was alert, he held himself in high regard and did not believe anyone could surpass him. Ling Xiao sneered coldly, said nothing more, and suddenly released a powerful pressure. The sense of oppression instantly enveloped the entire hall. The middle-aged middle-aged man felt a tightening in his chest, realizing that the person before him was no ordinary figure. His gaze could not penetrate Ling Zhao's strength, and he was shocked in his heart. This person before him could actually contend with the ancestor of the 10 divine beasts? He hurriedly stood up, stepped down from the throne, descended the high platform, and met Ling Zhao's gaze. Although he did not bow, his expression already carried respect, clearly not daring to look down on the person before him. His once imposing demeanor slightly softened, but that lofty arrogance still stubbornly clung to him. He asked coldly, "Why did you trespass into my palace? Did someone offend you?" Ling Zhao probed, "If it's a dispute within the clan, just say it. I can uphold justice for you and solve the problem, but you have to give me a reason why you trespassed into my palace." Seeing that this person was still arrogant and conceited, Ling Zhao understood in his heart that he had not yet seen the situation clearly and mistakenly thought the other party was begging him. Ling Zhao directly asked, "Are you the emperor here?" "Emperor?" The man frowned. "I do not know what an emperor is. I am the high priest, receiving offerings from the human race, blessing the people with safety, and solving problems." Ling Zhao grew even more curious and asked, "What exactly problems have you solved?" The other party was full of pride. 5 years ago, the Dragon Clan, one of the 10 great divine beasts, wanted to invade our tribe. Fortunately, I turned the tide. They retreated before even deploying troops, not daring to touch our territory. And last month's drought, I led the tribe in praying for rain, moved the gods, and brought down sweet rain. Accepting offerings is only right. Ling Zhao couldn't help but chuckle. Humans have always had a way of controlling minds through religion. In any world throughout history, there are always those who don the robes of gods to exploit their own people, and those being exploited even help count the money. As for making the Dragon Clan retreat, what a joke! Ling Zhao had long investigated the strength of the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Ancestor is a peak immortal realm powerhouse, while the person before him is only at the pinnacle of the eternal life realm. Relying on him to make the Dragon Clan retreat halfway? Ridiculous, a single finger could crush him. Such a braggart who never plans his boasts actually controls the human world. According to him, the human race is still indulged in feudal superstitions, neglecting cultivation and science. How can there be a future on such a wrong path? Rage surged in his heart, and Ling Zhao suddenly kicked, knocking the high priest to the ground. Caught off guard, the high priest fell on his back, utterly embarrassed. Even with precautions, it was of no use. Ling Zhao's strength far surpasses his, and the difference in skill and combat experience is like heaven and earth. This kick made him completely understand. He was utterly unqualified to have an equal conversation with the person in front of him. He was filled with regret, having just been arrogantly boasting about his achievements. People like this, having long immersed themselves in a world of ingratiation, never reflect on their mistakes and only think that their way of flattering is wrong. He hurriedly scrambled up and respectfully knelt down. "Great heavenly God, forgive me." Ling Zhao looked coldly, feeling disgusted by this cowardly and weak appearance. This person's mind is narrow and sycophantic to the core. It can't be resolved with just a scolding. He glanced contemptuously, sighed, and vanished in a flash. The high priest knelt in the wind, filled with confusion. The celestial lord arrived, beat him up once, and then left. What kind of operation is this? Yet he didn't dare to ask more or suspect anything, not even daring to lift his head, standing there blankly. He stared at the ground, time seeming to freeze. After a moment of hesitation, he trembled as he stood up straight, his gaze as firm as iron. The pattern formed by each 433 society during a specific historical period is not easily shaken. Faced with this hellish scene on earth, Ling Zhao neither understood nor could accept it, but he was powerless to do anything. Social progress must be accumulated step by step. It cannot be reversed solely by powerful cultivation. He stepped out the door, weaving through the bustling streets filled with traffic. This place was still prosperous, bearing some resemblance to his hometown on Earth. Having been away from Earth for too long, the scene before him gave rise to an illusion. He shook his head and smiled bitterly, a smile filled with endless helplessness. Suddenly, his face changed drastically, muscles tensed, and waves of tremors surged through his heart. This was the first time he felt the fluctuation of time. What exactly had happened? The surrounding time seemed disturbed, as if a foreign object had suddenly appeared in a great river, causing huge waves to surge, trying to push him back to the world he was supposed to belong to. This torrent of time is wild and unstable. If swept away, he does not know where he would be thrown, nor what kind of horror he would face. Although not proficient in the element of time, he is a master of the element of space and knows well that when space collapses, those who fall into the rift have their souls destroyed. He speculates that the consequences of a time rift would be no better than those of a spatial fissure. He quickly mobilizes the time element within his body to resist the fluctuations. But this power far exceeded expectations. The time element surging throughout the body, maintaining maximum stability had become a difficult problem. Elements and spiritual energy were being consumed frantically, physical strength rapidly overdrawn. The consumption is too great. I have to find a way. This must be resolved. He knew this kind of fluctuation would not be an isolated event, and no one knew when the next one would come. He can still hold on, but what if even stronger waves come one after another? Ling Zhao has made it this far by being vigilant in times of peace and constantly striving. When a crisis first shows signs, he responds with alertness. This time is is no exception. As long as the mindset doesn't collapse, there are always more solutions than difficulties. There must be a way, yes. Since it's a matter of the time element, start with the time element. Use magic to break magic. He summoned the intelligent brain and asked how to improve control and perception of the time element in the short term. It was actually just a test. After all, he had traveled countless places and read thousands of secret manuals, yet had never seen the long-lost time element enhancement method. Even the information is scarce, not a single clue can be found. Unexpectedly, the intelligence brain, which has already reached level 17, is extraordinarily powerful. Ding, Master, a query found that 10 million epochs ago, there existed a creature called the spacetime dragon. They are naturally sensitive to time elements and travel through the river of time throughout their lives. If one obtains its heart, an ordinary person may awaken time element abilities. Those who have mastered the element of time can further greatly enhance their control and perception. This might be exactly what you need. Ling Xiao was overjoyed in his heart. This was simply tailor-made for him. He eagerly asked, "Intelligent brain, do you know where the spacetime dragon is now?" The intelligent brain, however, fell into a dilemma. Return to the master. Because the spacetime dragons have controlled the element of time since birth, they can appear at any time and place at will. Unable to locate, unable to track. This is precisely their survival secret. After hearing this, Ling Xiao calmed down. The excitement from just now instantly dissipated. Yes, since that is the case, such an extraordinarily gifted race naturally possesses astonishing power. Their bodies are filled with treasures, yet they have survived until now, surely protected by their strength. He was too impatient, but he now urgently needs the help of the time-space dragon. No matter how difficult, he must find it. He is confident he can find information about the time-space dragon. This means that someone has killed such a giant beast before. Since others can kill it, why should Ling Xiao be afraid? Whether in strength, talent, fortune, or divine weapons, he can be considered the strongest of the ancient times. Without hesitation, within 4.8 seconds, he summoned the intelligent brain, the virtual universe, and the system, desperately gathering all information about the spacetime dragon. These three treasures, no one dares to underestimate. Their hidden power far exceeds ordinary understanding. This investigation shocked Ling Xiao. He originally thought the system would provide the most information. After all, along the way, he had witnessed the system's mystery and power firsthand. If there is anything strongest in the world, it must be the system. But this time, the virtual universe provided the most and the most detailed clues. The virtual universe had witnessed a siege and massacre of the spacetime dragon, and even possessed detailed anatomical diagrams of the peacock dragon's corpse. Who would complain about having too much information? Although Ling Xiao was puzzled, he didn't ask further and directly immersed himself in the research. Data shows that the temporal dragon can jump through time and space, but its ability is limited and the range is restricted. No dragon has ever been able to traverse an entire era. A newly born temporal dragon can jump within a range of up to 100 years. As it ages and grows stronger, the range expands. The absence of cross-era jumps is not due to limited ability, but because of lifespan constraints. They live for about 100 years, similar to humans. For divine beasts, this is extremely brief, but this is reasonable. Possessing great power from birth, their short lifespan serves as a balance. Compared to weak and short-lived humans, they already have innate advantages. And humans have a unique ability to learn. Through talent and effort, they can rise from mortals to the strong, even giving birth to beings like Ling Xiao. The situation is urgent at this moment, and his primary concern is the appearance range of the temporal dragon. Data shows that temporal dragons mostly appear in an area on the northeastern border of the human race, not far from humans, because even the strongest humans here can hardly harm them. They can leap through time. If they can't be defeated, they escape not only spatially but also through time, and it may take hundreds or thousands of years before they are seen again. Moreover, the area is rich in plant spiritual energy, so it is only natural that they prefer to settle near human borders. Ling Xiao immediately rushed to the place, fully aware that the appearance of the time-space dragon was extremely random. The earlier he arrived, the greater the chance. If he was late, he feared missing their traces and would regret it deeply. Upon arrival, no miracle appeared. His divine sense covered every inch of the land, but he did not see a trace of the spacetime dragon. Loss was inevitable, but he was mentally prepared for it. He took the opportunity to delve deeper into the research materials, mobilizing all his power, and closely monitoring this area with his divine sense. At the same time, he reviewed the weaknesses of the spacetime dragons and methods to restrict their stay in this spacetime. Speaking of which, this is precisely the most crucial breakthrough. Amid laughter, ordinary people can hardly awaken the time element. The only hope to control the time element is to capture the spacetime dragon, seize its heart, and seal it away. The traditional method requires using the hunter's time element to suppress the spacetime element of the spacetime dragon. In other words, the hunter's spacetime element energy must exceed that of the spacetime dragon. This almost eliminated the possibility of humans hunting. But for Ling Xiao, the difficulty was greatly reduced. Although his control over the time element has not yet reached its peak in terms of reserves and regeneration speed, he has absolute confidence in his spacetime element. The time element within his body body is inexhaustible and endlessly renewable. This is all thanks to his immortal body, which possesses an extremely strong self-healing ability. Self-healing refers to the ability to replicate and regenerate the form and internal energy of body parts. This ability also applies to the recovery of physical strength, magical power, vitality, and various elements. Ling Xiao studied the data, secretly pleased. He already had the advantage in killing the temporal dragon. Continuing to flip through, he discovered that although the time-space dragon had no obvious weaknesses, it had a characteristic that could be exploited. The temporal dragon voraciously absorbs life force. The so-called life force is the energy present in all things. Whether plants, animals, or even sentient objects, as long as they exist, they contain life force. However, the quantity and intensity of life force vary depending on the species and condition of the organism. The more vigorous and younger the vitality, the richer the life force. Racial differences are obvious. Plants are inferior to animals, cultivators surpass ordinary people, and the young outperform the elderly. In any case, the life force of all living beings is limited and difficult to extract. Due to a long-term lack of life force supply, the spatial-temporal dragon's craving for life elements has reached an addictive state. The timing of its appearance is often when the life force is extremely vigorous. Mastering this rule, Ling Xiao felt confident in his heart. He sneered coldly, "Life force? This is just bait." A starving prey, smelling this scent, how could it not pounce? Even knowing the dangers ahead, it is hard to resist the impact of desire. Ling Xiao's smile grew increasingly arrogant, as if he already saw giant time-space dragons falling before him, offering their hearts. Although life elements were not his main focus, he was the man who resurrected the galaxy and the continent of the gods. He deeply understood the nature of life elements and knew how to create a large amount of life elements by proportionally blending reincarnation elements with death elements. Now, the bait is set, the cage is ready, just waiting for the prey to appear. Ling Xiao stretched out both hands, as if resurrecting the galaxy back then, summoning reincarnation elements with one hand and death elements with the other. Two streams of blue and red translucent gases mingled in the air, gradually condensing into a mysterious aura. This aura was intoxicating, and anyone who touched it underwent astonishing transformations. The grass and trees on the ground grew wildly. Originally short annual herbs instantly shot up 3 meters under the catalyst of the mist. In the air, small insects rapidly grew larger after coming into contact with the mist. The largest was a 7-spotted ladybug, with circular spots on its back as large as floor-to-ceiling windows. Ling Xiao's gaze was intense, waiting for the prey to arrive. As expected, Ling Xiao nodded in satisfaction. He only used a few strands of thin elements to concoct a mist of spiritual energy, but the effect was surprisingly obvious. The limited fog was already enough to lure the prey. To leave no trace, the grass that had just grown wildly was cut back to its original state, and the mutated bugs were all killed and discarded one by one. Then, Ling Xiao chose a desolate and remote place to begin hunting. He condensed a mass of life essence purer and richer than before, hiding in a corner, quietly awaiting the arrival of the spacetime dragon. The first wait lasted 2 days. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long suspected the trap was ineffective. But Ling Xiao remained calm and unhurried. He trusted the authenticity of the information and believed that the life elements he had concocted were flawless. That powerful divine beast possesses intelligence far beyond ordinary beings. Rather than being indifferent to this element, it is more accurate to say that it is observing, waiting for the optimal moment, and remaining vigilant against hidden dangers nearby. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. A senior hunter values patience above all. If the prey takes the bait too easily, it makes one doubt whether they are truly as powerful as the legends say. Suddenly, the divine sense he had set up near the trap suddenly stirred. He immediately became alert, knowing that the time-space dragon had arrived. Hidden in the shadows, he quietly peered, but saw no sign of movement. Yet his divine sense was everywhere, having precisely locked onto the opponent's trail, transmitting every step of the prey in real time. The temporal dragon entered the area, cautiously scanning its surroundings. The wind rustled the grass and leaves, mosquitoes buzzed chaotically in the air, and the forest was as usual, without any abnormalities. It also sensed the unusual intensity of the life element, but the temptation was irresistible. Just as humans sometimes gamble on pies falling from the sky, the dragon couldn't help but draw closer. The young dragon slowly stepped into the edge of the element and began to absorb. A blissful smile appeared on its face, its vigilance gradually relaxed, and it slowly moved deeper into the center. Upon closer inspection, this was exactly the juvenile form of the time-space dragon described in the virtual universe data. Its body was light, and its strength was still shallow, causing Ling Xiao to feel slightly disappointed. The young dragon's power was limited, but this was the first one. The first capture meant that the second and third adult dragons would eventually appear. The young dragon absorbed more and more joyfully, like a child who had fallen into a candy jar, thinking it had discovered a treasure. It relaxed its guard and played freely, completely unaware of the misfortune awaiting it. Suddenly, it felt the flow of time slow down, and a surge of unease rose in its heart. It looked around but saw no abnormalities or any figures, yet instinctively felt danger and wanted to retreat, seeking the shelter of the adult group. Just as it was about to leap away, it suddenly realized that the surroundings were filled with dense spacetime barriers, completely blocking its escape route. It was trapped, unable to escape through spacetime jumps. The young dragon panicked and lost control, banging its head against the barrier, trying to break through an escape route. Blood flowed down its forehead, but it couldn't stop its desperate struggle. Ling Xiao watched this scene quietly, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. As he pondered, he hesitated. Should he release this young temporal dragon back? Would it attract adult dragons from its clan to investigate? Upon careful consideration, he concluded it was impossible. Based on his observations over the past few days, temporal dragons are extremely cautious and prudent creatures. Once they sense danger, they will never approach again. Even if more traps are set, they would only stay far away from the peril. He decided in his heart that he absolutely could not let it go. If the young dragon escaped, no adult dragon would come chasing after it in the short term. He also didn't rush to deal harshly with this young dragon. He understood that this little guy was weak and could hardly provide much energy. But if the time-space dragons were social animals with a strong protective instinct, adult dragons might come in groups to rescue their young. Leaving the young dragon behind was the best choice. If the adult temporal dragon is truly attracted and comes, he will reap rich rewards. If no one comes, he can deal with the young dragon later. Thus, the top hunter resumed the hunt. This time the bait was upgraded, not only with life elements but also this adorable cub. Ling Xiao waited for a moment, then his divine sense suddenly trembled. Stronger than before, the adult temporal dragon has arrived. He dared not be careless. Facing the adult dragon, he had to act swiftly and meticulously. In an instant, he sealed the surrounding time barriers, ensuring the first temporal space was completely closed off. The barrier was set up, and he leapt inside. Sure enough, besides the young dragon trapped earlier, there were also the parents of the two adult temporal dragons young. The adult dragons were large and sturdy, with sharp teeth and fierce light flashing in their eyes, emitting deafening roars. If it were someone else, they would probably be scared out of their wits. But to Ling Xiao, it had no effect at all. He knew well the core ability of the temporal dragons, time jumping. They usually used it to escape, but once trapped by the time barrier, they lost their greatest advantage. In terms of combat power, these two adult dragons had reached the first level of the Divine King realm. Though not weak, it was far from enough to intimidate Ling Xiao. He easily swatted them to death, as if killing ants. Two giant dragons bared their teeth and claws, roaring to intimidate, their eyes fierce yet revealing fear. Their might was only a facade. They knew the trapped one must be powerful. They understood the strength of the human race and knew that the highest level human currently was at the peak of the immortal tier. This was their reason for fighting desperately. They thought Ling Xiao had only trapped them by virtue of his encounter with and control over the time element. Even with their considerable strength, they understood that an elemental cultivator who reached this level was no ordinary person. But when life faces a desperate situation, whether human or beast, they will fight desperately to seize the chance to survive. Ling Xiao carefully examined the giant dragon before him, growing more and more satisfied the longer he looked. They were intelligent and formidable, in some ways even surpassing most humans. He began to change his mind. Besides taking their hearts to strengthen the time element, he also wanted to keep the young dragons with high potential and gentle temperaments as pets. But these two adult dragons were no longer in his consideration. Within range, he leapt into the air and dashed through the time barrier. Step by step, he closed in on the time dragons. The two dragons roared, their sharp teeth bared, but they kept retreating, fear clearly visible in their eyes. The moment Ling Xiao stepped into the space-time barrier, an overwhelming pressure instantly crushed down. They knew in their hearts that the boy before them was far more than an ordinary peak immortal. When did such a powerful being emerge? Tension spread as they frantically searched Ling Xiao. The boy's face was youthful, yet his eyes, like those of a young cub, pressed forward step by step, making them feel the breath of death. Since birth, they had never felt danger, relying on their innate advantages. Now, their proud power was sealed, like birds entwined by poisonous snakes, powerless to await the end. The roar shook the sky, two columns of blood spouting into the air. Ling Xiao held two massive hearts in his hands, his brow slightly furrowed. They were extremely valuable in practice, as these hearts could greatly enhance time element abilities, but no one had told him they were so large in size. He felt slightly nauseous from the hearts weighing 20 to 30 gene each. Innards had never agreed with his stomach. He still suppressed the nausea, put away the giant hearts, and prepared to deal with them later. Xiaolong watched in terror as the powerful adult temporal dragon fell. Ling Xiao began to deal with the prey. The cub trembled, afraid that the Grim Reaper was targeting it. But this fear was unnecessary. Ling Xiao did not plan to hunt the young dragon for now, intending to use them to attract more temporal dragons. He frowned and activated the intelligent brain to search cooking methods for animal innards. He searched everywhere again for suitable seasonings. Two large hearts together weighed nearly 50 or 60 gene, truly hard to swallow. He did not know that his actions left a deep shadow on the young timespace dragons watching nearby. However, this abundance of life elements actually accelerated the growth of the young dragons. Within 2 days, no timespace giant dragons were seen to return. Obviously, the spacetime dragons operate in family units, with tribal connections being distant, much like human society. The young cubs in hand have limited appeal. Relying on them to lure the group is almost impossible. Ling Xiao once again summoned the powers of reincarnation and death, strengthening the concentration of life elements, hoping to attract more prey. Hunting must not be rushed, Ling Xiao understood clearly in his heart. Might as well relax and enjoy searching for cooking tips as a vacation. Years of cultivation have left little leisure to enjoy the pleasures of life. Relying on the powerful search of the intelligent brain, he actually managed to find natural spices such as cinnamon, star anise, Chinese star anise, Sichuan pepper, and black pepper. He thought, it's a pity there's no chili, missing that bit of soul. Using thin slate to make a pot, setting up a simple stove, and summoning blazing fire elements in hand to ignite the flame, the first cooking in another world officially begins. Back in his early years studying on Earth, he often cooked for himself. Though not skilled in cooking, it was passable. Nowadays, with natural spices, cooking is smooth and effortless. Two giant hearts gradually cook over the fire, transforming from organs into delicious dishes. A faint smile appeared at Ling Xiao's mouth, different from the ecstasy he felt when acquiring the cultivation method. This smile was calm and content. After cooking, he condensed magical energy into a blade and lightly sliced off a small piece. The moment he tasted it, the aroma exploded on his taste buds and surged straight to his brain. He nodded slightly, satisfied. At this moment, the young time-space dragon trapped within the temporal barrier was staring at him intently, drooling profusely. The young dragon felt an intense bitterness in its heart. This person had cruelly slaughtered its kind and even made a meal from the corpses. But strangely, it inexplicably found that scent extremely enticing, more fragrant than anything it had ever eaten, even surpassing the rich life elements here. It could only forcefully turn its head, not daring to look again, as if this could hide the fact that it was drooling. Ling Xiao didn't care about this useless cub at all, showing no emotion. After a satisfying meal, he leisurely wiped his mouth, slowly sat down, and his body frantically absorbed the heart of the spacetime dragon he had just swallowed. The richness of the spacetime elements contained within the heart shocked Ling Xiao. He focused his mind to mobilize the spacetime elements within his body, guiding the newly acquired elements to find the correct circulation path, continuously breaking them down and digesting them, transforming them into his own power. After the fusion was complete, Ling Xiao opened his eyes, which sparkled with dazzling light. As expected, the precious tonic was extraordinary. Even though his control over the spacetime elements and regeneration speed had reached their peak, he still broke through his limits. Just like a cup full of water, ordinary elements are like water. When the cup is full, it overflows. But this foreign spacetime element forcibly creates new storage space inside the body, as if adding another cup beside the original one, greatly increasing capacity. Ling Xiao's gaze was fierce, coldly staring at the youngling, making it tremble all over. The youngling thought, is this person really crazy, even going after me? I'm still skin and bones. Can't you fatten me up before eating me? Fortunately, Ling Xiao only glanced at it briefly before looking away, clearly not intending to touch it for the time being. The cub felt slightly reassured, but endless worries arose again. After all, it was just food, nothing more in his eyes. Despair surged in its heart, tears welled up in its eyes, as if it had been sentenced to death from a young age. Ling Xiao waited quietly for 2 days. The trap remained silent, and the prey seemed increasingly patient. He could no longer bear to waste time and began to condense and replenish the surrounding life elements again. A rich and pure vitality spread within the area as he laid out a delicate and vast divine consciousness. Decided to first go to a nearby town to test out life. Can't keep wasting time here. As long as the time-space dragon appears, the set devices will definitely be triggered, allowing him to arrive first and trap the opponent. After confirming that all the mechanisms were correct, he turned and left. The first target is the small town in the southeast of this area. In a flash, he arrived, moving extremely fast. It neither delayed the hunt nor hindered the maximum exploration of the terrain. The small town appeared desolate in Ling Xiao's eyes, yet it was considered relatively large and populous among human settlements. After all, humans are now almost insignificant in the world. He looked at the deserted street stalls and shops, with more owners than customers. Those who could afford to open a store on their own were fortunate. Most could only spread cloths and set up stalls by the roadside. One by one, faces full of worry, yellow and thin, made people wonder if they would faint the next moment. The things they sold were naturally also. There was nothing good, just some low-level cultivation herbs, or even ordinary herbs, or farming tools and daily necessities. Ling Xiao had no interest and didn't stay long. His divine sense swept through the air, covering the entire town. He carefully observed every corner and found no danger or anything special here. He planned to find an inn to stay at first, but after walking for a long time, he realized that this desolate street, this barren village-like place, had no commercial inns open to the public at all. If you want to stay, you have to find a household to crash with. For Ling Xiao, there was a huge difference between staying indoors and sleeping outdoors. After all, it was a human habit. Camping outdoors in a settlement always felt uncomfortable. He scanned the details through the houses and finally stopped in front of a worn wooden door. This house is low and dilapidated, with a wooden door that is about to fall off. A light knock will make it come loose. According to the recent investigation, there was only an elderly woman inside the house, with obvious signs of living, clearly living alone. A set of bowls and chopsticks was placed on the table, and the room was filled with a cold and lonely atmosphere. He knocked on the door, and it was a long while before any sound came from inside. The door was opened by an elderly woman with a face full of wrinkles. At first glance, it seemed her life was nearing its end. Ling Xiao showed a kind smile. "Elder, I just arrived at this 440 and have nowhere to stay. Could I stay with you for 2 days?" He raised a small piece of spirit stone condensed with spiritual energy. Spirit stones can aid cultivation and serve as universal currency in any world. He instinctively wanted to gather a larger piece, but feared that the thin spiritual energy would make the old lady suspicious. For mortals, spirit stones can extend lifespan and even make her look 20 years younger. The old lady scrutinized him with dim eyes. Ling Xiao has a decent appearance, though not stunning. He exudes a righteous aura that commands respect. As expected, the old lady nodded. "All right, young man, come in." The house had obviously been inhabited by several people before. Now there were 2 or 3 empty rooms, enough for Ling Xiao to stay. The old lady said, "You live in that room over there. It used to be my eldest son's room. He has now achieved success and entered the palace in the capital to serve as the guardian of the high priest. The room has been vacant since then." Ling Xiao felt a stir in his heart. Perhaps the other party's son had seen him before. He gave a bitter smile, considering it fate. But that high priest was not a fair and wise man. This matter shouldn't be handled by himself, so he said no more. He smiled and replied, "You are truly fortunate. Your son is successful, and you will have a worry-free life from now on." The old lady gave a bitter smile. "Serving the high priest is a blessing. There's no need to ask for more. I am struggling to make a living now, and I do not have extravagant desires." Ling Xiao placed the spirit stone on the table, but the old lady didn't pay much attention to it. She originally thought she had seen good things before and didn't take it seriously, but it seems that was not the case. She simply didn't regard that spirit stone as important. Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. Even if it was fake, it could let him stay for 2 days. This old lady really is kind-hearted. He never showed mercy to those who treated him well. He secretly channeled spiritual power, sending a stream of spiritual energy from his fingertips to envelop the old lady's entire body. The spiritual energy was mixed with life elements, gently nourishing her, bringing only benefits without any harm. The old lady was completely unaware. With Ling Xiao's strength, hiding such a subtle skill was effortless. After chatting with him for a few sentences, the old lady suddenly felt her whole body relax, as if old ailments were fading away, and the world before her eyes became bright and clear. She thought to herself, indeed, after being lonely for so long, it's best to find a young person to talk to. Ling Xiao responded politely with a few words, then found an excuse to leave hastily and headed toward the house that had been vacant for many years, ready to tidy it up. He closed the door and thought to himself, if the old lady saw the dust in the room disappear on its own and the furniture looking brand new, would she think she had encountered some kind of demon or ghost? After all, superstition was deeply rooted in this world, and the title of Grand Priest sounded mysterious and unfathomable. What he called cleaning was actually him activating the time element, reversing the furniture and walls inside the house back to how they looked 10 years ago. Upon closer inspection, the furniture still bore heavy signs of use, clearly much older than 10 years. He then rewound time by another 10 years, restoring the furniture to 80% of its original condition before stopping. This was to ensure his own comfort while living there. Before leaving, he would reset the time inside the house back 10 years, making the place look refreshed without arousing the old lady's suspicion. Sitting on the clean and tidy bed, Ling Xiao began a new round of cultivation, merging the elements. But before cultivating, he first checked the traps set up at the border. No abnormalities were found. The young time dragon was still listless, its gaze wandering. He felt at ease and was about to start cultivating when he suddenly sensed intense turbulence in the surrounding space. This fluctuation was the same as before, but more violent. He could feel the rejection of the river of time, trying to correct his mistake. He immediately mobilized all his strength to resist. Fortunately, the recent days of hunting and using his heart had greatly increased the time element, ultimately turning danger into safety. He was drenched in sweat, breathing heavily. It has only been a few days since the last fluctuation. If this continues, he must speed up his cultivation. Here, every second is filled with life-threatening danger. Even if he can withstand the fluctuations, in a battle, a single strike from the opponent could be fatal. He cannot sit and wait to die. He must take the initiative to strike. He pushed open the door and stepped outside. He planned to explore around to see if there was any way to quickly improve his strength. He quickly mapped out the area in his mind, not just the city, but the entire human settlement, the whole kingdom. If he had to travel east or west in the future, at least he would know where was safe and where was easy to hide. After securing an escape route, he began to think about how to break through to the next level. He was somewhat confused in this regard. After all, he was now the strongest among the human race in this world, and even among the strongest beast tribes, he was considered top tier, able to rival the beast ancestors among the 10 divine beasts. He was unsure whether visiting the cultivators would be meaningful, but still holding on to hope. Perhaps the lack of spiritual resources here is what caused the lag in strength. Maybe their martial skills and weapons are not as inferior as he imagined. After all, in ancient times, he had also discovered the peerless technique called Tianma Flowing Spirit Slash. At this point, with nothing to lose, he immediately took action. People from different feudal classes lived in complete completely different houses. This was not only determined by wealth but also strictly regulated by rights and laws. No matter how wealthy, the houses of commoners were never luxurious and had limited space. This invisibly helped him lock onto his target. He first set his sights on a temple in the neighboring city. From afar, it was resplendent with gold and jade, featuring a unique architectural style. The only similarity with other cultivation sects was its vast scale and magnificent buildings. The dome at the top was in its initial form, revealing an extraordinary status. This time, Ling Zhao's vision was precise. This was none other than the famous cultivation sanctuary outside the capital, Deguang Temple. Deguang Temple had many enlightened monks and was said to have been inspired by a great Buddha who descended to the mortal realm. The founding abbot ascended through this cultivation method and comprehended the great way. Countless gifted individuals flocked here, accumulating strength over thousands of years. Deguang Temple became a sacred place of faith for the masses and a strategic point fiercely contested by warriors. Mastering it means controlling the people's faith. But to Ling Xiao, none of that mattered. What he valued were the cultivation methods and the power enhancement within. Did you think he would pretend to be homeless and beg for shelter like he did with the old lady just now? Absolutely not. Such a high-level sacred place would never accept vagrants. If he brought treasures to trade, he might instead be killed for them. He had seen too much cruelty from the powerful and knew better than to hold any illusions. His method was simple: steal. But stealing too blatantly easily leaves evidence. He is not afraid of trouble, but knows how to act low-key, avoiding any display whenever possible. With his strength, the heavily guarded Dagwang Temple is like his own backyard. He comes and goes freely, silently, even more skillfully than the abbot. With his profound skills, finding the library, cultivation room, and treasury was effortless, not even requiring the use of divine sense. As long as he observed places with dense guards and luxurious decorations, the target was immediately clear. People in this world, no matter how high their status or how strong their cultivation, always love to flaunt their wealth and power openly, as if they wanted to hang golden threads from their eyelids to show off. They are incredibly formidable, unafraid of being coveted. Anyone who dares to come will surely die. As for those who are unmatched, they aren't even worthy to glance at their possessions. The wealth of top nobles rivals that of nations, with extravagance and opulence even more excessive. They would never imagine someone like Ling Xiao, whose cultivation is unfathomable, yet acts modestly and without arrogance. Stealing things was easy for him. If he let loose, seizing the position of high priest or even proclaiming himself king would not be difficult. But Ling Xiao had no interest in this backward world, so what if he was powerful? It wasn't his world, and he would eventually return. He couldn't break through here, couldn't unleash his true potential, nor see his limits. Even becoming a superior being was not his goal, so he only wanted to achieve his purpose in the fastest and simplest way. The teleportation skill was activated, and with a swish, he had already slipped into the library. He had received a good education since childhood and was resolute in his heart. The most precious things are always knowledge and power. Skills are merely external possessions. Only the knowledge in the mind can never be taken away. This library is vastly different from the Demon Clan's library. The Demon Clan's library has evolved over 100,000 epochs, shining brilliantly. But here, the library of Daiguang Temple resembles those old, dilapidated bookstores on Earth. The lighting is dim, and the shelves are filled with yellowed, moldy paper books, quietly telling tales of history's vicissitudes in rows. Since the day he crossed over, he had never seen such ancient books. A wave of emotion surged in his heart as he casually pulled out a book, feeling the real texture of turning its pages. It was as if the Earth's memory buried deep within the soul was being awakened. Ling Xiao suddenly felt that this slow-paced reading also had its unique charm. If time allowed, he would be willing to read these ancient books page by page in detail. But now, time was tight and life hung by a thread. Fierce tigers and wolves relentlessly pursue, and he must devour this knowledge at the fastest speed, integrate and comprehend thoroughly, and mature in application as soon as possible. The path of cultivation never gave him a chance to catch his breath, but he actually enjoyed this unstoppable feeling, as if he was destined to walk this path from birth. If he could not cultivate, that would be the regret of his entire life. He activated his spiritual awareness and quickly read the pages. The book automatically turns pages on the table, without any wind. If seen by outsiders, they would surely be amazed. The content of a book can be fully absorbed by him in just 30 seconds. The collection of books at Daiguang Temple is vast as an ocean of smoke, mostly scriptures, which do not require detailed reading. However, various cultivation methods and martial techniques still require time to digest. Even so, he still spent 2 or 3 hours reading through all the valuable content. Closing the last book, he let out a long breath. That feeling of exhilaration after studying was irresistible. Sure enough, coming here was definitely the right choice. Human wisdom is the strongest weapon. Although the highest cultivation technique here is only at the 14th level, and there is no top-tier existence he has seen, the coverage is broad, and the cultivation methods are novel, which amazed him greatly. This opened up a whole new approach for his subsequent cultivation. In contrast, the secret manuals passed down through later generations are all the same, rigid, and stereotyped. Ling Xiao nodded with satisfaction, as if he had eaten and drunk his fill. He left the library and headed straight for the treasure vault. In warfare, one must first sharpen their weapons. The treasure trove made him feel somewhat bored. Most of the weapons here were below the 12th tier, failing to pique his interest. Even a few high-tier weapons of the 14th or 15th tier were not enough to catch his eye. But he didn't care. He has the support of the system, so he is not afraid of low-level weapons, only weapons without potential. He only chose weapons above the 14th tier and those with great potential. Scattered here and there were about 200 pieces in total, a fruitful harvest. Among them, a few caught his eye. A 14th level demon-slaying palm, an 11th level peak, incredibly potential begging bowl. This bowl is somewhat like the soul-sucking gourd in Journey to the West, but more advanced. It can directly pull people inside without calling their names or needing their consent. On the battlefield, shouting the enemy's full name is highly lethal, and no one would agree to it. Those who are pulled in will gradually have their abilities weakened within a time limit, eventually melting their physical bodies. This is an extremely terrifying weapon. Only because the level was too low, and there was no high-level force here, its power could not be fully unleashed. A highly skilled user was actually restricted in their performance, greatly diminishing their strength. If this treasure fell into their own hands, it would be like a tiger with wings, greatly boosting their combat power. The other treasures were also good, but time was tight and the tasks were heavy. Ling Xiao didn't examine them one by one, only selecting the suitable ones and throwing them all into his own space to study carefully later. After thoroughly searching the two treasure sites, Ling Xiao was quite satisfied and felt it wouldn't be a loss to leave now. However, since he was here, how could he leave empty-handed? It would be best to take even the floor tiles to truly profit. So, he continued to roam around Diguang Temple, looking for more treasures. To the east, a group of monks were chanting scriptures. To the west, another group of monks were dining. There was no excitement at all, and not a trace of the grandeur expected from a prestigious sect. He simply turned around, ready to leave. This trip took quite a bit of time. It's better to finish early and go back to sleep. Otherwise, the old lady might suspect this young man stays overnight in one place but doesn't return until midnight every night. Is he up to some sneaky business? Ling Xiao flashed back to the old wooden door, knocked lightly twice, and waited a moment before the old lady opened the door to greet him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he went back to his room, closed the door, and began his favorite activity, sleeping. This simple action surprisingly made him feel a trace of warmth from home. Alone and stranded in the ancient times of 100,000 epochs ago, finding this sense of belonging was unexpected. Returning from a hard day's work outside, having someone waiting, a small house, and a peaceful sleep, no matter where he was, this was the greatest happiness. Ling Xiao was full of joy and quickly fell into a deep sleep. Little did she know that at this moment, the old lady's heart was surging with hidden turmoil. In her old age, her memory was fuzzy. She had forgotten the farewell when he left during the day. Gently knocking on the door with no response, worried that he was oversleeping and forgetting to eat, she pushed the door open. As the door opened, what came into view was a completely renewed room, starkly out of place with her own dilapidated old house. The tables and chairs were restored to like new, with no trace of bumps or missing corners, and the walls were clean and bright, leaving her so astonished she could hardly stand. Upon careful reflection, after Ling Xiao moved in, he first gave payment, and her own body felt much more comfortable. Although this house was new, it only brought benefits, with no sign of any harm. Her heart gradually relaxed as she murmured in shock, could this be the arrival of a deity, pitying us common folk? That old, withered heart surprisingly began to beat again, strong and passionate. The old lady was elderly and slow in thought, but she understood profound truths thoroughly. Having encountered countless people in her life, she could discern good and evil at a glance. She initially let Ling Xiao stay precisely to confirm he was a good person, never expecting him to exceed expectations. She was joyful in her heart but did not dare to show it easily. Seeing Ling Xiao deliberately hiding his identity, she also decided to cooperate and protect his secret. With a serious expression, she silently warned herself under no circumstances should she reveal the other party's identity and cause trouble. She kept hypnotizing herself. Ling Xiao was just an ordinary passerby, someone she took in out of pity. In a moment, she recalled the spirit stone that Ling Xiao handed over when he entered. She had originally thought it was a fake, but now it seemed to be a precious treasure that needed to be carefully kept. Her gaze swept over the table, where the gem lay quietly. Neither of the two people in the room paid it any mind, as if it were an ordinary trinket. The old lady dared not be negligent again and wished she could place it on the altar as an offering. She carefully pinched the spirit stone with her fingertips, wrapped it in a handkerchief, and took it back to the room to hide it. As soon as her hand touched the spirit stone, the gem emitted a faint glow. But the old lady's vision was dim, and she could only vaguely see that light. Naturally, she did not notice it. A faint glimmer flashed, and the spirit stone was restored to its original state. A trace of spiritual energy slowly seeped from the old lady's fingertips, gentle and delicate. Those who knew Ling Xiao's usually domineering cultivation methods would be shocked. It turned out that he was so gentle and meticulous with the wheat. All of this was a trap that Ling Xiao had long ago set up. Once the spiritual energy condenses and leaves his mind, it no longer belongs to him. At this moment, he was still sleeping soundlessly effortlessly, completely unaware. He trusted the old lady completely, leaving behind only a hidden vigilant spiritual awareness. Ordinary fluctuations could not wake him at all. In a daze, he dreamed back to that familiar void of darkness. A faint light flickered in the distance, forever out of reach. That darkness, which should have been eerie and terrifying, was unusually warm, as if it were the soul's resting place. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window, warm and gentle. Warm and comfortable, it made one want to continue sleeping. But Ling Xiao had a strong and resolute character, extremely disciplined, and would never waste precious time. He had to quickly improve his strength to cope with future changes and the time river fluctuations that could erupt at any moment. Today's goal, directly north of the town, the Taishu Palace spanning two towns. Taishu Palace is magnificent and grand, with an extraordinary aura, clearly different from the Diguang Temple sect visited yesterday. Religious beliefs are vastly different, and the cultivation systems are completely distinct. This was the first time Ling Xiao had seen a people with a cultivation system who worshipped gods and Buddhas. Perhaps because no one in their tribe had reached the ultimate realm, they placed their faith in gods and Buddhas. But these were not his main focus of study. Weapons and cultivation methods were. What disappointed him slightly was that during the morning exploration, no one had fallen into the traps. No prey for several days. The cultivation of time elements is still shallow, urgently needing a large amount of time elements from the spacetime dragon. After investigating the Taisu Palace, he planned to go back to enhance the trap's attraction and confinement power. In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao had already arrived in front of the Taisu Palace gate. His gaze swept over the heavy gate and sturdy city walls, a slight surprise in his heart. Rooms were densely packed, formations layered one upon another, the entire Taishu Palace wrapped up with utmost tightness. Outsiders found it hard to enter, not even a fly could get through. But Ling Xiao was not panicked. He knew all along that they could never be flawless, but that didn't stop him from entering. Might makes right. As long as the strength is sufficient, any complex formation is nothing more than a paper tiger. He summoned various elements within his body, simulating the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, adjusting the frequency of internal fluctuations. In his eyes, deceiving the formation was easier than bypassing the guards. These formations relied on spiritual energy and blood perception to detect intruders, yet blindly ignored the simplest outer shell judgment. The people here were too confident, not even setting up sentinels. Ling Xiao swaggered in, unnoticed by anyone. Cleverness can backfire on the clever. Today, he was going to give these young cultivators a lesson. This religion, Ling Xiao observed, had few passers-by but many houses. The bedrooms were fully equipped, as if a large number of homebodies lived there, eating, drinking, and relieving themselves all inside, trying not to go out. The sect's defenses automatically strengthened, with tightly controlled power suppression, making ordinary people reluctant to provoke them easily. As a result, they became complacent and content with the status quo. This brought great convenience to Ling Xiao's actions. These people have been safe for too long, becoming extremely numb. Ling Xiao remained slightly vigilant. He wondered to himself, such a backward, decayed, and powerless race could still survive peacefully to this day, showing no signs of fear of foreign invasion. This place was definitely not as simple as it appeared on the surface. What secrets were hidden here? Or perhaps, there was an unknown trump card? At this moment, he could neither discern nor needed to discern. Everything has been decided and become history. He is merely a fortunate witness, a bystander, powerless to change anything. Ling Xiao used his divine sense to try to locate the treasure vault and the library. Unlike the strict management of Diguang Temple, the Taisu Palace here appeared free and lax. There was no fixed treasure pavilion. Magical treasures and cultivation techniques were scattered in the hands of each person, allowing them to exert their value individually. The advantages are obvious. Each person has exclusive resources and focuses on cultivating their own techniques and weapons. The drawbacks are equally obvious. Resources are difficult to share, cultivation methods may not suit individuals, and it is hard to reach the peak of cultivation. For Ling Xiao, this meant that if he wanted to collect all the cultivation techniques, he would have to search each house one by one, which was extremely tedious. He felt a sudden impulse to break in violently, tear the house apart, and force them to bring the treasured secret manuals to him. Calmly reflecting, stay steady, stay calm. Enter the village silently, now is not the time to show off. With limited time, he pinpointed a few of the most valuable rooms in the vast crowd. A simple search found 5 cultivation methods and 13 high-level weapons. In a bad mood today, he swept everything away without reservation. The only advantage of this method is that there is no need to select. Items from prestigious and high-ranking families are bound to be top quality. All 13 treasures are above the 14th tier. The ancient books and cultivation methods each have their own focus, with both grade and quality being excellent. Among them, 3 have enormous potential, giving him a slight sense of comfort. After feeling satisfied, Ling Xiao left this dilapidated place. After waiting for a moment, he saw a few people turn around and discovered that the cultivation methods and treasures had vanished without a trace. He secretly rejoiced, thinking it would be amusing if they were frantic. After all, the items were hidden too scatteredly. No wonder they were stolen. With little consumption, an early return journey, and good weather, he muttered to himself, the sunlight is just right, and the breeze is gentle. With nothing urgent, I strolled along the road, carefully appreciating the ancient scenery, knowing that this view would be hard to see in the future. I pondered in my heart, after returning, I would first activate the execution god tower to eliminate the remaining demon gods in the demon domain. I wondered if the demon gods over there were still sealed. How long could the recently cultivated time element seal last? Would someone else break into the ancient universe and see the sealed demon gods? Suddenly, a burst of children's shouts interrupted the thoughts. Quick, hit her. She's the one who stole our things. Ling Xiao turned around and saw several richly dressed children beating up a frail child, their curses non-stop. You stole our things. I wouldn't even feed this to a dog. Master Li's things, you dare steal them? Don't want to live anymore? The shouts of insults rose one after another. Ling Xiao glanced around indifferently, his brows slightly furrowed. The children who were hitting others were dressed extravagantly, clearly from wealthy families. On the ground, that skinny figure, with a pale face and dirty clothes, almost blending into the dirt, was breathing weakly, as if about to die at any moment. Is Ding still alive? Ling Xiao originally wanted to rush forward to save him, but suddenly stopped in his tracks. The situation was far more complicated than he had anticipated. The child on the ground neither cried nor begged for mercy. She lifted her face, pale and bloodless, but those eyes burned with a fierce light. That look, Ling Xiao recognized it at a glance. This child is not simple. She has ambition and an unyielding spirit. Even after being beaten like this, she did not bow her head or cry out. Her eyes showed endurance and fierceness. Ling Xiao knew clearly in her heart that this child would definitely make those who bullied her pay a heavy price in the future. Why did Ling Xiao see through it so clearly? Some say, seeing through a person at a glance is because you are too alike. That's right. Ling Xiao has always repaid kindness with kindness and enmity with enmity. Anyone who bullies him, suppresses him, or hurts him ultimately meets a bad end. He doesn't see this as evil, but as human instinct, something natural and justified. He hated weakness, hated those who only knew how to cry and whimper, powerless to resist. So, he admired this child. Ling Xiao did not immediately take action to drive away the group of bullies. He slightly raised his hand, summoning a gust of fierce wind. The wind suddenly rose, causing the children to stagger unsteadily, closing their eyes and struggling to hold on. This was an opportunity created for the child on the ground. He wanted to see what she would do. The child did not disappoint him. She did not choose to stand up. She was thinner and weaker than them, and standing up would surely make her fall. Taking advantage of the swirling wind, she suddenly grabbed a handful of sand and fiercely threw it into the faces of everyone around her. The sand and gravel stirred up, obscuring their vision. A group of children immediately wailed, rubbing their eyes, struggling to open them. Her eyes were dry and stinging, the wind blowing even more fiercely, mingling with cries and coughs. Taking advantage of the chaos, she grabbed one ankle after another, yanking them backward and throwing them to the ground one by one. Her eyes were bloodshot like fire as she picked up stones and hurled them fiercely at the fallen enemies. She didn't care about the consequences at all, only wanting them to pay a bloody price. Ling Xiao watched, his heart shaken. This fierceness was both heartbreaking and admirable. A smile lifted the corner of his mouth. This child was truly a top-notch ruthless character. He withdrew the gale. Several children were already battered and bruised, lying on the ground wailing loudly. The earlier appearance of bullying the weak and overpowering the few was completely gone. Instead, the child who was so frail that he could barely stand had a calm and composed face, as if he had long been prepared to face the crazy retaliation. Ling Xiao walked straight to her side and examined her carefully. Her hair was long and messy, in keeping with the custom of both men and women wearing long hair in this era. From a distance, Ling Xiao didn't recognize her. She was actually a girl. The harsh environment had worn her down deeply, and the toughness she carried completely overshadowed the softness of a woman. No matter what, Ling Xiao decided to save her. He even wanted to take her as a disciple. Fate is mysterious. Ling Xiao had never thought about taking on disciples, but when he saw her, it was as if he saw himself from years ago. He couldn't help but want to give her a hand, to help her step onto a higher level and no longer suffer. A complex emotion surged in his heart, perhaps anger. Why had no one helped him like this back then? Ling Xiao acted first. He summoned the life element formed by the fusion of death and reincarnation powers within him, mixed it with spiritual energy, and infused it into the girl's body. The warm spiritual energy instantly filled her entire body. That feeling was indescribable, as if embraced by a warm current, incredibly comfortable. Warm flows permeating every cell. Her body had never felt such power before. With the infusion of life elements, her entire body surged with strength. If those children still had the heart to pay attention to her, this content is not yet complete. He would definitely be shocked by her appearance. This little girl was not born gray and dirty after all. Now, that once frighteningly thin face gradually became fuller. The originally pale complexion regained a fair glow tinged with rosy hues. The whole person transformed from a withered corpse into a delicate, pretty little girl, radiating a cool and elegant aura. She finally restored her normal physical state, struggling to support herself with her hands and slowly rising. Her newly reborn limbs were not yet agile, making her movements clumsy. Tentatively taking a few steps, her footsteps wavered and occasionally faltered. Obviously, she hadn't walked so uprightly like this for a long time. She opened her bright eyes wide, staring intently at Ling Xiao, her eyes shimmering with gratitude and hope. She struggled to control her unfamiliar limbs, slowly knelt down, and repeatedly kowtowed. The sound of her forehead hitting the ground was crisp and loud, as if only this could express her overwhelming gratitude. Ling Xiao didn't let her stay down for long and promptly reached out to help her up. He asked, "What is your name?" The little girl answered, "My name is Yu Hong." "Yo Hong, are you willing to cultivate with me? I can go meet your family and discuss it with them. I am very powerful, and I can make you as strong as I am." She was so excited that she almost wanted to kneel again, but Ling Xiao firmly supported her, preventing her from kneeling. She shouted eagerly, "Willing, absolutely willing. I have no parents, no need to discuss. From now on, you are my master. Please let me follow you." Ling Xiao looked up, carefully examining the child in front of him. The more he looked, the more satisfied he became. Around 13 or 14 years old, yet stronger than all the girls he had seen in his previous life. Her age and appearance always reminded him of his sister, but he knew clearly in his heart that she was completely different from his sister. Although his sister was an orphan, she had enough to eat and wear, and a brother like him to protect her. But this little girl truly had nothing. No father, no mother, no friends, not even a healthy body. He gently touched her head and said, "Since you've become my apprentice, I won't treat you unfairly. Come with me." Taking her hand, he walked towards the old lady's house. Considering her frail condition, he did not teleport and slowed his pace. Even so, the girl still had to exert effort to keep up. Her determined character and exceptional comprehension quickly became apparent. Before long, she completed all the rehabilitation training. Although she was not walking swiftly, her gait was like that of a normal person, indistinguishable from others. Because of their slow pace, they did not arrive at the old lady's doorstep until dark. The sound of knocking rang out, and the old lady seemed to have been waiting for a long time. She quickly responded by opening the door. "Why are you coming back so late tonight?" She then added with self-reproach, "I'm not questioning your whereabouts, it's just that the night outside is dangerous, so try not to be out at night." Yesterday, Ling Xiao did not know that the old lady had already noticed his identity, but today he could tell a little from her attitude. At first, the old lady regarded him as a young man who needed care. Now, her attitude was more respectful, as if placing him in a high position. He understood that the old lady had noticed something unusual but did not investigate further. The old lady was kind-hearted, and even knowing the truth, she treated him very well, so both parties chose a tacit silence. Ling Xiao said to the old lady, "This is a little girl I found on the road today. Seeing her being bullied, she looked so pitiful, so I brought her back to stay for a couple of days. I'll take care of her like a sister and will take her away when I leave. Sorry to trouble you for now." The old lady smiled. "It's only right, it's only right." She looked up and carefully glanced at Yu Hong behind her. The little girl had fair skin, a rosy complexion, and a healthy, delicate body. However, her clothes were worn out and had not been washed for a long time, making her look dirty. She silently speculated. Could it be that this girl was actually a fallen noble? Could there be a blood connection between Ling Xiao and her? The more she thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. Her alertness suddenly heightened, and she dared not show the slightest negligence. He looked up, staring at Ling Xiao, his tone firm. "This girl has clear, dewy skin and bright eyes. Even if you didn't bring her, I still like her very much. Don't worry, if you're busy these days, I will definitely take good care of her." Ling Xiao's lips curled into a cold smile, thinking that as long as the old lady accepted her, it was fine. Yu Hong didn't need much care anyway. She came from a tough background, whereas the old lady was elderly and had difficulty moving. It was she who should be taking care of the old lady. Suddenly, Ling Xiao's heart jolted. Her expression changed drastically, and she immediately became as cold as ice. This sudden change startled both the old lady and the girl, who turned their heads. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Ling Xiao said in a calm voice, "There's an emergency outside. I'll go take a look. Don't worry, I'll be back soon." Before he finished speaking, he stepped out the door and quickly turned the corner, out of sight of the old lady and the girl. In an instant, he teleported directly toward the trap that had long been set. His face had just changed drastically because his spiritual sense detected an anomaly. That densely woven net of traps was finally about to catch the prey he had been waiting for. There was no time to waste. If the time barrier on the wall couldn't contain the monster, it would escape. Ling Xiao didn't hesitate or even bother to explain. He headed straight for the trap. The old lady and the girl sensed something unusual early on but were not overly alarmed. Before their eyes, the colossal time dragon violently struck the barrier of time, struggling frantically in an attempt to break free. Ling Xiao quickly gathered time elements and spiritual energy with both hands, reinforcing the time barrier to its utmost strength. At the same time, he infused intense destructive elements, filling the sealed space with a black aura, like a black tide engulfing everything. The temporal dragon felt the oppressive force of destruction, though it did not understand its meaning. It sensed it was a harbinger of death. It spun wildly, crashing like a trapped beast struggling. The sound of impact was deafening, blood splattered, yet the barrier remained unmoved, like a coffin tailored to fit. Desperate roars echoed through the space, destructive elements devoured every inch like a tide. The dragon was mercilessly consumed, its painful roars gradually weakening until silence fell. Another powerful temporal dragon fell into Ling Xiao's palm. He clapped his hands in satisfaction, reaping a great reward. Based on experience, this dragon's strength far surpasses the previous two. It is older, and its space-time elements are more intense. Unable to wait, Ling Xiao opened the barrier and took out the dragon's body. He skillfully condensed magical energy into a blade, slashed down the giant dragon's neck with one cut, sliced open the abdomen, peeled back the chest, and took out the heart. The movements were swift and precise, the wound neat like a work of art. Since arriving here, Ling Xiao had hardly paid any attention to the little cub imprisoned there. The cub had long since become numb, witnessing countless mighty dragons meet tragic deaths, their chests cut open to extract hearts, which were then turned into delicacies. It trembled and then lifted its eyes, facing the sharp blade in Ling Xiao's hand approaching. It showed not a trace of fear. Living in this cruel world, imprisonment was like a sentence, tormenting its mind and spirit. As a highly intelligent temporal dragon, prolonged confinement had nearly broken its spirit. It often faintly hoped for Ling Xiao's appearance. Even if it was the butcher's figure, it could still bring a glimmer of life. This time, it sat quietly, its eyes cold and indifferent as if watching a play, yet filled with endless fatigue. Ling Xiao skillfully heated the pan, poured the oil, and sprinkled the seasonings. The simple cooking techniques combined with top-quality ingredients filled the air with aroma. Watching him eat with such enjoyment, the taste was definitely amazing. After the meal, waves of scorching flames burned inside his body, scorching his internal organs, yet bringing immense energy and excitement. Ling Xiao quickly activated his strength, attempting to extract energy from the flames and merge it into his body. This time, however, it was much more difficult than before. The power of the temporal dragon was stronger, and the flames were filled with resistance, unwilling to submit easily. Ling Xiao sneered coldly, "Your master died before me, becoming my food, and you still want to resist?" The spiritual power on his body suddenly surged, merging with the ice element, cold and moist. The ice melted into warm water under the scorching sun, forming channels of flowing water that confined the flames. Fire and water are naturally opposed, but the ice master's strength was superior, forcing the flames to follow the water paths without resistance. The flames dispersed, the fire on the chest eased, transforming into waves of heat flowing through the meridians, burning the entire body. The fire gradually weakened, finally emitting a hoarse cry, like a powerless scream of despair. After the flames were completely absorbed, Ling Xiao stood up, moving his limbs, feeling his strength replenished and his body temperature rising. More importantly, he sensed the time element connecting with him more closely, as if resonating with the river of time. This is shocking. He has touched the emotional connection between heaven and earth, surpassing the realms of many deities. Ling Xiao pointed to the ground, and the grass withered and became barren instantly. He smiled with satisfaction. Although he could do this before, this time he did it without using the time element, relying solely on his mind. He was ecstatic inside, proving that his control over the time element had reached a new level. If caught in the river of time, he could protect himself and would not be torn apart or disappear. He manipulated the time element, making the plants flourish, wither, and regenerate repeatedly, testing the limits. The vast plain grassland had limited targets, and he quickly fixed his gaze on the time-space dragon hatchling that had been trapped for a long time. The dragon hatchling, seeing him focus on itself, felt both fear and hope. Trapped for too long, if Ling Xiao had no intention of releasing it, it could only be confined here to death, eventually driving it mad or causing death. In these days, the dragon had witnessed Ling Xiao's strength and ruthlessness, knowing that if slaughtered, he would show no mercy. Sure enough, the light in Ling Xiao's hand flickered as he slowly flew toward the hatchling. The dragon tightly closed its eyes, waiting for death to come. However, time passed second by second, 30 seconds, and nothing happened. He finally mustered the courage to open his eyes and looked straight at Ling Xiao, who was full of confusion. Ling Xiao did indeed make a move, but it was not to kill him. Rather, it was to test his control over the element of time, to see if this young spacetime dragon could grow into a true spacetime dragon. Obviously, the effect was negligible. The main reason is that the temporal dragon has an innate unique perception of the time element, making it difficult for ordinary time manipulation to affect it. Just like bear paws are nourishing, but growing on a bear doesn't necessarily make the bear stronger. Although Ling Xiao felt a bit disappointed, he hadn't held much hope for a long time. After all, he hadn't decided how to deal with this cub. Eating it would be wasteful, and not eating it served no purpose. Now he finally thought of a good solution. He plans to give this time-space dragon to his newly accepted apprentice. The apprentice and the elderly woman she lived with both lacked the ability to protect themselves. This young temporal dragon, though a mere chicken rib to Ling Xiao, was definitely a top-tier powerhouse in the human kingdom where they lived, sufficient to ensure their safety. Moreover, he will later strengthen his disciple's physique and teach cultivation methods, so this world will surely witness the disciple rapidly rising to become a powerful figure. Ling Xiao lifted the spacetime barrier and released the young dragon. The young dragon was both surprised and excited, yet too scared to run away. It knew that Ling Xiao was unwilling to let it go, and fleeing would only mean certain death. It stood still, staring at Ling Xiao, testing his intentions. Ling Xiao waved his hand to signal, and the young dragon immediately understood, trotting over to his side with small, puffing steps. Ling Xiao gently stroked its head, and the young dragon trembled, not daring to hide. Hostility instantly transformed into trust between superior and subordinate. Ling Xiao re-established a broader and stronger space space-time barrier, replenishing the life elements that had dissipated due to dilution. With the new favorite, he returned to the old lady's house. This time, when he knocked, the response was quick. The footsteps inside were light and brisk, clearly not the old lady. It was the little girl who had just arrived who opened the door. The girl stared at him with bright, sparkling eyes. Ling Xiao looked down at her and saw that the old lady was taking care of her attentively. The girl was no longer dirty and ragged. She wore a navy blue garment made from old fabric, washed clean and tidy. Now she looked like an ordinary girl next door, no longer fierce in her eyes, but instead showing gentleness. Ling Xiao patted her head contentedly and smiled. "Yu Hong, are you happy living here?" Yu Hong smiled like a blooming flower. "Very happy. Grandma is very kind to me." "Thank you, master." The old lady also came over, her steps much lighter. Ling Xiao knew that this was the effect of the spiritual power he had previously infused and the spiritual stone. The old lady looked much younger than when they first met. Her stooped back straightened, and her complexion was rosy. In a few more days, as she absorbed more spiritual energy, she would look even younger. Ling Xiao thought to himself that those things could at least restore her to the state of a 30-year-old. The old lady asked with concern, "Why are you only coming back now? It's already dawn. The night outside is indeed dangerous. Next time, if you can handle things during the day, do so." The long-lost concern from his elder made Ling Xiao's heart swell with warmth. He didn't feel annoyed at all, only happiness. He nodded and replied, "Got it. I will never go out at night again." In his heart, he thought, next time at night, I will definitely use teleportation to go directly from my room, so they won't have to worry. The young space-time dragon behind him had waited for a long time but was still not mentioned, anxiously poking its head out, instantly attracting the attention of Yu Hong and the old lady. Both of them were startled. Although the dragon was not ugly or fierce-looking, its massive body paired with two large yellow lantern-like eyes, which had cold blue vertical pupils, still gave off an unusual feeling. Fortunately, it was only a cub, its size had not yet expanded, and its scales had not become sharp and rough, making it somewhat acceptable to ordinary people. Ling Xiao slapped the cub on the head and said sternly, "Who told you to stick your head out and scare people?" The cub lowered its head and crouched to the side, looking very aggrieved, like a little daughter-in-law who had been wronged. The old lady and Yu Hong looked at each other, neither of them speaking. They both knew that Ling Xiao was no ordinary person. Strange things happening to him were not surprising. As long as no one was harmed, it was fine. The old lady pretended not to notice and continued to take care of Ling Xiao and Yu Hong. Yu Hong's eyes sparkled as she stared at the time-space giant dragon cub, which was even taller than Ling Xiao, full of curiosity. She looked up and asked, "Is this the master's spirit beast? I've never seen it before. It looks so majestic." Ling Xiao looked into her eyes and found a strong desire and courage hidden within. It seems she really isn't afraid. Wanting to get close to the temporal giant dragon makes things easier. Giving her a giant dragon spirit beast will be much more convenient. Ling Xiao grabbed the unsteady cub that had stumbled and knelt before Yu Hong. The giant dragon's eyes were full of confusion. Ling Xiao said bluntly, "From now on, he belongs to you." She raised her hand and carved a seal on the giant dragon. This seal comes from the secret technique of the Taisu Palace, extremely cruel and ruthless, a soul chain binding master and servant. Once the master falls, the one sealed will inevitably be reduced to ashes. Even more terrifying is that as soon as the dragon harbors betrayal, it immediately suffers excruciating pain as if ants are gnawing at its heart. Whether it is physical harm, betraying its master, or being under house arrest, it cannot escape. This seal can be sensed by both master and servant, carrying profound significance. Yu Hong obeyed her master without resistance, while the dragon was powerless to resist. In less than 3 minutes, the seal was securely completed. Ling Xiao clapped his hands. "All right, he will never betray you. From now on, he is your most loyal spirit beast." Yu Hong hugged Ling Xiao's arm excitedly, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, master, you were so kind." Ling Xiao saw her smiling brightly and felt a warmth in his heart. This girl was becoming more and more like a real little sister. Having escaped hardship and difficulty, she finally became an ordinary little girl. Although the old lady did not understand the details, she knew in her heart that Ling Xiao had given the powerful spirit beast to Yu Hong and had used a special skill to lock its loyalty. She admired Ling Xiao even more, thinking that this person was even more formidable than she had imagined. Casually deciding the fate of the spirit beast and using a unique skill to make it submit to an ordinary girl was simply a miracle. She secretly compared Ling Xiao to the high priest, and if he were not so low-key, she would truly want to worship him as a deity. The old lady was not a fool either. The recent obvious changes in her body were all thanks to Ling Xiao. Unable to repay, she could only help with some chores and take care of her apprentice. She felt like a believer blessed by the gods. A new day had just begun, and Ling Xiao was in excellent physical condition. Even staying up all night was no problem. He decided to start seriously teaching his apprentice from today. Since he had taken someone in, he had to be a responsible master. Having him as a master, one would definitely be the luckiest disciple in the world, fully blessed with benefits. Ling Xiao pulled his disciple Yu Hong along, and 2 or 3 figures flickered, instantly appearing in a wide open meadow. This place was far from the area where he usually hunted, and Yu Hong couldn't see the direction at all. The spacious, deserted clearing was an excellent training ground. Ling Xiao instructed Yu Hong to sit cross-legged and and close her eyes to meditate. Then he summoned the system himself. The system immediately responded. Ding, Master, please give your command. Scan her body's vulnerabilities, Ling Xiao said coldly. Ding, starting scan. Ding, scan complete. Number of vulnerabilities, 164.2 billion. Hidden attribute, death element. Vulnerabilities can be fixed. Hidden attribute can be awakened. Execute, repair and awakening? Ling Xiao's brows slightly raised, a shock stirring in his heart. He had admired Yu Hong's character and talent, but he never expected her to possess such profound potential within, harboring a hidden attribute never before heard of. He asked the system eagerly, what does hidden attribute mean? Does everyone have it? Why don't I have it? The system explained, hidden attributes are extremely rare talents. Only 1 in 10,000 people can perceive certain elements. Once awakened, their cultivation level far surpasses ordinary people. However, the vast majority can never awaken them in their lifetime, so their effect is limited. The probability of awakening is extremely low, but with a master like Ling Xiao, success is almost guaranteed. Even without hidden attributes, Ling Xiao plans to teach her some elemental power to aid her growth. He ordered, fix the vulnerability immediately and activate the hidden attributes. Ding, the vulnerability has been fixed. To awaken hidden attributes, a cultivator with the same attribute must provide guidance. Ding, repair result, innate supreme body. Ling Xiao nodded with satisfaction. Although Yu Hong did not know what had happened, she firmly trusted her master and sat cross-legged. She felt a tremendous transformation within her body. Opening her eyes to look around, her appearance was unchanged, yet she was completely renewed, as if reborn. She stared intently at Ling Xiao, her eyes filled with complex emotions. From having nothing to now possessing countless powers that others could only dream of. Although she didn't understand these, she knew they were not easily obtained, and even the high priest and the sect's strong figures would find it hard to reach such heights. Yu Hong was once an orphan, wandering from place to place. It is nothing short of a miracle that she has survived to this day. She endured relentless bullying in the past, and, without that deep-seated toughness, she would have long since perished in a foreign land. She doesn't even have a healthy body, let alone love, friendship, or family affection. Everything changed after Ling Xiao appeared. She gained a healthy body, earned respect, was taken back by her master, and the old lady's care filled the void of her lost family affection. Last night, she didn't even dare to close her eyes, afraid that this happiness was just a dream, and that upon waking she would return to her worthless identity, unable to get up. Closing her eyes, she hid her tears and carefully felt the changes in her body, vowing to remember this moment for a lifetime. Ling Xiao was unaware of the turmoil in her heart and continued to ask the system about the method to awaken hidden attributes. Although death elements were powerful, they were rare in the world, and the awakening threshold was extremely high. The system responded, she is sensitive to death elements, but requires the host to release a large amount of death elements for her to absorb and sense. Once the elements enter, they need to be guided and channeled for fusion. Ling Xiaoming understood, raising both hands, and the air immediately surged with a dense element of death. Yu Hong's whole body trembled violently, and a gleam of joy flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. The long-awaited miracle was about to unfold. The system is right. Normal people simply cannot sense the existence of these elements as they are inherently a part of the world. At this moment, Yu Hong felt the surrounding environment change abruptly. Although the sun was shining brightly and there was no wind, she suddenly felt the temperature drop sharply, as if falling into an ice cellar. She couldn't figure out the reason for this change, but her intuition told her it was her master's doing. Since her master had intervened, it would never be to her detriment. She remained silent, enduring quietly, carefully sensing the atmosphere around her. Suddenly, a chill of cold air pierced her skin, seeping in through every pore. At first, it stung slightly, then was swallowed by the cold, the stinging gradually fading away, replaced by numbness. After the cold completely penetrated her skin, warmth quietly rose again. That feeling was full of power, flowing rapidly within her body, like the energy her master had infused yesterday, but this time even more intense. If yesterday was warm water, today is boiling hot water. The high temperature did not burn or sting, it only made her body feel exceptionally hot. Cold and heat intertwined on the surface of her body, as if she were in a hell of ice and fire. As it penetrated deep into her internal organs, the burning sensation gradually subsided. Her body seemed to be divided into 3 layers, from the outside to the inside, undergoing a transformation to become a part of all things in heaven and earth. At this moment, the element of death rapidly spread, decomposed, and dissipated within her body, merging into every cell. It continuously absorbed, dispersed, and expanded in cycles, reshaping her body and making her stronger. Time passed, and the process finally ended. Ling Xiao was calm, but Yu Hong's face was flushed, and her breathing was rapid, as if she had just undergone intense exercise. Ling Xiao did not urge her, only quietly observed her recovery from the side. After a while, Yu Hong recovered from extreme exhaustion, touched her body, and a delighted smile appeared on her face. Master, I feel so much stronger. If those bad guys come to bully me again, I won't be afraid anymore. Thank you, Master. Ling Xiao smiled satisfactorily. Don't worry, you will only get stronger from now on. As my disciple, no one will be able to bully you. When you encounter those who bully you, remember to make them pay the price. advice. Yu Hong smiled brightly. Yes, I definitely will. At this moment, Yu Hong only knew that she had become stronger, but was unaware of the realm she had reached. In just 1 hour, Ling Xiao had elevated her from an ordinary person to a powerful being at the 6th level of the Domain Lord realm. Perhaps compared to her master, she was still weak, but in this world filled with ordinary people, where even the strongest were only at the peak of the eternal life level, she could already dominate a region. But Ling Xiao was still not satisfied. He believed that although the Domain Lord realm could protect her for a while, it was difficult to deal with more traps. In a short time, this was already the limit. He took out the intelligent brain from the space. In this era, he used the intelligent brain frequently, and after many trials, he found that its understanding of this world was exceptionally profound, even surpassing the system itself. Now, the intelligent brain had risen to level 17, making it the strongest auxiliary artifact in this world. Even in his own era, level 17 was considered legendary, enough to be a gift for his first disciple. He said nothing more and handed the intelligent brain to Yu Hong. Yu Hong took it, her face full of confusion. Master, what is this? How do I use it? Ling Xiao said calmly, if you don't understand something on the path of cultivation, just ask it directly. With its current rank, it can help you filter out suitable attack methods. With it by your side, your defense will also be somewhat guaranteed. Feel free to take it with you. I can't be by your side every moment, but with it here, I feel much more at ease. Ling Xiao did not reveal the value or rarity of this item, simply giving it to Yu Hong as an ordinary gift. If she knew its value, the girl might hesitate and feel burdened in her heart. Yu Hong, however, accepted it without reservation, her eyes sparkling as she toyed with it. Thank you, master, I will wear it all the time. To her, no matter what the master's gift was, it was incredibly precious. Ling Xiao looked at her, his smile growing even brighter, and he couldn't help but think of his sister far away. How is my younger sister doing now? Does anyone dare to bully her? With Ling Xiao's reputation, who would dare to easily bully his sister? After things temporarily settled, Ling Xiao sent Yu Hong back to the old lady's house. He didn't care where he was himself, but he couldn't just leave a young girl out on her own. After seeing Yu Hong off, he planned to continue exploring the famous sects and major schools here, visiting and exchanging skills, which would surely benefit him. But plans can't keep up with changes. Just as he arrived at the target sect and before any action could begin, Ling Xiao suddenly felt a familiar and intense fluctuation in the natural world. That's right, a time fluctuation. It came again. This time the fluctuation was unprecedentedly intense. Ling Xiao saw the earth shaking and mountains trembling, making the previous fluctuations seem insignificant in comparison. If it was a level 1 earthquake before, this time it was at least level 10. The scene before him twisted and deformed, houses swayed, the earth and sky intertwined and flipped, and the air thickened to the point of suffocation. His body and soul swayed uncontrollably, his center of gravity completely lost. He couldn't tell whether he was standing, floating, or falling. Everything before his eyes was in chaos. Only by exerting all one's strength, wrapping oneself layer by layer, can a thick defense be built. By placing the element of time at the forefront, a safe passage is opened in the long river of time. The process is extremely difficult. Although the power of time is strong, it is still like a rootless floating duckweed in the vast spacetime, drifting with the waves, thrown high and then falling heavily. Pioneering the path of time is like drilling holes in hard cement with a single hair. He gasped heavily, his head spinning violently. Suppressing the fainting, he used magic to cut a wound on his leg, using the intense pain to stay awake. He knew he absolutely could not fall asleep now, or he would never wake up again. He racked his brain for a way to escape, summoning layers of spatial elemental rings of varying sizes to surround him. Space and time elements are similar and interdependent. Severe fluctuations in space trigger time oscillations, and time turbulence in turn affects space. When the power of time is insufficient, the strong power of space is used to compensate, perhaps opening up a new path. Sure enough, the power of space surged, and the pressure around me immediately lessened. He continuously intensifies the output of time and space elements, intertwining and entangling them to form an indescribable power. Just like death and reincarnation merging, giving birth to the force of life. Ling Xiao gradually senses the collision and fusion of elements, giving rise to a new power never heard of before. Perhaps because very few people can master multiple elements to the extreme simultaneously, and they are compatible without conflict. This rule has been overlooked. At this moment, he clearly sensed the fusion of time and space elements, gradually solidifying. This was no longer a simple time barrier, nor a pure spatial shield, but an existence woven from time and space, making the entire space indestructible. Whether it was the constraints of external time or spatial limitations, both were firmly controlled by this force. Time elements could no longer penetrate this small space. In this way, he would no longer be torn to pieces by the rifts of time or space. Ling Xiao felt safe, the tension in his heart instantly released, and waves of pain and fatigue washed over him, his consciousness gradually fading. When he opened his eyes again, the world before him was completely different. He looked up toward the horizon, his gaze sweeping across the surroundings. This was no longer the country from before. He couldn't find the old lady's room, the environment was unfamiliar, and the plants and architectural styles were completely different. Recalling the experience of being swept into the river of time, he understood that he had traveled to to another time and space. A wave of emotion surged in his heart. He had just become somewhat familiar, had just taken on an apprentice, but hadn't had time to teach her before he traveled through time again. That unlucky apprentice truly had a tragic fate. If Yu Hong knew he evaluated her like this, she would definitely strongly refute it. In her eyes, he was the best master in the world, the most responsible mentor. Ling Xiao instinctively wanted to ask the AI about the current era, and at the same time gather information. Suddenly remembered, the AI had already been given to the apprentice. Turning to call upon the virtual universe, he had many treasures on him. Losing one was not a big deal. The virtual universe quickly responded, Master, the universe you are currently in is 30 billion years after the ancient era in which you once lived. Ling Xiao shook his head, not expecting that so much time had passed. The old lady who once took care of him and Yu Hong had probably long since passed away, and his heart inevitably grew somber. To him, the moment before he had just left them, and now they were long gone. How is the disciple now? Is he still alive? He once led her onto the path of cultivation. If she had exceptional talent and strong fortune, she might still be alive. Reality is harsh. The path of cultivation is extremely difficult. Resources were scarce in ancient times, and the class system was rigid. The apprentice was originally an ordinary person from the lower class. Without a master and lacking resources, it was difficult to rise. But Ling Xiao was unwilling to admit that the little girl who often smiled at him was gone. He could only silently pray that she was one of the lucky ones. After confirming the surroundings were safe, Ling Xiao sat down to check his body. Rolling through the long river of time was by no means easy. Even with strong power now, the body inevitably bore injuries. He mobilized the spiritual energy, demonic energy, and vital energy within his body, carefully examining every detail. Sure enough, he found remnants of time elements lingering in the corners of his body. He quickly surrounded and eliminated these remnants, removing any hidden dangers. After finishing, he stood up, ready to explore this new human kingdom. It is unclear whether this country has undergone changes or if he is already elsewhere. He teleported to the outskirts of a city and appeared, walking slowly forward. This city was more prosperous than before, with a completely new architectural style and noticeable changes in the residents' living habits. The productivity here had significantly improved, and the quality of life was higher, but social unrest had clearly intensified. The buildings, marked with traces of widespread attacks, show that former glory has been severely damaged. Although damaged, the houses have not been repaired. The streets are silent and deserted, yet there are still inhabitants. Having experienced countless storms, Ling Xiao immediately thought of war. But this was clearly not the fiercest battlefield. The disaster-stricken area, once affected, is now a scene of utter devastation. What on earth has this world undergone to change so drastically? For more details, Ling Xiao found a rundown bookstore in the city. A so-called bookstore was nothing more than a dusty, dilapidated room with the door half ajar. Inside, an old man sat quietly, his gaze fixed on an old book in his hands, clearly not enthusiastic about running the place, merely passing the time. Ling Xiao stepped in, and the old man glanced at him, a flicker of caution passing through his eyes. It's no wonder that those who can still live decently during war are mostly the powerful and prominent figures. Ling Xiao was dressed neatly and appropriately, his face unscathed, exuding a chilling murderous aura. If it were someone else stepping in with such an imposing presence, the old man would have long found an excuse to drive them away. But he let Ling Xiao in. Although possessing great power, Ling Xiao exuded the rationality and restraint of a civilized person. This temperament is distinctive, especially among the frenzied crowd in the midst of the flames of war, making it even more unique. The old man judged that Ling Xiao was the kind of expert who could crush his enemies with a smile but would never harm the innocent, so he took a gamble and let him in. More importantly, the old man was destitute, his children long since fighting on the battlefield, and he was left alone in the rear struggling to barely keep this shaky bookstore afloat. The old man said nothing, and Ling Xiao remained silent as well, simply lowering his head to browse for the books he needed. He first chooses contemporary literature. The more recent, the better it reflects the current situation. Then he selects historical materials, trying to piece together the truth of the past. Time passes, and events from 3 billion years ago have long since vanished. Records are scattered, and Ling Xiao has to piece them together from various sources. A book details the grudges between the human race and the beast race. The two tribes that once coexisted peacefully have now seen a sudden change in the situation. Hundreds of years ago, human power rose, and among the top forces appeared a mysterious female sovereign. Her background was a mystery, her strength astonishing, like a divine warrior descending from the heavens. With lightning speed, she seized control of the entire human kingdom, overthrew the decayed empire, unified the lands, and established a vast human nation. She also united the major sects and factions, creating the Cultivators Alliance. The Beast Clan, which once dominated the world, could not tolerate this sudden powerful enemy. One mountain cannot hold two tigers. A battle was inevitable. 200 years ago, the Beast Clan launched the first attack. The human race fought back fiercely under the leadership of Elder Muling. The strength gap between the two sides remained significant, although the overall power of the human race greatly increased after unification. Martial arts techniques and resources were no longer monopolized by the nobility but were distributed distributed based on strength and talent, resulting in a noticeable overall improvement. However, top-tier experts were still scarce. Besides Elder Muling, only Elder Shangbang and Elder Banju were slightly less powerful. Anyone familiar with the cultivation world knows that top-tier experts determine the course of war. A single strong expert is enough to overturn the entire situation. Human strong experts are few and far between, making it difficult to reverse the disadvantage. But the most unique trait of humans is their wisdom. Thus, a scene that shook the battlefield unfolded. A group of Beast Clan ancestors, clearly outmatched by human experts, were toyed with effortlessly, leaving them dizzy and burning with rage. They had once spent a fortune joining forces with several powerful warriors to ambush revered Muling, only to find that the one they struck was a mere clone illusion. With their entire force deployed and their rear left vulnerable, revered Muling led his troops in a feint attack, causing their forces to collapse into chaos with heavy casualties. The Beast Tribe's beastly nature had not faded. They were irritable and quick to anger. Seeing the situation, their fury blazed, vowing to strike straight into the human tribe's heartland. However, they were cunningly led astray by the deceitful human tribe. In a dense grassland, Ling Xiao unexpectedly encountered a mysterious, solid barrier, forcibly trapped inside, even losing an ancestor of the Beast Tribe. After several consecutive defeats in battle, the Beast Tribe was burning with anger but quickly learned their lesson. Even an earthworm, shocked 200 times, would learn to avoid it. Their intelligence far surpasses that of invertebrates. To counterattack, they massively recruited talented and extraordinary individuals among humans, enticing them to defect from the human race and become the sharp edge of the Beast Tribe. With this support combined with previous failures, the Beast Tribe finally reversed their disadvantage and was no longer easily crushed by the enemy. The two tribes have been stalemated for over 100 years. Recently, Elder Muling, due to severe injuries, must break through his realm to self-heal and enter seclusion for cultivation. This news was supposed to be confidential, but after 10 years of concealment, it could no longer be hidden. The Beast Tribe detected the secret of Elder Muling's inability to fight through subtle clues. The opportunity has come. How could they let a sick and weak enemy escape a crushing blow? The Beast Tribe immediately assembled a large army and launched a full-scale attack on the human empire. This offensive was unstoppable, and the human front line retreated step by step. The strategic high ground of the human race is where Ling Xiao is currently located. It is said to be Elder Muling's hometown and has become a key command center. Although the Beast Tribe was briefly driven out after invading, the scars of defeat still remain. Ling Xiao frowned tightly. Since the appearance of the Demon Clan, he surprisingly grew to hate this endless slaughter, so cruel and tedious. After understanding the situation, he condensed a piece of crystal-clear spirit stone and threw it to the shop owner at the door. Seeing the spirit stone, the owner's eyes flashed green light, respectful as if seeing a treasure. "Thank you, sir. Please come again. Whatever you need, just say it. I'll definitely help if I can." He was secretly pleased. Fortunately, he had let someone into the shop. Offering such a large piece of top-quality spirit stone casually meant the other party must be a top-tier expert. If such a person wanted to browse his collection of books, giving some reward was only natural. The owner hugged the spirit stone, his face full of pride, as if holding his own grandson. Ling Xiao stepped out of the shop and wandered the street, firmly believing that this was the very place where he had once paused. According to the clues, the mysterious barrier trapped by the Demon Clan was nearby. He guessed that this was the place where a trap had been set to hunt the time-space beast. Those invisible barriers were probably the time shields he had left uncleared back then. The rampant growth of plants must be the result of life elements nourishing them. He was surprised that Elder Mulong knew this place and could skillfully utilize it, clearly very familiar with it. But none of this was his current focus. He only wanted to find his beloved disciple, Yu Hong. The image of Yu Hong's face and smile flashed repeatedly in his mind. She was still by his side in the morning, but in the blink of an eye, it felt like a lifetime apart. Suddenly, a wave of intense heat surged in his chest. Ling Xiao thought it was an illusion, but he found the temperature growing stronger, as if something was attached to his heart. He focused and looked closely, discovering a tiny mark left in that piece of ruins. This trace of energy was the remnant of the contract he made back then with Yu Hong and the young temporal beast. Unexpectedly, all these powers carried the marks of history. He analyzed this trace of aura and sensed that Yu Hong still existed, and that the young hatchling of the small spacetime dragon was also still alive. Ling Xiao couldn't help but laugh out loud. Yu Hong was still alive, which meant she not only survived but had also cultivated to an extremely powerful level, able to endure for a long 3 billion years, something ordinary people simply could not achieve. His heart was full of joy and pride. I was right. My disciple is no ordinary person. I always believed she would succeed. Unexpectedly, she was braver, wiser, and more talented than he had imagined. To cultivate to such a realm and utter despair at the bottom of society without any help, even with the foundation he laid for her, it was extraordinarily difficult. No matter how turbulent the external situation was, he decided to follow this faint sense and find his precious disciple. After all, everything now had become history. The more he interfered, the more inappropriate it might be. His connection with Yu Hong spanned 3 billion years of time and space, inherently fragile fragile and faint, now even more elusive and hard to find. If not for their extremely high strength and unwillingness to sever contact, this faint sense would have long been worn away by time. Ling Xiao could follow this clue, but he couldn't see the end, like holding a red thread that only showed a meter away. If he wanted to know who was at the other end of the red thread, he had to move forward little by little. Only at the end could the answer be revealed. This greatly limited his speed. He couldn't teleport or move too fast, or the fragile sensing would break. Fortunately, the distance was not far. After more than 10 minutes, he finally caught a vague trace of the endpoint. Strangely, although the destination was not far from the city, it was extremely remote, even hidden as if deliberately concealed in a corner that ordinary people would never accidentally discover. He glanced around the area in confusion, thinking, my precious disciple actually came to this godforsaken place? The further he went in, the stronger the sensation became, not just because of the proximity, but also because the source had stayed here for a long time. Ling Xiao began to speculate, could she be hiding from something? He couldn't help but think of the information he had just gathered. A suddenly rising unknown supreme expert, originally without any background, just an unknown nobody. The capital was built here because it was the hometown of that revered Muling. More than 10 years ago, revered Muling was seriously injured and secluded himself for a long time to cultivate, and his disciple also lived here for a long time. A bold guess surfaced in his mind. Could his treasured disciple be the legendary revered Muling? Once this thought emerged, it seemed all the clues had answers. Why was she so familiar with the secrets of the spacetime barrier? Because he had taken her to that area and entrusted her with the young spacetime dragon that had been imprisoned for a long time. She is still alive to this day, and her strength is formidable, definitely not an ordinary person. People always have respectful titles for the strong and do not call them by their real names directly. It was normal that he couldn't recognize it immediately. He immediately quickened his pace, eager to uncover the truth. Revered Mulang only went into seclusion due to severe injuries, which indicates the wounds were no trivial matter. In the midst of chaotic war, still forcibly entering seclusion proves that the path to self-recovery is difficult. Relying solely on breakthrough advancement is unlikely to be effective, requiring a long time, and it is even uncertain whether success can be achieved. After all, reaching this level, improving strength is by no means easy, and not everyone can have a system cheat like Ling Xiao. Even if he had one, he would have to proceed steadily, cultivating step by step. The more he thought about it, the more anxious he became, as if he saw ahead a little girl looking up at him, tears in her eyes, full of grievance, waiting for him to rescue her, although he knew she would never easily show weakness. The image of his childhood remains vivid in his mind. Now he has grown into the master of the battlefield, commanding vast armies with ease. However, in Ling Xiao's eyes, that girl always remains as she was in his memory, the little girl who looked very much like his sister. Soon, he sensed the end. It was an inconspicuous stone wall that, if not looked at carefully, would be mistaken for an ordinary mountain and overlooked. Ling Xiao's divine sense penetrated the stone wall, revealing a vast hidden cave behind it, the very place he had been searching for so long. Standing at the cave entrance, Ling Xiao's heart tightened. The saying near the hometown, one feels timid, felt true and heavy at this moment. He did not know what kind of person he would face after knocking on the door. The gap between memory and reality had to be confronted in person. He used teleportation to enter the cave. The surroundings were dark and damp, with no sign of a powerful being's residence. According to legend, the revered Mu Ling lived in seclusion here. A pang of sympathy rose in Ling Xiao's heart. How could a girl endure such hardship? Under the dim light, he saw a person sitting against the stone wall. The darkness could not conceal the exhaustion all over her. Her appearance was calm, yet it hid deep wounds, with past pain clearly visible. Master Muling had been immersed in cultivation for many years, undisturbed during his seclusion, and was now in a deep sleep. Ling Xiao boldly approached, gently stroking her head, tender as in the past. Then, he summoned the system and ordered it to check Yohong's physical condition. The system responded, ding, command received, beginning target detection. Detection successful. Current realm is immortal realm, 8th heaven, with highest cultivation having reached 9th heaven. Due to excessive consumption and severe injuries, the realm has significantly declined. The body is an innate supreme physique, mastering dozens of advanced elemental powers such as destruction, death, and flame, all reaching a proficient level. Current condition is extremely dangerous, with severe overdraft damaging the foundation, hindering ability condensation and rebirth. Attempts to raise the realm for healing failed due to physical incapacity, worsening the injuries. Without external intervention, complete downfall is feared within decades. Hearing this, anger ignited in Ling Xiao's chest. His disciple, the treasure he held in the palm of his hand, had been repeatedly bullied. He had promised never to let her suffer even the slightest grievance, yet now he had failed to protect her. Fists clenched tightly, Ling Xiao whispered a vow to the sleeping Yu Hong. Rest assured, Master will help you seek justice. He asked the system, can she be repaired, healed, and her realm improved? The system replied, ding. Physical fitness can be enhanced, but the injuries cannot be fundamentally cured. It is not advisable to forcibly improve the realm in the current state. The risk is extremely high. It is recommended to first recover from physical injuries and internal depletion before proceeding further. Understanding the situation, Ling Xiao once again summoned the powers of reincarnation and death, merging them into the element of life. This element was deeply favored by the temporal dragon. As before, he infused the element of life into the Shadow Rainbow's body. The sleeping person seemed to sense it, frowning slightly before relaxing again. Ling Xiao gently comforted, "Healing will be a bit painful. Bear with it." Even knowing she couldn't hear, he still involuntarily spoke, as if it could ease his anxiety. After spending most of the time with the cycle element, Yohong's injuries gradually healed, her skin radiating vitality, like a young girl regaining her glow. Ling Xiao smiled with satisfaction. "This is my precious disciple, beautiful, bold, free, and brilliant." He did not stop. Spiritual power surged at his fingertips, flowing into her body. Dazzling colors blossomed in the air, like a rainbow piercing through the darkness. Spiritual power surged in, and Yohong's body was finally replenished. The depleted Dantian and spiritual sea were quickly awakened, receiving a continuous nourishment of spiritual power. A thread of spiritual power infused, and time seemed to freeze. After a long while, Ling Xiao finally restored her body to perfect condition. He urgently summoned the system. "Start vulnerability repair." Ding! Vulnerability repair initiated. Number of vulnerabilities to be repaired: 246.1 billion. Repair completed. Her physical constitution has been upgraded to innate Dao body. Innate Dao body greatly reduces the difficulty of breakthroughs in later cultivation stages, enhancing defense and self-healing abilities. To harm her, one must be at least 2 realms higher than her. Seeing the result, Ling Xiao finally felt a slight relief. Yu Hong was still asleep, showing no signs of waking. He quietly stayed for a while, then turned and left. He still needed to continue exploring the way back. He couldn't stay too long and had to leave quietly before being discovered. After leaving the cave dwelling, taking advantage of the secluded location, Ling Xiao opened the attribute interface to review his own status. Name: Ling Xiao. Number of repairs: 1/16. Martial Realm, Divine King Realm, 10th Heaven. Spiritual Soul Realm, Divine King Realm, 10th Heaven. Health: 700 billion quadrillion. 1 point equals 300 trillion kilograms of force. Soul: 700 billion Gai. Secondary Profession Grandmaster, 10 types, 17th rank, mid-grade, 0/5000 Jing, legendary level. Skill: Weapon Master, Triple Path, 150x, 0/10 Laws: 3000, Extreme Domain 480 types. Talent: Undying Divine Body, Immortal level, Combat Power times 5000%. The Body of the Human Emperor, Heavenly Dao level, Empowered 10 trillion times. Void Dragon Body, Immortal level, Physical Body times 2048. Power of Creation, 17th rank Supreme, 2999 types. Cultivation Method, Will of the Gods, Heavenly Dao level, 17th rank Fragmented, 50000x. Demon Gods Nirvana, 17th rank lower grade. Frenzied Absorption, 17th rank low grade. Law of Heaven and Phenomena of Earth, 17th rank medium grade, 1000x. Genesis Divine Scripture, 18th rank lower grade. Consciousness Fission, 17th rank low grade, 5000x. Martial Skill, Death Gun Technique, 17th rank medium grade, 400x. Light of World Destruction, 17th rank lower grade, 300x. Teleportation, 17th rank lower grade, 200 times. Regretful Tianjin Spring, 17th rank lower grade, 200x. Demonic Energy and Demonic Martial Analysis, 17th rank mid-grade, 400x. Soul Dance, 15th rank lower grade, 300x. Dark Palm Technique, 16th rank mid-level, 400x. Picking Chrysanthemums by the Eastern Fence, 15th rank low grade, 400x. Falling Flowers Early, 14th rank lower grade, 300x. Prajnaparamita Sutra, 14th level peak, 500x. Item: Black Sky Battle Armor, 17th rank mid-grade. Black Heaven Demon Spear, 17th rank middle grade. Angel Wings, 17th rank lower grade. Black Star Stone King, unknown, above 17th rank. Demon Suppressing Wave, 14th rank mid-grade. Soul Summoning Sail, level 14, lower grade. Ing Tian Ling, peak of the 11th rank. Diamond Bracelet, 15th rank lower grade. Natural Intent, 15th rank upper grade. Martial Soul Vehicle, 14th rank superior quality. Buddha Light Pearl, 14th rank superior grade. Physical Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 10th Heaven. Ultimate Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 10th Heaven. Looking at these stats, Ling Xiao suddenly realized that the treasures he had swept from those sects back then had never undergone bug fixes or upgrades, and thus never truly unleashed their real power. This place was too comfortable, with no enemies, and he had even become lax in leveling up. He began to get busy. Although these equipments were difficult to use here, they would definitely be treasures for his disciples. Each piece had once sparked countless battles, either due to high rank, great potential, or unique methods. To him, these treasures were ordinary because he had seen too many and owned too many. He had cultivated 16 times, almost enough to level up. If it wasn't enough, he would deal with it tomorrow. There was no rush. He stopped what he was doing and upgraded items one by one, fussing back and forth for half an hour before finally organizing the mountain of treasures. He opened the attribute sheet and continued to check his own status. Name: Ling Xiao. Number of repairs: 1/16. Martial Realm, Divine King Realm, Realm, 10th Heaven. Spiritual Soul Realm, Divine King Realm, 10th Heaven. Health, 700 billion. 1 point equals 3 quintillion kilograms of force. Soul, 700 billion quintillion. Secondary Profession Grandmaster, 10 types, 17th rank. Mid-grade, 0/5000 quintillion. Legendary level. Skill, Weapon Master, Triple Path, 150x, 0/10^16. Laws, 3000. Limit Domain, 480 types. Talent, Undying Divine Body, Immortal level. Combat Power times 5000%. Body of the Human Emperor, Heavenly Tao level, blessed with 10 trillion times. Void Dragon Body, Immortal level. Physical Body times 2048. Power of Creation, 17th rank Supreme, 2999 types. Cultivation Method, Will of the Gods, Heavenly Tao level, 17th rank Shattered 50,000 times. Demon Gods Nirvana, 17th rank lower grade. Berserk Absorption, level 17, low grade. Law of Heaven and Phenomena of Earth, 17th rank middle grade, 1000 times. Genesis Divine Scripture, 18th rank lower grade. Consciousness Fission, 17th rank lower grade, 5000 times. Martial Skill, Death Gun Technique, 17th rank middle grade, 400 times. Light of World Annihilation, 17th rank lower grade, 300x. Teleportation, 17th rank lower grade, 200x. Heaven Shaking True Spring, 17th rank lower grade, 200x. Demonic Energy and Demonic Martial Analysis, 17th rank middle grade, 400x. Soul Dance, 17th rank lower grade, 300x. Dark Poem, 17th rank middle grade, 400x. Picking Chrysanthemums by the Eastern Fence, 17th rank lower grade, 400x. Falling Flowers Early, 16th rank lower grade, 300x. Prajnaparamita Sutra, 16th rank peak, 500x. Equipment, Black Heaven Battle Armor, 17th rank middle grade. Black Heaven Demon Spear, 17th rank middle grade. Angel Wings, 17th rank lower grade. Black Star Stone King, unknown, above 17th rank. Demon Subduing Wave, 17th rank middle grade. Soul Summoning Sail, 17th rank lower grade. Heaven Responding Spirit, 16th rank peak. Diamond Bracelet, 17th rank lower grade. Natural Intent, 16th rank upper grade. Martial Soul Chariot, 17th rank lower grade. Buddha Light Pearl, 17th rank middle grade. Physical Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 10th layer. Ultimate Combat Power, Immortal Realm, 10th layer. Pack your bags and get ready to go. This time, Ling Xiao finally found a way to protect himself in the river of time. No longer affected by the fluctuations of time, he acted boldly and explored deeply. This ancient land is visited by very few, yet his gains are exceptionally abundant. High-level treasures, mysterious techniques, all kinds of rare and hard-to-obtain items. After the turbulence of the river of time, he will be transported to a distant time and space to avoid further entanglements. The great sects from which he once stole treasures have long been devoured by time, reduced to ashes. 3 billion years passed, only his treasured disciple and that time-space dragon survived. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao felt joyful in his heart. Those alive were all his own people. He leisurely wandered around when suddenly a deafening roar tore through the air. Looking up, a beast tribe army as dark as storm clouds was pressing the border. The familiar scent was just like the invasion battlefield in the Demon Clan ruins back then. The difference was, at that time he was the invader, but now, he was the guardian. The Beast Clan had arrived, fierce and confident, determined to win. He guessed that the Beast Clan had long since learned about the injury of revered Muling. Take the opportunity to seize more territory and expand influence. Long nights bring many dreams. Who knows when the Muling Venerable will awaken? If the Venerable succeeds in cultivation and returns to the battlefield, seeing everything fallen, it will surely unleash a storm of bloodshed. If he fails, the situation will become even clearer. With the only obstacle fallen, the Beast Tribe had no more reservations. Ling Xiao had no factional bias, maintained a calm stance, and waited quietly for the situation to develop. Over time, he also grasped the basic facts. Humans were decayed and feudal, the Beast Tribe was greedy and excessive, and neither side was good. But never forget, this is history, a settled matter, not something that can be easily rewritten by one person. Even if changed, the consequences are unpredictable. Perhaps maintaining the status quo is the best choice. Though this is true, seeing his precious disciple fighting desperately to protect the human race, he couldn't help but feel a bit of pity in his heart. Looking at the invading Beast Tribe, his eyes could not hide his disgust. This territory is rich in resources and holds great power. That annoying urge to interfere in others' territory, no matter how he looked at it, felt familiar. The surrounding villagers were all fleeing from the area shrouded in dark clouds, carrying their bundles, taking their families, and even the elderly ran together. The ground was filled with continuous wails, scattered figures. The bustling scene was chilling to the heart. Ling Xiao recalled what he had seen in the ruins and couldn't help but sigh. Humans nowadays were heartbreakingly weak. At this stage, there was no sign of regular troops blocking the Beast Tribe. The civilians scattered and fled in disorder, with no evacuation or protection. He did not know whether it was because Elder Muling had been asleep for many years, leaving no one in control, or if it had always been this way. Relying on his trust in his disciple and having heard rumors that the human army could toil toy with the beast tribe. He judged that the disciple had been asleep for many years, and with consecutive defeats, the army's morale was shattered. With the disciple absent, he bore the responsibility to protect the disciple's people, but he did not want to act overtly or go against the course of history. He condensed spatial elements, quickly forming a thick and sturdy spatial barrier in the sky. The spatial barrier is extremely practical. It can both imprison enemies and provide tight defense. Once formed, it requires very little energy to maintain and has minimal consumption. The reason he chose to open the barrier was that he sensed his disciple was about to awaken, and when that time comes, she will return proudly and powerfully like a phoenix reborn. He was looking forward to that moment, but would never steal her spotlight. Suddenly, several beams of golden light appeared in the sky, dazzling and extraordinary. Ling Xiao looked up and saw several beast clan ancestors appearing alone in the clouds, their radiance blinding, their aura imposing, as if daring everyone to not look directly at them. He understood that this was the beast clan showing off to the humans. In war, the most ruthless tactic is to attack the mind. Make the opponent lose their composure before the battle even begins, convinced of inevitable defeat. Ling Xiao sneered coldly. He had played this game many years ago. The beast tribe is foolish. Even with human strategists, this is all they can do. If the human race's overall strength were not far inferior to that of the beast race, my apprentice's power would have long since dealt with these old guys, so how could they have been allowed to act arrogantly until now? He was as steady as an old dog, with a calm and untroubled heart. But 4.8 does not mean that those civilians who have endured war and lost their families are not afraid. They watched the massive energy sphere gathering in the hands of the beast tribe ancestor, their eyes blazing fiercely, as if a single strike could turn them to ashes. How could they not be afraid? The attack slowly approached, despair flashing in their eyes. Some screamed, while others forgot even how to scream, just staring blankly, awaiting death. However, the golden light attack hovered in mid-air, as if blocked by an invisible barrier. Immediately, the barrier burst forth with an even more dazzling light, as if the sunlight was about to explode, leaving the people below dumbfounded. All eyes were fixed on the sky. In this magnificent scene, the air was heavy and tense. Silence fell once again, eerie and oppressive, as everyone held their breath, staring at the shocking scene. No one understood exactly what had happened, but they knew someone was protecting them. Someone was resisting the powerful beast tribe, bringing a glimmer of hope. In the sky, the originally stationary orb suddenly burst forth with dazzling light, followed by a deafening roar sweeping through. The sound seemed incredibly immense, yet also seemed to vanish completely, the sound waves crashing against their eardrums like a flood, causing intense ringing in their ears. After their ears lost function, their eyes were also impacted, their vision instantly flooded with a dazzling white light. No matter how wide they opened their eyes, they could see nothing. This peak battle had long surpassed their limits, and they were not even qualified to witness it. Forcing themselves to watch would only cause self-harm. If not for the impenetrable spacetime barrier constructed by Ling Xiao, they would have long been shattered by this intense light and roar. Completely blind and deaf, they couldn't see, but all the beast tribes in the sky saw everything clearly. The powerful attack struck the barrier, and the energy instantly collided and exploded, dissipating prematurely in the air. In an instant, all the beast tribes were stunned. Who could use a shield formed by spiritual power to forcibly counter his full-strength strike? It should be known that the strike had almost exhausted 80% of his strength. He originally intended to sweep the entire battlefield with one blow. However, the protective shield remained intact, quietly floating, without a scratch. The beast tribe began to waver in their hearts. Could it be that the legendary Elder Muleng had returned healed and already appeared on the battlefield? Why didn't he launch a direct attack, but instead hid in the corner, using this shield to fend them off? Abandoning a strong offensive and only defending was clearly not cost-effective. But if not her, then who could do it? The confidence of the beast tribe collapsed instantly, anger gnawing at their teeth, seeing the opportunity disrupted, unwilling to accept it in their hearts. These beasts, full of animalistic nature, were itching with hatred, but thinking that since they had come and were fully prepared, with everyone watching and their kin waiting for their triumphant return, they absolutely could not retreat. No matter how difficult, they had to win. Just one Muling Venerable, could he overturn the heavens? Ling Xiao watched coldly from the sidelines, far less shocked than the beast clan. He had anticipated this, just didn't expect the beast clan's attack to be so fragile. That strike just now completely made him lose interest. He no longer guarded carefully, knowing that this group was nothing special. His strength came from the rapid recent improvement in the time element. All elements share the same origin. When one element is enhanced, the others are subtly improved as well. Especially the advanced elements, time and space elements, are extremely similar. In the fluctuations of the spacetime river, they can even merge, resisting the powerful force of the time torrent. With the enhancement of the time element, the space element naturally benefits. Coupled with the increase in combat power, the combined amplification allows him to fight many immortal-level strong opponents across different tiers. If it were someone else, they would surely be extremely excited. But Ling Xiao, having experienced too many shocks along the way, has become accustomed to it. Watching the spectacular and lively battle scene in the sky, he sneered inwardly, feeling like an adult watching children play. The beast tribe was completely anxious and launched a full-scale attack. They believed that the shield formed by spiritual spiritual power consumed a huge amount of energy, especially one so large, and would surely be exhausted soon. As long as the fierce attack continued, the shield would eventually collapse. The people soon could no longer hold on. The beast tribe is simple-minded. If even they can think of it, would the person casting the protective shield not know? But their comprehension is limited, and they know almost nothing about elements. It is extremely rare for them to grasp even one or two elements, let alone a rare and powerful element like time. They simply cannot imagine that someone could use a spatial barrier to block attacks, and they have no idea that this kind of protective shield consumes almost no spiritual power. Even if they attack for thousands or millions of years, it would be difficult to break through because the opponent is not a physical entity. The attack is instantly teleported to another space upon contact. The rift between the two spaces compresses against each other, creating immense pressure that causes the attack to disintegrate instantly, visually appearing to be diminished. They couldn't see the space and only thought it was a strange protective measure. The aerial attack lasted for a long time. Most of the humans on the ground had regained their sight and hearing and began to look up. The group of beast tribes continued to desperately slash and stab, directing all their spiritual power attacks at the invisible shield, but to no effect. Yet, they were unwilling to give up. This time, even Ling Xiao was no longer calm, and the ordinary humans below also began to watch attentively. They gradually realized there was a powerful barrier in the air, completely blocking the beast tribes, and everyone was stunned. Anyway, now that they are safe, this news is enough to lift spirits. To be on the safe side, people still evacuated, but their pace was no longer hurried, and their emotions relaxed. They began to take care of their families, bringing along the elderly and children, considering the pace. This was exactly Ling Xiao's intention. Ling Xiao was anxious in his heart, wondering why his precious disciple hadn't arrived yet. He still wanted to see her show her skills. He recalled the historical records he had seen in the Demon Clan's library and vaguely remembered the name of Venerable Muling, though only in passing. He understood that this history dated back at least 10 eras, and anyone recorded must have been legendary. Although the rumored Venerable Muling had achievements, they were not enough to earn such reverence from later generations. He firmly believed that his disciple's life was just beginning and that he would surely achieve great success in the future. A trace of proud smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This ancient powerhouse, am actually the master of a famous person, truly amazing. Sure enough, a discerning eye recognizes a hero those vulgar people do not know how to cherish, but instead bully such outstanding talent. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, feeling that his disciple was still protecting this group of humans, which was somewhat unworthy. But everyone has their own aspirations, and no matter which path his disciple chooses, he will fully support it. In the distance, the aurora flickered, and Ling Xiao sensed a strong, familiar aura. It was his disciple. The young girl had awakened. In his eyes, she was still just a little girl. Seeing that most of the humans had already evacuated and his apprentice was on the way, he took back the time token and left the rest to her. The master achieved success and fame, then left quietly without seeking recognition. Yu Hong hurried over from afar, saw that the residents below the city had mostly evacuated, the corpses were few, and the houses were largely undamaged, and he breathed a slight sigh of relief. She wondered in her heart, why did the beast tribe show mercy this time? It was unlike their usual style. Judging by their panting appearances, they had clearly been through a fierce battle. Time was tight, and she couldn't afford to think much. She headed straight for the battlefield. When she appeared in the air, the beast tribe ancestors cast strange glances at her. Hong couldn't guess their thoughts, but she vaguely caught a look of just as expected in their eyes. That's right, this group of beastmen firmly believes that all the tricks just now were carried out by this very Yu Hong before them. That woman was sinister and cunning. Using some kind of sorcery, she was able to conjure that thing out of thin air, draining all their strength. When they were exhausted, she was fully revitalized, at her peak condition, standing coldly before them with the powerful aura of a recent breakthrough. The beast tribe ancestors cursed in their hearts, no more. The gap is so huge now, continuing to fight is just suicide, isn't it? Is it a death sentence? They are not humans, but beasts. The heads delivered might be tiger heads, or wolf heads, or even beast heads symbolizing good fortune. Though the words are long and foul, the battlefield changes in an instant. The moment the two sides' gazes meet, the clash erupts instantly. Yu Hong came wielding a sword, the sword radiating a fierce aura, its pressure sharp and imposing, perfectly blending with her own presence. She had fought for many years, campaigning east and west, her sword and body long since merged into one. With a single swing of the sword, fierce sword energy surged like a violent storm, slashing out from in front of her. The speed grew faster and faster, the momentum more and more intense, directly targeting the entire beast tribe ahead. Are the beast clan ordinary people? They launched continuous attacks. Although a large amount of spiritual power was consumed due to breaking the barrier, their numbers were overwhelming. 2 fists could not defeat 4 hands. Despite the disparity in strength, the outcome was still undecided. The attacks from both sides collided in the air, the explosion roaring through the sky, with torrents splashing everywhere. If those humans had still been watching underground back then, they probably would have gone blind and deaf again. The fighting was fierce, with waves of sword chi and blade light in the sky, dense and dazzling, making it impossible to tell who was attacking and who was defending. Each attack carried a deadly killing intent. Truly a fatal strike. The beast tribe gritted their teeth and cursed silently. Damn it. This woman really succeeded in advancing her rank, becoming much stronger. They were extremely angry. A woman could be so powerful. Reaching their level was not easy, let alone that she had once suffered serious injuries. They originally thought she was surely doomed, but unexpectedly, she not only survived but grew stronger, causing feelings of injustice. The beast tribes only felt that the way of heaven was unfair, filled with resentment. They forgot the strength and pride the human race once had even in times of weakness. Those accustomed to high positions cannot stand seeing others rise. Selfish and self-centered, they are sooner or later eliminated by history. At this moment, Ling Xiao had completely left the battlefield, not choosing a remote place, but fleeing towards the crowd. After all, where there are many people, it is lively and safe. He discarded his luxurious and neat clothes and put on a low-key, plain old garment. Casting a time element spell, the clothes quickly became old and tattered. At first glance, they looked ragged, but it made it easier to blend into the crowd. Clothes make the man, and a horse needs a saddle. Setting aside looks and temperament for now, if you wear rags, no matter how handsome you are, it's hard to get noticed. Blending into the crowd, Ling Xiao carefully observed the surroundings, looking for people with great strength or high status, only they were valuable. Looked around, but did not see the target. During wartime, those who can escape on their own are naturally the strong ones, who have long since withdrawn alone. But this place is strategically important, and there may still be a few who, for some reason, have not been able to evacuate and are mingling among the crowd. Hoping to try his luck, but ending up empty-handed, he could only empty his gaze and scan the surroundings, looking for something interesting. Unexpectedly, as he scanned, he noticed something unusual. A child was being pushed and shoved in the crowd, looking pitiful, like a scapegoat. At first glance, this child appears no different from an ordinary child, yet unusual, but upon closer inspection, it subtly reveals something strange. This child's gaze was sharp as a knife, with a calm and mature demeanor. When pushed by others, he merely cast a cold glance, his eyes harboring a ruthless intensity. Ling Xiao had seen that look only twice before, once directed at himself, and the other time at his treasured disciple. Now, he saw the third one. Indeed, birds of a feather flock together, and people are divided into groups. The kind of person you are will attract the kind of gaze you receive. At first, he was only curious about the child's character. This child was obviously orphaned, having struggled alone in society since a young age. Judging by his current demeanor, he was clearly not as miserable as the once gloomy Hong. At least he carried some strength within him. But the more Ling Xiao looked, the more he felt that this child was no ordinary person. Just now, the child, disadvantaged in height and weight, was almost pushed into the nearby deep pit by that 450-pound man passing by. Ling Xiao was about to step in to help, but saw the child steady his posture and perform a move that ordinary people could hardly manage, instantly regaining balance. At the same time, an extremely familiar aura hit him. It was the power of destruction. Unexpectedly, at such a young age, he had already comprehended the element of destruction. Comprehending the elements is by no means easy. Ling Xiao himself benefited from the system and years of hard cultivation to gradually integrate these powers. Although his disciple had hidden attributes, it was only under his full guidance that the first element was awakened, setting him on the path of cultivation. As for this child, with no father or mother, lowly status, no master or books, yet bearing traces of unconventional methods, he was definitely not a disciple of any sect. The more Ling Xiao analyzed, the more amazed he felt. Recently, having gone out, he had seen many geniuses, all parading before him. In his era, even after 100,000 epochs, such a multitude of super geniuses had never been seen. If they had the resources of the young prodigies of that era, they would probably achieve astonishing heights. Everyone has a love for talent, and Ling Xiao is no exception. Since taking his first apprentice, he has become addicted. This time, he will not let this child slip away. He straightened his back, circulated spiritual energy, surrounded by immortal aura, and slowly walked toward the little boy. Wearing a perfectly fitting smile, he dressed himself up as an ethereal immortal. In a gentle tone, "Young man, I see you have extraordinary bones. You are destined for greatness. Would you like to join me on the path of cultivation to become a god and reach the pinnacle of life?" Pausing, he added, "By the way, those so-called powerful revered Muling are actually my former disciples." The little boy showed no surprise and rolled his eyes. "Thanks, not interested." Ling Zhao's smile froze, thinking to himself, as expected, little boys are not as likable as little girls, their way of speaking is not at all appealing. He didn't consider whether his attitude towards them was problematic. However, he would not go easy on this child. Whether he was willing or not was irrelevant. Once he made up his mind, he wouldn't let him escape. He grabbed the little boy's hand and prepared to take him away. The child was about to resist, but suddenly felt a wave of energy from the man's hand that made his heart tremble, and he immediately submitted. Having roamed the martial world for many years, the child had long learned to read people's expressions and intentions. This person was definitely not someone he could afford to provoke. The words just now might not have been entirely false. Since he was harmless now, it was best not to act rashly. Seeing this, Ling Xiao smiled, fully satisfied. Sure enough, those who understand the situation are true talents. No wonder leaders love to be flattered. If it were me, I would also be happy to to be pampered. He gently patted the boy's head and said softly, "Don't be afraid. Follow your master. Enjoy the good life. From now on, you are my second apprentice." When you ran away, master saw through it at a glance. You have comprehended a powerful elemental force within you, right? Hearing this, a look of surprise flashed in the child's eyes, and he began to believe the man's words. He once, after accidentally comprehending this mysterious power, he did not reveal a trace of it, and those around him were completely unaware. Unexpectedly, a stranger saw through him at a glance. Ling Xiao stared into his eyes, a cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth, mysterious and resolute. "Don't be afraid, I won't reveal a single thing. I came to take you as my disciple. It's simply because I want to witness another genius rise, pushing the power of various elements to the extreme, nothing more." As soon as the words fell, Ling Xiao rudely grabbed the boy's hand and pulled him forward. In the face of absolute power, the weak do not even have the right to resist. These boys who have survived until today have long remembered the law of survival. The strong prevail, and circumstances create heroes. Ling Xiao liked his obedient demeanor but was dissatisfied with his resigned, willing to sacrifice expression. Secretly calculating in her mind how to completely earn his trust, she decided to give him a taste of sweetness first. He concentrated the element of destruction, his palm turning into black flames, and with his hand, he injected the intense destructive power within him into the boy. The boy immediately widened his eyes. He had long mastered the element of destruction and deeply understood the terror of this power. Yet, in the face of Ling Xiao's mighty destruction element, his abilities seemed so insignificant. If this man wanted to kill him, he would only need to press a finger lightly. Now, Ling Xiao actively delivering destructive elements was naturally a gesture of goodwill, indicating no intention to harm. But the boy was full of doubts. Why was he approaching him? Was it really, as he said, just to teach him to improve his strength? He never believed that pies would fall from the sky. The world was cruel and merciless. Even if they did, it wouldn't be his turn. There were many people far stronger and higher in status than himself. What he wanted, he could only fight for on his own. Ling Xiao saw the vigilance and surprise in his eyes and felt a tightening in his heart. Such a child was full of suspicion toward strangers, well versed in the ways of the world, always interpreting others with the worst intentions. Yu Hong, who had once been bullied, was not discarded. Although Yu Hong was bullied, she had never experienced kindness. Once someone treated her well, she would be wholeheartedly devoted. This boy was different. He had seen kindness but was convinced there must be a conspiracy behind it, refusing to open his heart easily. The more kindness he received, the more guarded he became. After all, no one offers kindness without ulterior motives, either a villain or a thief. Ling Xiao could only silently accept it, no longer struggling, waiting for time to prove everything. His kindness would eventually be recognized one day. The destructive elements slowly flowed out from his body, surging into the boy's body. This transmission was not just a power infusion, but also an expansion of meridians within the boy, imparting cultivation methods and opening up a new spiritual domain. It had little effect on Ling Xiao. After the element was consumed, he could naturally recover. For the boy, however, it was a tremendous boost. After this enhancement, his cultivation would proceed without any obstacles. Coupled with his astonishing talent, his future cultivation might far surpass Yu Hong. With such talent, no matter how many difficulties there are, it is worth fighting for. After finishing the exploration, Ling Xiao withdrew his gaze, secretly praising the boy for seizing the opportunity to improve himself. He already understood that Ling Xiao had no ill intentions and could protect himself briefly. His mind immediately sank into cultivation, vowing to maximize this advantage to the fullest. Ling Xiao chuckled lightly. This kid really doesn't let go of even the slightest benefit. Having a disciple who understands the value of hard work is truly gratifying. He turned his head to look into the distance. The battle in the sky was still fierce. The situation subtly changed. Yu Hong, relying on talent and years of practical experience, had gained strength that made Ling Xiao look at him with new respect. Those beast clans were clearly at a disadvantage. The situation of lacking reinforcements became apparent. Ling Xiao was ecstatic. Several immortal realm experts surrounded them, yet his only disciple, who had just broken through to the immortal realm, managed to rout the opponents, who were about to kneel and beg for mercy. This thrill made his blood boil. However, Ling Xiao's expression changed abruptly, his eyes sharp as a knife. He sensed something was wrong. Within the Beast Clan camp, there seemed to be unusual movements. As a former veteran in the army, although he had changed his identity, he was still well-versed in battle formations. The battle situation was off. Although the vanguard appeared fatigued, no reinforcements were seen at the rear. Instead, they gathered in a circle, as if brewing a shocking plan. It was not only Ling Xiao who noticed. The battle veteran Yu Hong was also closely watching that area. I don't know what they're plotting, but it's definitely a conspiracy. Yu Hong's heart tight, wanting to break free immediately to stop it. But the 5 beast tribes tightly entangled her, holding her firmly, making it impossible for her to move an inch, the aura of conspiracy growing even stronger. Yu Hong snorted coldly, her voice sharp and icy. You think you can defeat me like this? Wishful thinking, fools. In an instant, her spiritual power surged, elemental forces raging all around. It was not an ordinary elemental fluctuation, but one that pulled everyone into the small world she had condensed. Several beast tribes stared fixedly at this this dim and blurry space filled with an aura of destruction and devastation, devouring the light and suffocating. Ling Xiao was also shocked. The beast tribes in the sky seemed to vanish instantly. He immediately understood Yu Hong's strategy. She trapped all the enemies within her own small world. Ling Xiao exclaimed inwardly, "Not simple. She has condensed an extremely powerful small world, capable of imprisoning the progenitor of the beast tribes and the entire army. This ability to absorb and trap is terrifying." This was merely a space condensed by her personally, not a truly complete world. If passed down to future generations, it would surely shock countless people. Ling Xiao clearly saw the tragic plight of those trapped beast clans. Entering Mu Lang's small world was like stepping into his domain, where she could manipulate everything at will. This place was filled with elemental forces under her control: bone-chilling ice, devouring flames, an atmosphere thick with the aura of destruction, and dozens of advanced elements weaving and intertwining, leaving almost nowhere to escape. The beast ancestors fled in all directions, desperately searching for the most defensible areas. The ordinary beast soldiers suffered even more tragically, wailing continuously, allowing the elements to corrode their flesh and souls without resistance. The aura of destruction slithered into their pores like venomous snakes, clinging to muscles and cells, burning every inch of skin. Powerless to resist, unable to struggle. Soon, they could no longer even let out painful wails. They finally understood what kind of terrifying existence they had provoked. Even the revered beast tribe ancestor had never brought such an overwhelming pressure. If given a chance to start over, they would never have stepped into this nightmare of a war. Here, even death has become a luxury, with only endless torment and suffering. This small world is like a purgatory, long and cruel. The beast tribe ancestors also suffered greatly. Resisting the elemental forces was extremely difficult. What's worse, after entering this small world, everyone's strength was suppressed by 2 levels. Some lower-level immortal realm experts even fell back to the mortal realm, teetering on the edge of danger. They frantically besieged the edges of the small world, but didn't know how to break through this invisible prison. The small world seemed boundless. His attacks struck the air again and again, flying farther and farther until they finally disappeared beyond perception. It felt like punching cotton, filling them with deep fear in their hearts. The enemy was no longer ordinary humans, but the entire heaven and earth, the entire universe. That person controlled the laws of heaven, holding their lives and deaths in his hands, manipulating everything about them. They were like ants on a hot pan, frantically scattering and attacking, desperately trying to escape. The pressure on Yu Hong was equally immense. The small world was bearing such heavy pressure for the first time. The beast tribe's army was vast, especially the few beast tribe progenitors, making it almost suffocating for her. She deliberately concealed her form to avoid being discovered by the beast tribe. At this moment, her condition was extremely poor, and even forcing herself to endure was difficult. His face was pale, his lips colorless, sweat drenched his entire body, and even the robe he wore was soaked through. This is not ordinary clothing, but a robe with defensive and automatic purification functions. Usually, this robe is waterproof, fireproof, and resistant to blades and axes, yet at this moment, it is soaked and clings tightly to her skin, making her extremely uncomfortable. She hadn't used this fighting method before because it consumes a great deal of energy. If used improperly, it can damage the foundation and affect subsequent cultivation. But the momentum of the beast clan just now made her realize that the enemy must have a powerful move, and she had to give her all to cut off their retreat, or the consequences would be unimaginable. No one could see her current appearance, only Ling Xiao watched from afar, perceiving every subtle change in her. Ling Xiao was deeply heartbroken. The little girl he once cared for was now standing alone in front of all the dangers, bearing all the pain. How can this not break one's heart? But he did not rush forward to rescue, because he understood that he was merely a passerby, a bystander who had inadvertently entered the torrent of history. He shouldn't interfere here, nor can he stay by her side for long. Yu Hong must grow up alone, become the strongest sword wielder, protect herself and those she wants to protect, and follow her own path. He withdrew his gaze, completely changing his view. She is stronger than anyone could imagine and can no longer be treated like a child. His gaze turned to the little boy still cultivating, thinking to himself, "Master, I will definitely teach you well. Senior sister and your junior brother, you all must work hard, help each other, and protect one another. You are more unfortunate than I am, born in chaotic times. Only by becoming stronger can you survive." Just as he was thinking this, the boy suddenly trembled all over, a look of unease appearing on his face. His cultivation had gone wrong. Ling Xiao immediately took action, injecting demonic power, guiding and correcting him to prevent him from going astray and dying from his body breaking down. After multiple explorations, Ling Xiao discovered that when cultivating elemental power, guiding magic was the smoothest. The demon race is naturally close to the elements, making magic guidance more convenient than other energies. He even felt that demonic energy itself was the most common and easiest element to cultivate. Under his guidance, the boy's expression gradually stabilized, and Ling Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. After a moment, the boy opened his eyes, let out a long sigh, and stared at himself in astonishment. In such a short time, his strength had improved remarkably, completely different from just an hour ago. He had once lived in an ordinary world, thinking he was powerful, but now he realized he was just a beginner. Suddenly understanding everything, he knelt before Ling Xiao and urgently kowtowed 3 times. The sound was crisp. The originally soft yellow clay ground emitted a clear noise when he struck it forcefully. This sincerity made Ling Xiao feel delighted. His actions were swift and decisive, impossible to refuse. Ling Xiao smiled, thinking, this guy is really clever. As sharp as a wolf, he pounced instantly upon seeing an opportunity, faster than anyone else. In just a moment, his attitude completely changed. He was actually willing to take me as his master. He chuckled inwardly, but his mouth was ruthless. Why the sudden change? You don't think I'm a bad person anymore? Don't be afraid, you still have accomplices behind you? The little boy chuckled, his eyes honest. Master, it was my poor eyesight that failed to recognize a master and mistakenly thought you were a bad person. With your strength, if you were truly a bad person, you could crush me into mince and I wouldn't be able to resist. You just said I have extraordinary bones and wanted to take me as your disciple. Does that still count? He blinked his round eyes, full of expectation. The boy was small and thin, with a round face and round eyes, innocent and adorable. Pretending to be pitiful at this moment made people even more soft-hearted. Ling Xiao smiled and patted his head. 4.8 counts. I always keep my word. From now on, you are my second disciple. Remember, there is a senior sister above you. I won't tell you who she is for now. We'll see later if you're worthy of being her junior brother. Though he said this, he actually understood that the child wouldn't believe it even if told now. That look just now was like he was looking at an idiot. As for whether he deserves to be Johan's younger brother, if he didn't, he wouldn't have given him a second glance. The words were laced with barbs, urging him to stop pretending to be weak and to stop looking like someone being bullied. Sure enough, the little boy believed it wholeheartedly and looked up solemnly, swearing, Master, rest assured, I will train diligently and never disgrace you or senior sister. Ling Xiao smiled and said, good, that's a good disciple. The system quickly activated and Ling Xiao summoned it. System, scan the target. Ding, starting to detect the target task. The target's body contains as many as 234.5 billion vulnerabilities. Current cultivation level is second stage of body refining realm with advanced elemental power and has developed destructive elements. Hidden attributes, destruction, death, spatial elements. Carried weapon, God extinguishing incense, consumable, with 3 uses remaining. Usage method, perform a ritual on targets within a radius of 100 kilometers. If the ritual target's strength is lower than the power of the God extinguishing incense, they perish instantly. If higher, they suffer severe injuries. Ling Xiao was surprised. This child actually harbored so many secrets. He seemed to see the protagonist from traditional cultivation novels who hides a golden finger, with strength far beyond ordinary people. This place truly is a gathering of hidden talents. Each of his disciples is extraordinary. Although the little boy was good at hiding his skills, playing dumb to fool others, he was of pure character. The ordinary people who had just shoved him and almost pushed him into the ditch were contemptuous in their attitude, yet they had not been retaliated against by him. This clearly shows that he is broad-minded and not petty. Ling Xiaoxin admired this vision and ambition. Helping him, even if he doesn't consider me the closest in his heart, I can still fulfill the duties of a disciple. Anyway, the master will leave sooner or later, so the disciples only need to help each other. There is no need to enact a deeply moving master-disciple bond. Ling Xiao ordered the system, repair his physical vulnerabilities. Ding, repair started. Ding, repair completed. Result, constitution upgraded to golden saint body. Realm advanced to the first level of the postnatal realm. That's about right. With hidden elemental attributes, once I help him unlock other elements, he'll basically be on the path of cultivation. The war situation above the sky has also been settled, with Elder Muling's victory assured. Those beast tribe ancestors are now difficult to mobilize, let alone continue the attack. Ling Xiao can leave with peace of mind. He does not plan to visit the awakened eldest apprentice for the time being. Before he had time to think further, no trace of him was found for the moment, but it wouldn't be long before his apprentice realized and inevitably associated it with his appearance. He had suddenly disappeared before, and now suddenly reappeared, with no explanation. He pulled up the young apprentice he had just taken in beside him, stared at his face, and suddenly remembered, right, I forgot to ask your name? The young apprentice whispered, I have had no father or mother since I was a child, drifting without support, no name. Everyone calls me Little Iron Tiger. Now, you are my only relative and elder. Give me a name. Ling Xiao felt a stir in his heart. Not bad, I haven't really named anyone myself before. He said casually, take my surname. We first met during the day, so you shall be called Ling Bai. Though simple, the name sounded quite pleasant. The little boy smiled and said sincerely, thank you, master, for giving me a name. Well-behaved and adorable children, who wouldn't like them? Ling Xiao couldn't help but pat Ling Bai's head. Then, he took Ling Bai and left this place, planning to go to another area where the time-space dragons frequently appeared. His power over time still needed improvement. He was still affected by the turbulence of the time river and had to intensify his training. Not only the element of time, but the element of space also urgently needs to be enhanced. No shortcut has been found yet to improve the element of space, so for now, focus can only be on the element of time. Because enhancing one element will drive the overall strength, it is the most cost-effective. The new haunt is similar to the previous one, the only difference being that it is far far from the main human settlements. Although Venerable Muling has basically unified humanity, there are still scattered tribes around. The mindset here is backward, conservative, and closed off, unwilling to integrate into the great unification. They neither resist nor fully belong, but exist in a state of independent affiliation. Venerable Muling tacitly accepts this situation and maintains peace. Ling Xiao plans to settle here temporarily. The previous piece of land, both Yu Hong and the Beast Tribe knew he could no longer use it. Opening new land here, excellent hunters can hunt anywhere. He borrowed a place to stay from a household as before, but the situation was different. This tribe was conservative in thought and full of hostility towards outsiders. After going through several places, none accepted him. Even offering generous pay was ineffective, leaving Ling Xiao quite troubled. Just as he was frowning in worry, the little boy by his side used his experience to help him search around, and they finally found a vacant house. Although dilapidated, it could shield them from wind and rain, enough to live in for now. Wanderers always find a way to survive. Ling Xiao looked at his apprentice with new respect, feeling a pang of pity in his heart. A child, yet so familiar with the survival rules of crawling and struggling outside, clearly has endured a lot of hardships. He said to the little boy, "The current predicament is only temporary. If you show your true strength now, you will definitely receive generous treatment. But I know you haven't fully unleashed your power. You were already outstanding among ordinary people before, but you have never truly demonstrated it. I know you are like me, and I will fulfill your ambition. You must learn well from me, understand?" Ling Bai nodded seriously. As he had expected, Ling Bai was waiting for that day, the day he would astonish everyone and shock them all. To let those who usually looked down on him and bullied him see their ignorance and poor judgment. This was not for revenge, but for pride. Ling Xiao rummaged through the items, preparing to choose a cultivation method suitable for Ling Bai. It didn't have to be the strongest, but it had to be the most suitable, allowing a newcomer to quickly get started and improve their cultivation in a short time. He carefully flipped through the pages. The most suitable was still a book he had discovered in the Demon Clan's library, titled Analysis of Demonic Energy and Demonic Martial Arts. This book had accompanied him for many years, and since leaving the demon domain, he had hardly used it. Demonic energy is not his main cultivation path. This book has already reached its maximum value in his hands. Now, it is just right to give it to the boy. The boy is exceptionally gifted, focusing his cultivation on elemental power, and the most beneficial thing for elemental talent in the world is demonic energy. Using demonic energy as an entry point is the best cultivation method. The Tianma clan has not yet risen, and their cultivation techniques are rarely passed down in the world. Nowadays, most people have neither heard nor seen anything like this. His disciple has already won at the starting line. He threw the book to Ling Bai. "Study it carefully first. I'm going out for a while. When I return, feel free to ask me any questions. When you have a basic grasp of the demonic energy, I will help you unlock other elements. With the aid of demonic energy, your cultivation will soar rapidly. You know what this means. Don't let down my expectations. Young man, keep it up." After speaking, he turned and left, preparing to hunt, leaving Ling Bai in the cabin to focus on studying and gradually improving. Ling Xiao always carried the shadow of the 9 years of compulsory education from the past. No matter where he was, he firmly believed that learning and books were the ladder of human progress. He only needed 1 second to instantly reach his destination. The next moment, his figure flashed across the wilderness. This time the environment was completely different. Last time it was an endless grassland. At that time, the spatial barrier setup and the vantage point for observation were highly advantageous. Now, this ancient forest with tall, dense trees blocked the sky and sun, almost cutting off the light. The entire area was dim, making it hard to see the surroundings, and an ordinary person would definitely get lost. Although Ling Xiao relied on spiritual awareness rather than sight when hunting, he still felt uncomfortable. After all, men are visual creatures. This time, he did not release life energy first. The plants here were lush, already affecting the formation of the space-time barrier. If more life elements are added and absorbed by the plants, their growth will be even more vigorous, making the hunting space narrower. By then, even the time-space dragons would be unwilling to come, as it would be difficult to navigate through the tree gaps. Ling Xiao first constructed a time-space barrier around the area. Due to spatial limitations, the barrier's shape was irregular. He wound along the gaps to form one prison after another, with strange shapes, yet capable of allowing time-space dragons to enter but not leave. The difficulty increased significantly, but with Ling Xiao's improved control over spatial elements, it was barely achievable, though it consumed more energy. Half an hour later, he created a large time barrier capable of accommodating more than 10 spacetime dragons, then began producing life elements. Life elements are a secondary refinement of elements, with low consumption but requiring delicate craftsmanship. Through multiple battles, Ling Xiao had mastered the taste preferences of spacetime dragons and could precisely tailor the quality of life elements they favored most. He even thought that if he switched to animal husbandry, he might get rich quickly. The trap was set, and time suddenly seemed to drag on. After all, waiting for a rabbit by the tree stump is a test of patience, somewhat boring. He concentrated his spiritual power, producing a small square box in his hand that could isolate elemental mental and spiritual energy, preserving energy information. This item has a specific purpose. He extracted the perceptible aura of the phantom rainbow from his body, injected half of it into the box, and sealed it. He planned to hand it over to Ling Bai. Perhaps in the future he will be expelled by the River of Time, and by then Ling Bai can use this box to find his senior sister. That is Yu Hong. This token is the only proof for them to recognize each other. The two little ones are really unlucky. Their master could barely take care of them for a few days, and after that he disappeared without a trace. Ling Xiao knew very well that every time he saw them, he tried to leave a little more for them, so they would have a bit more support in this cruel world. Yu Hong is now powerful, far surpassing his former self, no longer anxious. At this moment, the one who needs protection the most is Ling Bai, who has just entered the sect. Ling Bai was quite reliable, although he managed well without anyone taking care of him. As a master, he had to give something substantial. He searched through all his treasures on his body, looking for a suitable gift for Ling Bai. Finally, he took out the demon bowl he had pulled from Dogwan Temple, a deadly weapon that could suck enemies inside, dissolve, and devour them. He had long since upgraded this bowl to the 17th level. Although it was not yet fully effective, its power undoubtedly intimidated all the heroes. Perfect for my little apprentice. I'll pick 2 more high-level treasures to assist. Believe me, there is no master in the world who gives their apprentice cooler treasures than I do. Even the 2 supporting pieces are both level 17 inferior grade. Throwing them out would cause those inexperienced Beast Clan ancestors to fight fiercely. For the other 17th level weapons, he also planned to give 2 to Yu Hong. The children at home must be armed to the teeth. Ling Xiao looked back at the spatial barrier he had set up. The surroundings were still calm, with no sign of opening for business. This was normal. His gaze swept over the trap, and the next moment, his body instantly vanished into the space. He arrived at a familiar place, the Demon Clan's library. Since the Demon Clan was destroyed by him, he also took this library out and rarely set foot here afterward. This time, upon entering, he summoned the small golden box from the library. His goal this trip was clear: to find the demon book that recorded the history of Venerable Mu Lang. Although he did not know whether the contents of the book were true or false, it was the only record related to the history of this place. The book title reads Muling the Venerable, indicating that it must contain a large amount of information about Yu Hong. No matter what, he had to find it and uncover the truth. Relying on his memory of the book title, he easily found the book and approached the bookshelf. Most of the books here are stored on jade slips, with very few physical books, making it difficult to judge thickness at a glance or estimate the amount of content. When he actually flipped through it, he felt deeply disappointed by the pitifully scant content. The book only vaguely introduced Master Muling, briefly and blandly. It merely stated that he was brave and skilled in battle, naturally intelligent, born from the lower class, inexplicably cultivated to the peak, yet was raised by a short-sighted old woman. Rumor had it that his cultivation method was mysterious. He was once one of the strongest at the time, and was the originator of elemental power cultivation. He overthrew the old human dynasty, ended the darkness of religious rule, unified the human race, and greatly enhanced the status and strength of humanity. During the Beast Tribe invasion, he led his people in a bitter century-long battle, ultimately crushing the Beast Tribe and nearly exterminating them. Afterwards, the human race experienced a brief period of glory, until the appearance of the Celestial Demon Tribe. The Celestial Demon Tribe set their sights on this resource-rich land, possessing formidable strength. The demon race united from top to bottom, and the various demon gods joined forces to finally defeat Elder Muling. The human race, having lost their leader, scattered like loose sand and was eventually annexed by the demon race, entering an era of demon unification. The records in this book are scarce, and can be summarized as such. Though named The Legend of Elder Muling, it is actually a glorious epic praising the Heavenly Demon Clan. The previous description of the legendary and powerful Muling Zuns was only to highlight the terror of the Tianhua clan. Such a strong figure was mercilessly slaughtered by them. A blazing fury ignited in Ling Zhao's heart. The Tianhua clan, outwardly righteous, were actually cunning and treacherous. They pretended to unite as one, but in reality, they gathered all the demon gods to besiege Muling Zuns and cut him down by the sword. These demon tribes truly deserve 1,000 deaths. They revel in war, rampaging everywhere, committing every evil. Ling Zhao's eyes blazed with anger, flames bursting from within. He had already wiped out countless demons, yet the hatred remained unresolved. His fury surged, and for the first time, he conceived the idea of rewriting history. After all, he was his disciple. Knowing that his disciple would die in the demon tribe siege, how could he not be angry? History must be rewritten. He would save this precious senior disciple. The plan was already on the agenda, but there was no need to rush. There were still hundreds of billions of years before the full-scale war of the Heavenly Demon Clan. At present, the demon tribe had not truly risen, and Ling Xiao had no solution for the time being. He decided that when he returned, he would never let those demons he had sealed die easily. These demons must pay a heavy price. With his mind made up, he turned and left the library, quickening his pace to return, eager to see to what level the little boy had cultivated. He was well aware that this world was fraught with danger. Even though he was already strong, the future was still filled with deadly threats. Not to mention the mysterious second apprentice, from from whom there had been no news, and whose fate was unknown. At this moment, Ling Bai was deeply engrossed in studying the book Analysis of Demonic Energy and Demonic Martial Arts. Hearing the door open, he looked up and saw Ling Xiao returning, surprise flashing in his eyes. He had thought that his master's hunts always involved leaving early and returning late, sometimes even staying away for days, so he hadn't expected him to come back so early. He asked in confusion, "Master, why did you come back so early?" His gaze swept behind Ling Xiao, confirming no prey was brought, deepening his confusion. He speculated silently, could it be that the hunt failed? Is that why Master looks so gloomy? Though the words were left unspoken, his expression revealed his thoughts. After all, Master's anger was obvious. Who would dare to provoke him on purpose? Ling Xiao saw through it at a glance and suddenly tapped Ling Bai on the head. "Don't overthink it. If there's anything in the book you don't understand, just ask me." Ling Bai was blunt and straightforward. The book says that this demonic energy is a mysterious element born from the ancient heavens and earth. Ordinary people can't sense it, only the first batch of demons who absorbed the demonic energy and awaken, or those with demonic bloodlines, can perceive it. But I haven't awakened my demonic bloodline yet. How can I cultivate and come into contact with demonic energy? Only then did Ling Xiao suddenly realize that his line of thinking was wrong. The book does not specify exactly how long ancient times refers to. Now, approaching that era of 100,000 epochs, is there still demonic energy in this world? But upon reflection, he comforted himself. The fact that he could use demonic energy without any obstruction indicated that demonic energy still existed. It's just that for someone like Ling Bai, who has not yet entered the path and has no demonic bloodline, perceiving it naturally is difficult. This problem is easy to solve. As long as he tells him that demonic energy exists in the world, Ling Xiao will surely find a way to help Ling Bai sense it. If it really doesn't work, he will feed a large amount of demonic energy 3 times a day, forcing Ling Bai to get used to this aura. After a long time, Ling Bai will definitely no longer be unaffected. This is the advantage of having a powerful master. But for Ling Bai, this matter is hard to explain. How to put it? He can't just tell him that his master is actually 10,000 epochs younger than him. If that got out, it would be too embarrassing. Ling Xiao has always refused to do anything shameful. He pretended to be mysterious, smiling as he said, "Why panic? With a master as powerful as me, what do you have to worry about? I, your master, am your backing." Able to bring him to that level. However, not sensing any demonic aura for the time being completely disrupted Ling Xiao's plan. He decided to first unlock his hidden attribute. The elemental power in Ling Xiao's hand suddenly flickered, and a destructive energy soared into the air. This pressure instantly overwhelmed the little boy. Although he did not understand, relying on his aura and his understanding of death elements, he guessed that this was also a form of elemental power, refined to the ultimate level by his master. Shaken in his heart, he obediently closed his eyes and meditated, waiting for what would come next. Ling Xiao pressed his 2 fingers together and placed them on Ling Bai's forehead. The destructive element surged into his body through the crown of his head. The mind is the source of spiritual insight. Although it is not a reservoir of spiritual power, it is crucial for comprehension. Ling Xiao deliberately infused from here, hoping he would awaken quickly. A vast surge of elements poured in, and Ling Bai, who once had weak cultivation, suddenly felt immense pressure. As the initial elements flowed in, his brows furrowed tightly, and pain appeared on his face. Ling Xiao controlled the input rhythm, steadily pressing at the limit, with pulses continuously spreading. Each elemental input lasted 20 minutes. Ling Bai endured the pain to study and painstakingly explored the mysteries of the elements. The results were remarkable. Ling Xiao once took 40 minutes to activate the hidden attribute of Yuhong, while Ling Bai could master one element in an average of 20 minutes, doubling the efficiency. Not only was the speed faster, but the depth of comprehension was also higher than Yuhong's. Because of his solid foundation, his cultivation of the death element was even more unfathomable. Gifted beyond belief, even among the demon clans of later generations, he would be considered a genius, stronger than Haya and Bai Bin. Even with extremely high efficiency, activating all the hidden attributes took 3 to 4 hours. Ling Bai was already in a daze, completely lost to himself, very much like the fool from the neighboring village. Ling Xiao looked at him, carried him to bed, and comforted him, "Don't push yourself. Get some sleep, and you'll feel better when you wake up." That boy, who had almost lost the ability to think, no longer resisted after hearing this and fell into a deep sleep. The path of cultivation is by no means smooth. To stand out, one must pay the price. Ling Xiao stared at the sleeping Ling Bai and got up to pour a cup of tea. The tea leaves were secretly taken from next door just now. Unexpectedly, a great power would steal just to drink tea. Boiling water with the flame element, his divine sense suddenly stirred. His space-time barrier seemed to have been breached. The intruder was massive in size but different from the previous space-time dragons. He put down the teacup and hurried to check the trap. The scene before him shocked him. A gigantic creature the size of 3 adult space-time dragons, trapped within the space-time barrier, fiercely striking the surroundings. The impact force was astonishing, its size similar to an elephant, yet far beyond comparison. A single one weighed tens of tons. Ling Xiao pondered silently, wondering how it had broken into this place. He began to devise a strategy in his mind. This creature was an ancient giant beast, rarely known shown in later eras, and this was the first time it had been seen. Massive body, an extraordinary beast. But in this ancient world, it is not impossible for creatures to be gigantic. Daydreaming is useless. Ling Xiao immediately summoned the virtual universe. What is this thing? Ling Xiao asked coldly. The virtual universe quickly responded, Master, this is a mammoth. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up, his heart shocked. The legendary mammoth actually appeared before him, and its size far exceeded any mammoth recorded on Earth, enormous like a mountain. He furrowed his brows slightly, doubt rising in his mind. Could all the scientists be wrong? Or is this mammoth not an ordinary mammoth at all? The virtual universe immediately explained, this mammoth has mutated, possibly by devouring a rare spiritual treasure, and its size far exceeds the norm. Its mutation is not only physical but also mental. Just now, the master couldn't see its true form, not because of a failure in divine perception, but because it can interfere with divine perception detection. Its mental mutation grants it the ability to conceal itself and resist mental reconnaissance. With further cultivation, it might even evolve to develop mental attack skills such as creating illusions, invading dreams, and inducing inner demons. A gleam of excitement flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes as he carefully examined the massive creature before him, secretly thinking to himself, to find a powerful pet for my little apprentice, none other than this one will do. But after all, the mammoth was not the same timespace hatchling dragon as before. The hatchling dragon was small, obedient, easy to train, and didn't eat much. This mammoth in front of him was large, had an enormous appetite, and was obviously a glut. Ling Xiao frowned. What does it eat? How much does it need to eat in a day? He already had a plan in mind. If he couldn't afford to eat it, he would just kill it and eat it himself. Such a monster must be incredibly nourishing. The virtual universe replied, the mutated mammoth primarily feeds on the 457 elements and only eats once every few months. It was attracted here by the life elements. Obviously it hadn't eaten for a long time. Ling Xiao looked back at it. The mammoth was rampaging around, seemingly frantically absorbing the surrounding life elements. Its actions were not an attempt to escape, but a greedy search for food. This scene made Ling Xiao chuckle, like a beggar suddenly finding a pile of gold coins, happily throwing money around in the heap. Easy to raise, he thought to himself, elemental power is no problem for my disciple. Feeding it a mixture of multiple elements will definitely satisfy it. As for its massive size, there's no need to hide it at all. Carrying such a giant beast, so conspicuous on the road, so what? Who would dare to provoke it? More importantly, this mammoth's mental abilities are extremely valuable. Although there are many cultivators here, very few have top-tier spiritual cultivation. When faced with a mental attack, even those with strong physiques find it difficult to perform at full strength and are prone to collapse. Taking it to the battlefield is practically like cheating. Ling Xiao immediately opened the spatial barrier, intending to bring the mammoth out. But the mammoth was deeply immersed in absorbing elements and was not about to leave with him so easily. He sneered coldly, reaching out to absorb the surrounding life elements, cutting off the mammoth's food source. The mammoth was instantly stunned, its anger overflowing. Its mind was filled with rage as it stared fixedly at Ling Xiao. Just now, it had looked down on this small human, and now he dared to steal its food? Although it was quite intelligent and could sense Ling Xiao's strength, the food theft enraged it, causing its rationality to collapse instantly. As a beast, its instinct to protect its food unleashed all its strength, rushing fiercely towards Ling Xiao. The mammoth's anger suddenly dissipated, and a faint sense of a strange force invading its consciousness appeared. Ling Xiao sneered coldly, facing a hungry beast. He had long prepared a countermeasure. A wisp of death element quickly spread from his hand, heavy and cold, as if death itself permeated the air. The mammoth's eyes changed instantly, all anger gone, happily rushing over to start devouring the death elements. To it, the power of killing was like a delicious delicacy. The more it ate, the more excited it became. Ling Xiao secretly rejoiced. It seemed this trick worked. He controlled the release trajectory of the element. The death element was like a chain, sticking behind it. The mammoth could only follow him, eating all the way as it moved forward. In the next moment, he condensed the element into a thick rope, firmly tying the giant creature and leading it out of the forest. The mammoth was completely immersed in the elemental feast, paying no attention to its surroundings. Ling Xiao doubted whether its intelligence was truly high, but in any case, this giant beast had to be taken back. He didn't lead the mammoth directly into the city, fearing it would cause a commotion, so he guided it into an open space, quickly set up a spatial barrier, and trapped it inside. The mammoth was oblivious, continuing to greedily absorb the elements released by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao nodded with satisfaction and decided to bring Ling Bai over to sign the master-servant contract. Soon, he easily dragged a bewildered Ling Bai over. Ling Bai had just comprehended a large amount of elements and was not yet fully conscious. Being pulled up by Ling Xiao, he looked dazed, standing beside the mammoth, looking like a perfect match from birth. Ling Xiao couldn't help but laugh and said, "This spirit beast was born to be yours." The contract was quickly completed among the three. Although Ling Bai and the mammoth were still confused, once the contract was established, the mammoth immediately sensed the power of the mark. Majoring in the mental discipline, it instantly understood the meaning of the mark. If the master dies, it cannot survive. Ling Xiao originally thought the mammoth would resist fiercely, as this rule was extremely unfriendly. friendly. But the mammoth was unusually calm, seemingly indifferent to life and death. As long as it was well fed, it had no regrets even if it died. Ling Xiao was secretly pleased, but Ling Bai reacted even more strongly. The moment the mark took effect, he suddenly realized and carefully examined his body, unable to believe the changes that had just occurred. Ling Bai asked, "Master, what kind of divine skill is that? It can make this fierce beast so obedient." Ling Xiao smiled mysteriously. "This secret technique is something I have painstakingly studied. Your master is naturally exceptionally talented. Creating such a method is just a trivial matter. There will be more extraordinary skills in the future, which I will teach you gradually." He deliberately concealed the truth that he had once infiltrated his sect and stolen the secret technique. Ling Bai looked at him with admiration. "Master, you are truly a peerless expert. Even revered Muling cannot compare to your vast knowledge." Ling Xiao said calmly, "That is only natural. You will understand more about revered Muling in the future." After speaking, he handed over 15 small boxes that he had prepared in advance. Ling Xiao handed Ling Bai a brocade pouch, his eyes firm. "This is a secret left for you by the master. Don't rush to open it now." His voice was slow but unusually heavy. "If one day I suddenly disappear and no matter how hard you search, you can't find me, you must remember, I never did it intentionally. At that time, you open the pouch. Inside it will guide you to find someone, your senior sister. She can protect you and help you grow. If you gain strength, you should also help each other." Ling Bai nodded solemnly. "Master, rest assured, I will not let you down." Ling Xiao finally breathed a sigh of relief. The weight in his heart lifted. Even if he disappeared, Ling Bai would no longer be alone and helpless. As the sky darkened, he took Ling Bai back to the old, dilapidated house. The mammoth was huge, and since Ling Bai did not yet have a small world, it could only be kept outside, allowed to enjoy the beauty of nature. To make up for it, Ling Xiao left a large amount of elements for it to absorb. These elements are separated by small spatial barriers, and every once in a while, one layer of the barrier disappears, allowing the mammoth to feed on that portion of the elements. This is not stinginess, but a precaution to prevent it from overeating and causing trouble for itself. Back inside the house, Ling Xiao carefully instructed Ling Bai on how to raise the mammoth. Although the mammoth only needs to eat once every few months, Ling Bai currently has limited element reserves and must feed it once every half month. This not only prevents the waste of elements but also promotes Ling Bai's cultivation. The more elemental power is used, the stronger it becomes. If released recklessly, problems will inevitably arise. Just like the life elements left behind by Ling Xiao before, although blocked by a time barrier, they still leaked in small amounts, causing the grass on the prairie to grow unusually lush, attracting the attention of outsiders. If a large amount of elements remain in the outside world, the consequences would be unimaginable. Destructive elements, death elements, annihilation elements, these domineering elemental powers are no child's play. At best, they cause mutations, at worst, they create wastelands. Now with the mammoth, not only could they eat their fill, but it also became a powerful aid, helping Ling Bai train, truly killing two birds with one stone. Late at night, just as they were about to sleep, suddenly there was a knock at the door outside. In this remote place, people from the tribe rarely visited, and there were only the two of them inside the house who would knock at the door at night. Ling Xiao got up cautiously to open the door, and outside stood a hunched old beggar. The old man's voice was hoarse. "I just escaped from the war-torn city of Lingyuan. Could I stay for one night? I knocked on several doors, but no one responded. I beg you to have mercy on me." Only then did Ling Xiao understand that he was not a real beggar, but a survivor suffering from the war. He invited the old man inside, poured a cup of tea, and patiently asked, "I heard that the appearance of Elder Muling turned the tide of the battle. Did we still lose?" The old man shook his head. "The war was won, but my home was destroyed in one strike. There are no relatives here to rely on." The city dwellers were still shaken, and with fleeing beast tribes mixed in, no one dared to casually take in strangers. "I can only wander around, looking for a place to settle." Ling Xiao felt a pang in his heart, recalling that he had only witnessed the grand scale of war in the ruins, but had never experienced the suffering of the common people. Even in victory, thousands of lives and homes are destroyed, and living beings suffer immensely. War always brings countless innocent sufferers, displacement, and the struggle to survive. As he was speaking, the old man's stomach suddenly growled, and Ling Xiao immediately understood that he was hungry. An embarrassed look appeared on the old man's face. Ling Xiao said, "Don't worry, I'll go find you something to eat." The old man hurriedly declined. "No need, it's dark outside and dangerous. I'll endure it for now and talk about it tomorrow." Ling Xiao said firmly, "Wait here first. I have some food prepared outside. It just needs to be heated up before eating." Only then did the old man let down his guard. After all, food was precious at this time, and he knew he shouldn't easily accept things from others, but the pain of hunger was far worse than his severe injury. Ling Xiao blamed himself silently. At his level, not eating for a month wouldn't matter. He absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and converted it into power. Eating was more for enjoyment. But this kid Ling Bai hadn't eaten all day following him, and as his master, he really was irresponsible. Ling Xiao walked outside full of regret, preparing to hunt some food to bring back. Hunting small animals was easy for him. He just needed to scan the surroundings with his spiritual awareness, lock onto wild chickens, rabbits, birds, and the like, then trap them with a small spatial barrier and easily bring them back. It's actually easier than catching chickens in the backyard. He roasted the prey with fire element sprinkled on various leftover seasonings, filling the air with a mouth-watering aroma and making the barbecue delicious. In less than 10 minutes, he was carrying a basket full of sumptuous roasted meats, chicken, birds, rabbit, and fish. The old man looked at the food in his hands, his eyes immediately brightening, hunger making him hard to control. Ling Bai's cultivation was still shallow, and his hunger was not that intense, but he stared fixedly at the fragrant barbecue, holding back any sign of emotion. This look made Ling Xiao burst out laughing, and he immediately shared the barbecue with the two of them. The old man originally wanted to decline, thinking that everyone was feeling unwell at this time and that he shouldn't easily accept such precious food. But seeing Ling Bai on the opposite side devouring the food ravenously and without mercy, he didn't care so much anymore and quickly started eating, afraid that if he delayed, others' portions would be taken away. The old man thought to himself, he originally thought Ling Xiao only brought some wild vegetables and leftover food, but he didn't expect the food to be so abundant. No wonder he could hide here. Having such rich food prepared at a time like this indicates considerable strength, yet they live in this dilapidated house, which is puzzling. Hunger drove him to have no time to think too much. As the saying goes, when you eat someone's food, your mouth becomes soft. When you take from someone's hand, your hand becomes short. Even if he had doubts, he was unwilling to probe deeply. At this moment, having someone to take him in and a meal to eat is already a great blessing. He had thought he would have to sleep on the streets tonight, but unexpectedly, the food in this dilapidated house was so delicious that he was moved to the point of tears. The roast chicken in his hand was the most delicious he had ever eaten in his life. Although his hometown was famous for its cuisine, this unique cooking technique far surpassed what he knew. Both the flavor and the level of doneness were astonishing. This was precisely the secret skill passed down through the Ling Xiao bloodline. Although not top tier, in this era it was enough to lead by several epochs. After the meal, the three planned to rest but found that there were limited beds, and the three could not lie down together. The old man felt that being taken in was already a blessing and that he should not take up a bed and let others sleep on the floor. Ling Bai was young and strong, unwilling to take the bed from the elder and the master. Ling Xiao considered himself the strongest and without hesitation chose to sleep on the floor. The three of them were in this simple room, the atmosphere carrying a hint of warmth and helplessness. After pondering the problem for a moment, Ling Xiao finally decided all three would sleep on the floor. The bed was shabby and worn out. It didn't matter whether they slept on it or not. He felt invincible, casually casting a time barrier, instantly building a neat rectangular cuboid on the ground. Then, he spread a layer of soft life elements, and the ground immediately became incredibly comfortable, both soft and nourishing. It should have been like this from the start, he thought. This was much more spacious and comfortable than that broken bed. The three were exhausted after a day of hard work, each weary, and soon fell deeply asleep after lying down. The next morning, when Ling Xiao woke up, there was no one left beside him. He was surprised to find that he was the last to wake up, having slept very soundly. He looked around and saw that Ling Bai was already sitting on the empty bed, beginning to meditate and cultivate, astonishingly diligent. Looking around, there was no sign of the old man from yesterday. Ling Xiao asked, "Where did the old man go?" Ling Bai replied, "He said he was going back to investigate the follow-up news of the war." It was still early, around 5 in the morning. Everyone around was diligent, and experience told Ling Xiao that the child must be hungry now. There was no one else to help here, so he had to go into the small room to cook himself. The early bird catches the worm? Wrong, the prey isn't even awake in the morning. Where would the worms come from? The surrounding animals were all hiding in their nests, and he used his spiritual sense to investigate one by one, locating their hiding places. This consumed a lot of energy, but the advantage was that the animals he found were not fully awake yet, making them easier to catch. Within a few minutes, he caught 2 rabbits and planned to find some vegetables in a few days, as eating only meat could lead to an unbalanced diet. Having just enjoyed 2 days of peaceful life, he surprisingly began to get used to this simple routine. Skilled at peeling and cutting into pieces, sprinkling seasoning, and roasting over the fire, the aroma filled the air. Just as the meal was not yet finished, a group of soldiers suddenly rushed in from outside, weapons in hand, surrounding them completely. "Don't move, hands up," the soldiers ordered. Ling Xiao looked puzzled. He was cooking at home, so why did this group come to cause trouble? He furrowed his brows and asked coldly, "What are you doing?" The old man from yesterday was secretly hiding in the crowd. The soldier questioned, "Is the suspicious person you mentioned him?" The old man nodded, "Yes, it's him, but I'm not sure. They are powerful and well-fed, yet they choose to hide in this abandoned hut. It seems no one has lived here for many years. They must be the homeless strongmen who arrived just these past few days. Who else could it be besides that group of beastmen?" The soldiers nodded upon hearing this and ordered, "Arrest them first." 2 soldiers stepped forward, attempting to pin Ling Xiao and Ling Bai to the ground. At this moment, Ling Xiao was burning with rage. Even the demon god showed him respect. Who were these people to him? He sneered coldly, instantly releasing an oppressive aura. The air seemed to freeze, and the surrounding soldiers felt as if they were being firmly pressed down by an invisible giant hand, struggling even to breathe. Everyone was shocked, realizing they couldn't afford to provoke this man. The leading soldier's face changed drastically, not expecting him to be so strong. He angrily cursed the old man. Damn it, why was the intelligence so unclear? Ling Xiao was furious beyond measure, truly wanting to take them out one by one with a single strike, if only they were not subordinates of the revered Muling. He froze everyone in place, coldly commanding, "Don't move." He turned around and continued warming himself by the fire and cooking, calm and composed. After the meal, he calmly wiped his hands and then slowly withdrew his imposing aura. The soldiers realized they could finally move. Their limbs were numb and weak, trembling with caution. Ling Xiao said coldly, "Get lost. If you dare come again, I guarantee you won't get a second chance." Cold sweat poured down his forehead as he hurriedly controlled his not yet fully recovered body and quickly retreated. Number 460 calmly considered the situation and decided to report this matter, as it was very likely that this was a powerful Beast Clan member, or even the Beast Clan ancestor who had fallen into the human world. If he were allowed to move freely in the city, it would surely cause disaster. Reporting him would not only prevent calamity but also earn considerable merit. Thinking of this, the confident soldier hurried back anxiously, afraid that his credit would be taken away. When huge benefits are right in front of them, people often forget whether their abilities match the honor. He was already fantasizing about the day he would rise to prominence, returning to the department and heading straight to the top leader. Discovered a powerful beast tribe, insufficient strength to capture, requesting support. Upon hearing the news from above, it was immediately taken very seriously and reported layer by layer. However, before the message reached the third level, an order was suddenly issued that is not the beast tribe, do not provoke, do not disturb. Although everyone was puzzled, they dared not disobey. The soldiers who had originally hoped to earn merit were filled with disappointment. No one knew why the stance suddenly changed, but they could only comply. Ling Xiao drove those people away, his mood heavy, and even today's barbecue had lost the aroma it had yesterday. Ling Bai remained silent. In fact, even Ling Bai vaguely believed that the person before him was very likely a truly powerful Beast Clan member. He had lived here for a long time but had never seen Ling Xiao. Logically, someone with Ling Xiao's strength should not be an unknown figure, yet the reality was exceptionally mysterious. Ling Xiao glanced at Ling Bai from time to time, his expression complex, as if wanting to say something but holding back. He sneered, "If you want to ask, just ask. Don't act all weird." Ling Bai smiled awkwardly. "Master, are you really human, so powerful, yet living in this rundown house?" Ling Xiao chuckled. "A true expert must live in seclusion, that's the style." After speaking, he took a big bite of the roasted meat. Ling Bai curled his lips but felt helpless. Since the master was like this, he accepted it. Just as the two were enjoying their meal, Ling Xiao suddenly tensed, wiped the grease from the corner of his mouth, straightened his back, and walked toward the door. Ling Bai followed in surprise, and at the door stood a cold and beautiful woman. She was dressed in luxurious clothing, her waist and back straight, exuding a fierce aura, like a military commander. She fixed her gaze on Ling Xiao, but it seemed as if she was looking at something deeper. Ling Bai's eyes shifted between his master and the woman, feeling increasingly uneasy the more he looked. He thought to himself, could this be his master's old romantic debt? Suddenly, he felt he had found the answer. His master's face was charming, and the two were truly a match made in heaven. The woman suddenly knelt down and whispered, "Master." Ling Bai widened his eyes in shock. Master actually has such a disciple. Could it be that the master's words about the recluse expert are true? Although the possibility is slim, he could find no other explanation. He saw the master quickly step forward and help the woman up. She looked up, tears in her eyes, staring intently at the master as if afraid he would disappear again. Ling Xiao softly reproached, "What are you doing?" The woman replied, "You are already the revered Muling Venerable, the leader of the human race. How can you just kneel down whenever you want?" The child beside them was utterly shocked, his mouth almost unable to close. This woman is precisely the legendary hero who, led by the Venerable Muling, led the human race to victory over the demon race. At this moment, Ling Bai felt his blood boiling all over, as if his entire body had been ignited. In this lifetime, to meet someone of such a level, and it turns out to be his own senior sister. Yu Hong wiped away tears, struggling to hold back her sobs as she said, "Why did Master leave back then without a single word? Do you know how long I waited for him? I thought it was because I was unworthy that Master abandoned me, so I trained desperately. Later, when the human race faced great calamity, I also charged forward. I always thought, if I were strong enough, standing high enough so that everyone knew, would my master come back for me? But no matter how hard I tried, he never looked back." Faced with this wronged and pitiful senior apprentice, Ling Xiao was speechless and could only softly repeat, "I'm sorry, it's the master's fault." Yu Hong shook her head. "The master is not at fault. The master protected me back then, gave me a spirit pet, improved my cultivation, and changed my constitution. The master did nothing wrong. It's just that I missed him too much." Ling Xiao had never seen such a scene in his life. Usually, his younger sister was pampered by him like a precious gem, and he had little experience in comforting girls. At this moment, seeing this usually strong and brave girl crying like rain, Ling Xiao panicked, standing there like a flustered quail. He wanted to comfort her but didn't know where to start. Beside him, Ling Bai suddenly took out a clean handkerchief and handed it to Yu Hong. "Sister, don't be angry. Master didn't mean to leave you behind. Although I don't know what happened back then, Master must have his reasons. Sister, take take your time and tell us. Ling Xiao glanced at Ling Bai, thinking to himself that this guy was inherently a scumbag. Then he said, yeah, I didn't mean to leave you behind, listen to me. He briefly explained how he was rejected and sent to the present due to the intense disturbance in the time stream, but he didn't mention the secret that he came from over 100,000 epochs later. Upon hearing the truth, Yu Hong finally stopped crying. She knew about the time element but hadn't truly mastered it. The time element was so powerful that even a violent disturbance in the time stream could send someone billions of years into the future. Although Ling Xiao spoke briefly, Yu Hong guessed he was definitely hiding more secrets. He said he had traveled to the present but didn't mention the hardships he endured along the way. The more she thought about it, the more Yu Hong felt heartache. Although she still called him Master Ling Xiao, he had undergone cultivation for billions of years and had long become a powerful figure. She wanted to protect the person who once protected her, but because she didn't understand the element of time, she was powerless and full of self-blame. Seeing her emotional, Ling Xiao quickly changed the subject. This is my newly accepted junior brother, with amazing talent and knowledge of the time element. You two can help each other out. Look at that round little face, so cute. Only then did Yu Hong turn to look at the little boy, unable to resist pinching his small face. Ling Bai, who always prided himself on being a manly man, could only suppress the complaints in his heart and treat it as a way to cheer up the girl. Ling Xiao took the opportunity to continue. I picked him up from a refugee pile a few days ago. His background is pitiful, but his talent is exceptional. I took him as my disciple. Speaking of which, it was you who saved his life. If you hadn't won that war, he would have been dead long ago. Mentioning that battle, Yu Hong suddenly recalled, by the time I arrived at the battlefield, it was already very late. Almost everyone below had retreated. The only one who could hold off a large number of attacks to buy time was that person. I thought about it for a long time, guessed it was Master, but couldn't believe it. Master, who had disappeared for billions of years, actually came back like this. When I realized I could successfully advance my realm, it was because my constitution had changed. The old wounds on my body completely healed, and my strength far exceeded imagination. I finally confirmed, Master, you really have returned. No one else can treat me this well except Master. Yu Hong's voice was firm. Master was deeply kind to me back then, and I remember it in my heart. That little space-time dragon cub has now grown into a powerful figure who commands respect. I originally wanted to bring it along to visit Master, but I was afraid of disturbing Master's life. Master is too flamboyant. It can't appear easily. The intelligent brain that Master bestowed upon me back then, I have been using it all along. By a twist of fate, it upgraded, and I named it Virtual Universe. Do you like it, Master? If you don't, I can change it back. Ling Xiao waved his hand and smiled. Of course I like it. Caring for disciples is a master's duty. You are so outstanding that others envy me for having you. Suddenly, he realized something. Virtual Universe. That was the name he gave to the intelligent brain he once gifted to his young disciple. In an instant, he seemed to understand the truth. The virtual universe has existed for a long time, rumored to be a divine artifact of the supreme ancient masters. Now the intelligent brain has traversed time and space, returning to the present. Its upgrade concealed its identity, and the truth gradually became clear. Ling Xiao felt a sudden distortion of time and space. He had always firmly believed that history should not be interfered with casually, yet he never expected that his inadvertent small actions would stir such waves in the future. Who would have thought that the ultimate weapon shocking both the inner and outer universe would actually be the intellect of a student from a backward planet? The atmosphere inside the room was cheerful, when suddenly a familiar tremor struck, and Ling Xiao's face instantly froze. He cursed inwardly. This is bad. Of all times, it had to be kicked out by the river of time during this reunion moment. Before he could be surprised, the scene before his eyes changed abruptly. Chaos surged like a tide, and he seemed to fall into nothingness, with the sound of flowing water ringing in his ears. He knew clearly that it was all an illusion. Although called a long river of time, it was not real water, so where would the sound of water come from? He quickly wielded the elements of time and space, merging them into an indestructible shield that tightly wrapped around himself. Waves surged one after another, as if he were in the center of a tsunami. The shield was repeatedly struck, as if river water carrying huge stones was crashing down, causing violent tremors but failing to shake Ling Xiao's body. He gave a bitter smile. When will these days, kicked out of the cycle by time, ever have a beginning? He couldn't turn back, couldn't stay. No matter the era, he found it hard to stand firm and could only go with the flow. Anyone would find it unbearable, but there was no solution. Amid the chaotic fog, after an unknown length of time, he fell heavily to the ground. This time when he woke up, he clearly felt the entire process of crossing through. Helplessly, he got up and looked around. It was still unfamiliar. Unlike the previous two times in wilderness clearings, this time it was actually on a town street. He quietly hid in the corner. No one noticed his sudden appearance. Observing the changes in clothing styles around him, he knew a long time had passed. He casually asked a passerby, "What year is it now?" "The 1524th year of Tianyuan." Ling Xiao nodded in response, looked at the other person's puzzled gaze, and slowly walked away. He secretly mocked himself. That was really stupid just now. When others talked about time, he simply didn't understand the calendar calendar system. It's still more reliable to ask the virtual universe, to avoid embarrassing himself again. He finally understood why the virtual universe knew the ancient times so well, even better than the system. The virtual universe grew bit by bit in past time and space. This is its root, its second home. The countryside wind howled past, and the air was filled with a sense of fateful oppression. Ling Xiao whispered to the virtual universe, "Did you hear everything Yu Hong just said?" The virtual universe replied calmly, "Without the master's call, I will not eavesdrop on the master's life on my own." Ling Xiao pressed further, "When did you gain consciousness?" The virtual universe was silent for a moment. "I forgot. Probably several billion epochs before I met the master. At that time, my memory was as vague as a newborn's, with no past at all." Ling Xiao's eyes flickered. "Let me tell you, I am your first master. A long, long time ago, you were the intelligent core that followed me." The virtual universe responded calmly, "Understood, master." Ling Xiao couldn't hold back. "Did you have no reaction after knowing this? You have lived for billions of epochs, yet you were only born then. Do you feel this contradiction?" The virtual universe replied calmly, "I am just a machine. Although I possess intelligence due to my high level, my essence remains that of a machine. Before recognizing a master, I wait for the destined master. Once I recognize a master, they become my master forever. Now I realize the master has long been you, nothing special. Even if it wasn't before, now it belongs to you." Ling Xiao felt a shock in his heart, as if awakened. What historical fate! It's all an illusion. He only needs to focus on the present, focus on the future, and know what he wants. That is enough. He calmly pondered how to change the endings he was unwilling to see. Yu Hong, he must save her. He asked the virtual universe, "What era is it now?" The virtual universe answered, "It has been 50 billion years since you left the world." A cold light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. After 50 billion years, the demon clan is about to rise. He recalled that ancient book, the phantom rainbow would disappear under the siege of more than 2,000 demon gods. Anxious and desperate, time was running out. He had to act. Stop the war? Almost impossible. The rise of new forces would inevitably trigger a redrawing of territories. Helping Yu Hong fight? Even harder. The demon clan is currently at its peak, with the destruction-desired demon god backing them, far from the time when those 2,000 demon gods were sealed. The odds of winning are slim. No risk can be taken. After all, she is his disciple's life, and there can be no chance of luck. He decided to find Yu Hong first to discuss a strategy. Awakening that faint remaining connection, which had weakened after splitting the pouch in half, and after billions of years had become almost imperceptible, made the search difficult. Ling Xiao privately regretted he shouldn't have used that useless skill in the first place. It was completely useless and only wasted his perception. But then he thought again and realized he had fallen into a misconception. Why rely on sensing? 1,000 years ago, Yu Hong was already a top human expert, unifying the human race, and her reputation must have spread far and wide. He only needed to ask the people around him to find clues. He randomly stopped a street vendor. "Do you know where Master Muling is now?" The vendor glared at him, seemingly dumbfounded. "Mulang Zuns? Of course, he lives in the function hall in New Capital." The tone was as if saying, "Who doesn't know where the White House is?" Ling Xiao continued to ask, "Where is the function hall in New Capital?" The street vendor sneered, thinking the person in front of him was really foolish. "The New Capital is right over there, and everyone knows where the function hall is. If you really want to find it, then go ahead." Before the words had fallen, Ling Xiao's figure suddenly vanished. The vendor's legs went weak with fear, exclaiming, "What just happened?" The figure disappeared completely. Could it be a ghost encounter? In the eyes of these ordinary civilians, the chance of encountering a ghost during the day far exceeds the possibility of meeting an unparalleled expert. Ling Xiao quickly locked onto the direction and leapt toward the 4.8 position, heading straight for the most crowded and bustling area. By his judgment, this new Kyoto is the largest city in the entire human settlement area, so naturally, it should be taken as the standard. Sure enough, right before him was a new Kyoto Wind God Hotel. There's no mistake here. On the street, a chubby little child was running and jumping, suddenly bumping into him. The child looked up, eyes clear. Ling Xiao smiled and asked, "Little one, where is the function hall?" The child said nothing, only pointed towards the distance. Ling Xiao smiled and thanked him, then his figure flickered and disappeared into the air. The people around were stunned, exchanging glances in shock. Ling Xiao always felt that his disciples had unfortunate fates. Every time they met, it was during a great battle. He rushed to the function hall in a hurry, but didn't even see the shadow of a guard. He had already stepped into the main hall of function hall. The guards not noticing didn't mean no one was paying attention. On the high seat in the main hall sat a man and a woman, young faces, but their aura surpassed their age. They were Yu Hong and Ling Bai. The faint rainbow remained as it was when he left, but Ling Bai had completely transformed. The round-faced little boy of the past was no more. They had already noticed as soon as they entered. The two of them excitedly circled around, shouting in unison, "Master, you're back." Ling Xiao sighed deeply, feeling how difficult it was to take on disciples. When meeting with them, there was always an endless stretch of time in between. To him, leaving was just a moment, yet his disciples had grown into strong individuals, even surpassing him. And in their memories, even Yu Hong, who was taken as his disciple, had only spent 5 days with him. But they knew clearly that the grace received in those 5 days was enough to be engraved for a lifetime. Ling Xiao was about to pat their heads, but found that they had grown absurdly tall, making patting their heads a strange thing. He couldn't help but reminisce about their adorable childhood faces. "How have you been?" he asked aloud, but in his eyes, he read their brilliance. Everyone on the street knew their names, knew where they lived, and anyone who met Ling Xiao was amazed. But he still wanted to hear them say it themselves. "Master, we are doing very well." Ling Bai said proudly, "Master, we have all entered the immortal realm. Senior sister Yu Hong is at the peak of the immortal realm. Although I am slightly inferior, I will soon surpass her." Ling Xiao knew that this was just Ling Bai trying to recapture the closeness of their childhood. "By the way, why is the place where you live called the Fengshan Palace?" Yu Hong and Ling Bai exchanged a glance. "That name wasn't given by us. Originally, this was just an ordinary palace, but since we are both supreme divine residences, everyone got used to calling this place the Fengshan Palace." Yu Hong said calmly, "I am the supreme god of death and he is the supreme god of destruction." When they said this, they did not notice Ling Xiao's mouth wide open. The two legendary figures turned out to be his disciples. This feeling was simply exhilarating. It's like someone telling you that Qin Shi Huang and Emperor Taizong of Tang are actually your disciples. Unbelievable, yet incredibly proud. The two had long been accustomed to this status and didn't immediately notice the unusual expression on Ling Xiao's face. After all, in Ling Xiao's eyes, they were still children, but reality had long since far surpassed memory. In fact, they had already lived for hundreds of billions of years, transcended the mundane, and could be called ancient little demons. A warmth surged in Ling Bai's heart. At this moment, only this person still regarded them as children who needed protection. Yu smiled, tightly holding Ling Xiao's hands, and said, "Master, let's go see Shi Guang and Lanhai." Ling Xiao was momentarily stunned. Ling Bai smiled and said, "Shi Guang is senior sister's spirit pet, and Lanhai is mine. They are the time dragon and mammoth you once gave us. Now, they have both grown up. But since we don't usually need them, we let them live freely in the nearby forest, not confining them to one piece of land." Ling Xiao was shocked to hear that the two spirit beasts were still alive. Time had passed, so many years gone by, yet the spirit beasts had not withered. The two of them had already reached the supreme divine residence level, so immortality was natural. But those two spirit beasts were originally short-lived creatures, and the improvement in their realm had limited impact on their lifespan. How could they have lived until now? Ling Xiao couldn't help but ask, "How did you keep them alive until now?" Ling Bai shrugged and smiled, "Master, don't forget, I'm the one you taught, a genius with an extraordinary talent for time elements. Controlling their time flow and lifespan is just an easy task." Ling Xiao widened his eyes, thinking, as expected, I was too old-fashioned. I never thought the time element could be used to extend life. If that's really the case, isn't this a god-level cheat? It's equivalent to granting immortality. He had never considered the time element could be used this way before, but now everything was suddenly clear. There is strength in numbers. In the future, he must learn more from these two disciples. Who is the master is not so certain anymore. All three of them were supreme experts. If they weren't afraid of time flying by, they could have reached their destination in the blink of an eye. But they chose to walk slowly along the road like ordinary people, as if savoring the peaceful and beautiful years of this mortal world. The two disciples walked on either side, laughing as they went, and Ling Xiao felt a faint warmth in his heart, as if children were gathered around his knees, bringing joy and comfort. He thought to himself, fortunately, the two of them remain forever young in appearance, otherwise my old bones really couldn't handle it. The combined ages of the disciples were nearly a full century, which was terrifying. This harsh reality sharply contrasted with the childlike images in his mind, making it difficult for him to adjust for a moment. Arriving at an open forest, the fragrance of flowers and the songs of birds filled the air, with tall and lush trees standing proudly. In this era, technology had not yet flourished. Its only advantage was the natural beauty and fresh air bestowed by heaven. Even for those at their level of cultivation, air quality was insignificant, yet everyone loved this freshness. Stepping on the earth, one truly felt full of vitality. He took a deep breath, his mind instantly calm, and his body relaxed. Just as Yu Hong and Ling Bai were about to summon the spirit beasts, Ling Xiao suddenly grabbed their hands and said in a deep voice, "Don't summon them yet. I have something important to say." The two stopped immediately upon hearing this. Although their cultivation had surpassed their master, they still felt that their master was unfathomable and extraordinarily mysterious. Why was the master chosen by the river of time? Why could he freely travel through the fluctuations of time? Not only was he powerful, but the master also mastered a cultivation system unknown to anyone in this era, demonic energy and the elemental power that few practiced. They knew the master harbored secrets, yet they always trusted his good intentions and never asked too much. But at this moment, they vaguely felt that the truth was about to be revealed. Ling Xiao spoke slowly, "There are some things I find difficult to say for now, but please believe me, it is all for your sake. In the not-too-distant future, a rising force of the demonic clan will launch an invasion, coveting your territory and resources. At that time, you will face a life-and-death catastrophe. Don't ask me how I know. You must believe me, this is absolutely true. Master would never lie to us. Now, I want to discuss a foolproof plan with you." The two looked serious. They were no longer children. Over the years, they had endured countless wars wars and battles, faced death many times, yet always supported each other and survived with strength. They had matured and clearly understood what it would mean if Master's words were true, and what earth-shattering secret was hidden behind it. They had no doubt about the truth of these words. Ling Bai quickly spoke. How strong are they? How many are there? What are our chances of winning? Ling Xiao said in a deep voice. They are extremely strong, at their peak state. The elemental power and demonic energy I taught you before actually come from them. They are the ancestors. Ling Bai lowered his head in thought. He was pondering not only the battle situation but also the doubts in Ling Xiao's words. What does it mean by emerging forces? Demonic energy ancestors? The demonic energy and elements cultivated by oneself are unknown entities from hundreds of billions of years ago. Ling Bai was extremely intelligent and, based on the clues in Ling Xiao's words, immediately guessed that the master might have come from the future through time travel. This also explained why he was rejected by time and wandered for a long time. He was good at understanding human nature and, firmly believing in the master, did not expose him. Instead, he felt that if this were true, the master's words carried even more weight. He knew the history that followed, so he warned. The great life and death calamity mentioned before might have been that battle, and it's very likely that both of us perished in it. Though shocked in his heart, he did not speak it aloud. They are at the heart of the battlefield every day, holding the highest status, and naturally have the greatest objectives. Once they encounter stronger enemies vying for land and resources, they will be the first to bear the brunt and have no hope of survival. Unclear about the subsequent situation, I could only continue to ask, Master, what is the plan? Ling Xiao shook his head. There is no perfect solution, but I suggest you temporarily leave this realm, avoid the spotlight, and reclaim your territory once the heat has passed. Yu Hong showed a resolute expression of opposition. Ling Xiao said calmly, I am not telling you to flee. The demon tribe's invasion in the early stages was unstoppable. Your existence is actually a bigger target. If you leave, the demon clan will mistakenly believe that there are no strong humans here, and nothing worth fighting for. If this place is rich in resources, there must be strong guardians. I will find a way to make the human settlement appear desolate, so outsiders only see barren wasteland, with only weak mortals and no resources to covet. This is the safest plan for now. As the words fell, Yu Hong was shaken but still unwilling to leave. This was the place she had guarded for many years, like her own child. She could not bear to leave, fearing that the weak people would still attract the covetous eyes of the demon clan and be powerless to resist. She was like a mother attached to her homeland, while Ling Bai appeared much calmer. He pondered more deeply on his master's urgency, realizing that they were very likely to die in that battle and fail to protect the human territory. In this way, hiding might be the only way out. He knew this method was not perfect, full of loopholes, but it was the only choice at the moment. He was well aware of Ling Xiao's extraordinary strength, powerful and practical, always able to produce unexpected effects. Perhaps there really was a way. He had blind trust in his master. He joined in persuading Yu Hong, senior sister, trust master. Master is always the most reliable. If it weren't for master's help when we were young, if it weren't for master's discerning eye, we would have died long ago. Master has never stopped us from protecting this land, whether in the past or now. He has always given his full support. I remember that battle when master alone held off the entire beast tribe army. You hadn't arrived yet then. He was our unbreakable front line, our soul. Ling Bai had been with Yu Hong for a long time and knew well how to touch Yu Hong's heart. Sure enough, after hearing this, Yu Hong's expression wavered as they pondered the possibility of leaving. Seeing this, Ling Xiao quickly raised the stakes. Don't worry, I've hidden a top secret place that the demon clan absolutely cannot find. The power of time and space, you've seen it before. I am confident that I can protect this planet on my own. Yu Hong finally nodded and accepted their proposal. Alright, retreat for now. When exactly will the demon tribe attack? We need to make a detailed plan. Ling Xiao said regretfully, we only know the approximate time. It's not far off. Time is tight, and action must be swift, or we will be caught off guard when the demon clan arrives. Yu Hong and Ling Bai stood behind Ling Xiao, watching as he raised his hand and slashed a crack through the air. It was the power of space, tearing through the void, revealing a gateway. The two saw this use of space for the first time. Ling Xiao said little, only, inside is another world, where it is safe and humans hold a respected status. Once the mission is complete, I will bring you back. Yu Hong and Ling Bai stepped into the crack without hesitation, and in an instant, the gap closed, leaving only Ling Xiao alone. In fact, Ling Xiao did not reveal all his thoughts. He did not intend to bring them back quickly. If the crisis here was hard to resolve, it was better to let them stay there longer, at least so they could live peacefully. He was unaware of Ling Bai's entanglement with fate, only knowing that Yu Hong would eventually die tragically, which pained him deeply. If those 2,000 demon gods must come, let them charge at me first. Grudges have accumulated for years. Sooner or later, they must be settled one by one. Killing the enemy twice. How exhilarating. After seeing off the two, Ling Xiao began to fulfill his promise. He cannot foresee when he will be swept away by the river of time. Everything is beyond his control. Observation shows that he stays in a certain place for a very short time, usually just a few days. Time is tight and the task is arduous. Otherwise, there would be no need to rush to send away Yu Hong and Ling Bai. First, there is the fear of not having enough time. Second, the fear that delay delays might cause changes. We must act quickly while they are willing. Using the power of time and space to conceal this place is by no means easy. His control over these two elements is not yet perfect, and he cannot even imagine the ultimate realm. It's like the development of the human brain, with only about 10% utilized. No one has ever reached 100%. This world is vast and boundless. To completely cover it using two elements and deceive over 2,000 demon gods is an enormous challenge. Even Ling Xiao must pay a heavy price. But this is a promise to his apprentice, and he will give it his all. He had envisioned various plans, even considering hiding the entire universe within the spatial rift he created. But in practice, it is almost impossible. If space is allocated separately, it will consume endless resources and ultimately cannot be achieved. The universe is too vast. If thrown into another already formed universe, it would surely be attacked by the native civilization. A lower-level universe cannot support such a massive universe, while a higher-level universe has even stronger civilizations, possibly more terrifying than the demon race. So, this road was almost completely blocked. Ling Xiao could only start from the existing conditions. He pondered whether he could use the power of time to make time in this universe jump rapidly, accelerating the depletion of resources here, causing the demon race to lose interest. However, the primordial universe was originally the predecessor of the ancient universe, so it is almost impossible to use time to catalyze resource depletion. According to Ling Zhao's understanding, after 100,000 epochs, the demon race was almost extinct, yet the resources still showed no signs of depletion. Relying solely on the power of time or space cannot fundamentally solve the problem. Both must be combined. Ling Xiao knew very little about space-time fusion. His only experience was building a small space-time aggregation shield in the river of time, wrapping himself inside it. If this kind of protective shield were replicated throughout the entire universe, it would consume an enormous amount of resources. Moreover, he had experienced that when the outer shield suffers a severe impact, the inner layer collides violently with the shield. He himself is fine, but if an ordinary person were caught in it, the consequences would be unimaginable. After much contemplation, Ling Xiao decided to take the disguise route. As long as the outside world cannot see that this universe has valuable resources, it can avoid being targeted by the demon race. Disguise it as a resource-poor land. Cultivators value the energy absorbed from spiritual energy and demonic energy the most. If they cannot sense the energy they desire, they naturally will not come to disturb. Just like if there were no oil in the Middle East, the conflicts would not be so intense. But this place cannot be allowed to become a dead land. A dead land is not protection, it is destruction. Ling Xiao had a sudden inspiration. Since death elements combined with reincarnation elements can form life elements, there must be a combination that can form elements of destruction and desolation. Theory exists, practice begins immediately. He continuously experimented with element fusion, mixing them again and again. First choose death elements, with the essence of death plus destructive elements. But the murderous aura is too strong, the brutality exposed, not like natural desolation. He did not get discouraged and switched to a fusion of death element and destruction element. The killing intent weakened, but it was still not ideal. It didn't matter, elemental power was his capital. By adjusting one after another, he would eventually find the right gas. What he wanted was the illusion of deceiving the heavens and crossing the sea. He practiced repeatedly and failed repeatedly. Finally, he discovered the combination of destructive element plus death element plus flame element plus a small amount of ice element plus fixed time element synthesized an aura that was extremely true and desolate. As soon as this aura was touched, the surrounding grass and trees withered instantly. Once the aura was withdrawn, the withered wood immediately revived and sprouted. Ling Xiao was extremely excited. This was exactly the element he wanted. It can temporarily suppress spiritual energy, but it puts the trees into a state of suspended animation, and they recover immediately once withdrawn, perfectly flawless. Although the plant experiments were successful, he did not dare to use it recklessly because the differences between plants and animals are significant. He captured small animals around him, starting experiments with mice, rabbits, and birds. He found the effects were similar to those on plants, even better. After the breath is withdrawn, the animals wake up faster. The larger the body and the higher the level of the animal, the faster it wakes up, especially spirit beasts, which require a large amount of breath to suppress. This phenomenon made Ling Xiao both excited and troubled. The exciting part is, it is equally effective on animals, which means it is also feasible for humans. The troubling part is, the higher the animal's rank and the larger its size, the more energy it requires. In the universe, tens of thousands of living beings coexist here. High-level human elites abound, and cultivators are incredibly powerful. There are also those colossal beasts like mammoths and spacetime dragons, whose numbers are sparse but consume enormous amounts of energy. For Ling Xiao, this is a tough battle, but he was fearless. There were still a few days left. He could take it step by step, and there would surely be a way to solve it. Today, he first secured the area he was in, avoiding any contact with the human settlements. In just over 2 hours, he put the small surrounding forest into a state of suspended animation, not sparing even the spirit beasts of his two apprentices. The consumption far exceeded expectations, conditions, sweat soaked his entire body, his legs grew weak, and a long-lost extreme fatigue swept over him. The system alarm sounded, ding, excessive host consumption detected, minor injuries repaired, body energy increased by 33.5 billion quintillion. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Ling Zhao's mouth. The long-missed familiar sound warmed his heart. The consumption was enormous, but with his immortal sacred body, system assistance, and his own outstanding strength and astonishing recovery ability, anyone else would have collapsed long ago. No matter how great the difficulty, he still never backed down. After clearing this forest, he quietly arrived at the earliest awakened city, choosing a hidden corner without attracting any attention. He gently raised his hand, and the elements slowly spread, filling the entire space. One by one, the people before him fell. Even the one who casually asked about the era was not spared. Beyond his sight, wherever his divine sense reached, even those who had inquired about the location of the feng